Staring at the campus queen who still had yogurt dripping from the corner of her mouth, I straightforwardly pinned her against the desk, and subsequently taught her how to play a game of billiards, metaphorically speaking, of course. All because this was the glorious third day of the zombie apocalypse. An unknown virus had just exploded globally, instantly turning the vast majority of the population into infected freaks. Maybe it was just my dumb luck, or perhaps it was the perk of being an orphan since childhood, but I somehow didn't get infected, and it just so happened I was chilling in my dorm room. But the bad news was, there were absolutely zero supplies in the dorm. At this point, I had been starving for 3 whole days. Moreover, the zombie welcoming committee outside had grown larger. As an average guy who gets winded just walking up the stairs, I'd probably become a zombie's chew toy the moment I stepped out the door. I always held on to the philosophy of, if I survive, cool, if I don't, guess I'll just die. After all, I've been a solo player orphan since day one. No family, no friends, zero emotional attachments dragging me down. My life wasn't exactly a bed of roses anyway. I worked my butt off my entire life, just to get into this university famous for its top-tier beauties. The result? 3 years in, and my girlfriend count was still sitting at a solid 0. I even got into a beef with a rich snobby girl, and from then on I was mocked by all the wealthy heirs and little cliques in the school. You could say my life was tragically miserable, but what could I do? I was just a regular NPC. Against these rich kids with power and influence, who all banded together to be professional simps for women, I could only try my best to lay low and avoid the aggro. So, whenever I thought about the apocalypse breaking out, and how those folks who targeted me everywhere would now end up in miserably tragic situations, I suddenly didn't hate the end of the world that much anymore. It was just a pity I couldn't dish out the karma personally, couldn't step on those arrogant faces myself. Truly a major regret in my life. Just as I was drowning in my own regret, a mechanical system voice suddenly rang out in my head. Host, Caspian identity, human skills, none partners, 0 to guarantee your survival. Now distributing the newbie starter pack item, fire poker item, enhancement potion innate skill. Hypnotism can be unconditionally applied to partners. System usage guide. Every time a partner is added, you will receive a random reward of corresponding quality based on the target's rating. Completing a daily check-in with a partner grants an extra bonus reward. When a glowing holographic panel popped up out of thin air, I finally snapped out of my sluggish daze. My regrets instantly transformed into uncontrollable, ecstatic joy. It's a system. My years of being a certified orphan haven't been in vain. As someone who did nothing but surf the internet and sleep, the concept of a system was as familiar to me as breathing. But when I looked closely at the system's introduction, I couldn't help but freeze for a few seconds. Partners? Daily check-in? Aren't other people's systems all about leveling up and slaying monsters for loot? Why does my system not only give hypnotism in the starter pack, but the way to earn rewards is so spicy? And this daily check-in, how exactly does one check in? Holding on to an eager-to-learn attitude, I was just about to ask the system for a video tutorial. But right at that moment, a knocking sound suddenly echoed from outside the door. I frowned, stood up, and looked through the peephole. Standing at the doorway was a girl with porcelain-white skin, radiating an aura of expensive elegance. But right now that pretty face of hers was completely painted with pure terror. I recognized her identity at a single glance. The campus queen, Seraphina. This was a spoiled, arrogant, rich princess. Her family was loaded with money and power. She had the highest fame among this year's campus beauties, and arguably the most simps chasing after her. But this woman, who others would kill just to look at, I didn't want to spare even a single glance. Because Serafina was exactly the person I had that beef with. The reason my campus life turned into a survival horror game was all because of her. Just because we shared a few classes in the same room. Unfortunately, Serafina had way too many pursuers. A lot of guys in that room were drooling over her. And Serafina, purely to avoid being bothered by them, simply decided to sit right next to me, instantly turning me, an invisible background character, into public enemy number 1. Of course, that alone wouldn't have brought me so much hostility. The real reason I got targeted by so many people was because when Serafina was gossiping with her bestie, the bestie casually asked if Serafina liked me. The moment Serafina heard that, she completely ignored the fact that I was still in the room and absolutely trashed me from head to toe. I just got a little annoyed and argued back with a few sentences of logic. Next thing I know, I got slapped with the labels of bullying Serafina, having corrupt morals, and being petty enough to argue with a woman. In a flash, those who knew the truth, and those who were just blind simps, all came running to make my life miserable. Weird. Why is she here? I was a bit puzzled. The bottom 3 floors of this dorm building are for guys. The top 3 floors are for girls. These past few days there were quite a few survivors, who due to a lack of supplies, were forced to come out looking for food and water. My door had been knocked on a few times too, but I never expected Serafina to show up here. Shouldn't she be living off campus in a mansion or something? Before I could overthink it, outside the door, Serafina saw no one answering and was just about to leave. Serafina's face instantly turned as pale as a ghost. Giving her 0 time to react, the zombie roared and lunged right at her. Just when Serafina thought she was going to be chewed to death, I violently yanked the door open, grabbed her with one hand, and dragged her inside. After deadbolting the door, I literally tossed Serafina to the side like a sack of potatoes. My rough handling made Serafina grit her teeth in pain. "Caspian, why is it you?" Snapping back to reality, Serafina looked up and recognized me. A flash of guilt couldn't help but cross her eyes. I looked Serafina up and down, feeling pretty speechless. "This is my dorm room. You knocked on my door. If it isn't me, who else would it be?" Serafina choked on her words, an expression of embarrassment and anger instantly hanging on her face. If this were the past, the moment her army of pursuers and her overprotective family members would definitely find 100 different ways to torture the person who made her mad. But times have changed, sweetie. I chuckled, not caring in the slightest, and cast a highly aggressive, predatory gaze over her. I have to admit, Serafina was indeed stunning. That delicate, beautiful face, paired with youthful innocence, gave off a vibe that was both seductive and pure. Her perfectly proportioned, tempting figure was even more flawless. Looking at her biting her silver teeth, anyone else might actually think they were the one who made a mistake. But it's a huge pity the person standing in front of her right now was me. "Serafina, I recall I was the one who just saved your life, right? Up until now, I haven't even heard a single thank you. Your attitude seems pretty trashy." Saying that, I took 2 steps toward her, looking down at Serafina, who was a full head shorter than. My eyes unconsciously toggled my auto-aim feature. I might hate her, but I'm still gonna look at the goods. I just forgot. I'll say it right now, okay? Is your life only worth a single thank you? Of course not. What do you want? I can give you money. If you want something else, that's fine too. As long as I have it, I can give it to you. As long as you have it, you can give it to me, right? Getting Serafina's affirmative answer, I replied as naturally as breathing. "Then, I want you." The moment those words dropped, Serafina froze for a second. A blush of crimson dyed her cheeks. "Are you kidding me, Caspian? Even if you saved me, I don't appreciate this kind of joke. It's not funny at all. Did I ever say this was a joke?" Seeing Serafina getting so angry, I didn't bother spouting any more nonsense. "Since I saved you, either you listen to my orders, or I toss you back out to feed the zombies. 2 roads, pick one yourself." Seeing that I didn't look like I was joking at all, Serafina timidly backed away 2 steps, until her back was pressed flat against the cold wall. A chill ran through her entire body. "Even if you threaten me like this, you what?" I looked at her, with an evil smirk. "I can only reluctantly agree to date you, but I won't do anything else with you." At this moment, Serafina looked 100% unwilling, but she also realized she was completely isolated and helpless. She was utterly powerless to resist. So, for the first time in her life, she admitted defeat. Suddenly, the system's voice chimed in. "Partner 1. Serafina rating, reward, healing spell effect. Eliminates all negative statuses upon use, restoring the body to its peak condition." The very moment Serafina admitted, "So a verbal agreement is all it takes? Well, that saves me a ton of hassle." I delightfully checked my system panel. The partner section now had Serafina's info added. Age, 20 status, starving daily check-in incomplete. There were only 3 lines of info in total. There was also one thing that didn't explain what it meant. It just had a big fat 0 next to it. However, I didn't pay too much attention to that. At this moment, I was already appreciating Serafina's body that countless men drooled over. Didn't I say I wouldn't do anything else? Don't look at me like that. Serafina timidly shrank her body, hugging herself tightly with both arms. One look and you could tell she still harbored some unrealistic fantasy. However, in the very next second on Serafina's pretty face, a bright red handprint appeared out of nowhere. I pulled my hand back and sneered. "I don't know what kind of childish thoughts you're still clinging to, but starting from right now, what you think doesn't matter anymore." I opened the system directly. On Serafina's info panel, I typed a command into the status bar. It read, "Obey my commands." I didn't choose to fully hypnotize her, making Serafina lose her sense of self. That would just turn her into a boring puppet I could control at will. That would be letting Serafina off way too easy. Plus, it might cost me my rewards. "Caspian, you dare hit me!" At this moment, Serafina snapped out of her shock. She had always been a grand princess who did whatever she wanted without consequences, unable to suffer even the slightest grievance. After my slap landed, feeling immensely humiliated, Serafina instantly exploded like an angry cat. She raised her hand, aiming to slap me right back in the face. "Stop," I spoke faintly. Hearing this, Serafina almost laughed out of sheer anger. "You tell me to stop and I'll just stop?" But what she absolutely didn't expect in the next second was, her body suddenly stopped listening to her own brain. She froze completely in place. "What did you do to me?" Serafina desperately tried to regain control of her body, but right now, this body felt like it belonged to someone else. It completely ignored her commands. Seeing Serafina glaring at me with eyes that wanted to eat me alive, the corners of my mouth couldn't help but curl up slightly. As soon as I finished speaking, Serafina felt her body grow heavy. Her legs uncontrollably bent until she was kneeling on the floor. That face of hers, always looking down on everyone from high above, showed an expression of utter bewilderment for the first time. "Wait, what the hell is going on? Why can't I control my own body? And why is it actually listening to Caspian's orders?" Serafina couldn't comprehend the situation in front of her at all, while my shadow was currently cast right over Serafina's small face. Serafina, let's play a little game. See that box of rusty nails on the desk? Those are the ones your lovely simps, in order to get revenge for you over the past year, specially placed in my bed. Hearing this, a terrible premonition bloomed in Serafina's heart. She hurriedly began to defend herself. I wasn't the one who told them to do that. Then why didn't you tell them not to do it? I didn't think they would go that far. I didn't do it on purpose. So just because you didn't do it on purpose, I deserve to be tortured by you guys for so long? I'm sorry, I ruthlessly cut off Serafina's apology and grabbed the box of iron nails. Didn't you say you didn't want me doing anything else to you? As long as you eat all of these, I promise I won't do anything to you. How about it? Looking at that box of long, sharp iron nails, Serafina's face instantly went paper white from sheer terror. Choose me, or this box of nails. I don't want the nails. Terrified, Serafina frantically refused. Good. I casually snapped my fingers, canceling Serafina's hypnosis. Serafina, who couldn't move a muscle just a second ago, regained full control of her body once again. Watching her extremely unwilling but defeated expression, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of satisfaction. Partner. Serafina status, light injuries daily check-in, completed reward, enhancement potion afterward. I silently lit a cigarette, checking the 2 enhancement potions in my system inventory. Meanwhile, Serafina buried herself under the blanket, hiding in the corner, sobbing. The enhancement potion's effect was very straightforward. Upon use, it massively boosts physical stats, and the effects can stack. I immediately took out both potions, popped the corks, and downed them in one gulp. Instantly, a scorching heat flowed through my entire body. My slightly weak body from earlier was once again overflowing with explosive power. Physical stats massively increased. Acquired powerful immunity, immune to zombie virus, but you can still catch a cold. All my bodily functions returned to their absolute peak. Furthermore, I also discovered my post-nut clarity cooldown seemed to have been completely refreshed. Reminiscing the sweet taste from just moments ago, I once again approached Serafina's side. A long time later, Serafina stopped sobbing, because she had completely passed out. I then took another glance at the system. The daily check-in only gives 1 reward per day. At this point, I started thinking about serious business, which was how to relocate our base of operations and find supplies, along with finding other girls. Pondering this over, I looked at my phone, opened my message app. Completely empty, not a single red notification dot. So, I picked up Serafina's shorts hanging nearby and dug her phone out of the pocket, but sadly, it was out of battery. I had to plug it into a power bank and boot it up. Then, using Serafina's fingerprint to unlock it, I started scrolling through her WeChat. Completely opposite from mine, Serafina's messages were already sitting at 99+. Among them, a 500-person campus social group had the most messages. Clicking it open, people were still chatting even now. Watching the constant stream of SOS messages in the group, I used Serafina's WeChat to send out a fresh broadcast, instantly becoming the center of attention for everyone. Are there any girls left in the dorm buildings? DM me your location. I'll bring someone to rescue those who are close by first. This message was blasted across various group chats. At first, people thought it was a sick prank, but upon seeing the WeChat name, their eyes lit up. Serafina! Goddess Mukshu, you're still alive? Thank God, it's Goddess Mukshu. We're saved! As the campus queen who was highly active in various social circles, Serafina's appearance ignited hope in countless people. Everyone knew Serafina's family was rich and powerful, so nobody doubted the authenticity of her message. Maybe Serafina's family hadn't been infected and even brought a rescue squad for her, and they were just picking up a few others along the way. Naturally, several group chats absolutely exploded. I'm a girl! I'm in the East Building! Sister Muksho, please come save me quickly. Goddess Muksho, I can castrate myself right now, I beg you! Please send someone to save me. You guys get out of here. Didn't you see Mukshue specifically said girls only? Have you no shame? Shu, it's me, your bestie. Can you come save me first? Right now, I was looking at the flood of friend requests in the background, starting to filter through everyone's locations. There were so many zombies outside. Checking rooms one by one for survivors was way too hard. This method was much more efficient, but soon I realized I had been a bit too optimistic. Although there were a lot of cries for help, more than half of them were dudes. These guys, even after I explicitly stated girls only, still wanted to add me to try their luck. I flat out ignored all these requests. As for the remaining few girls, they were way too far away. Getting to them would be too difficult. With my current abilities, I could clear out the zombies inside a building floor by floor. But if the numbers were too huge and they all swarmed me at once, I really didn't have any solid countermeasures. Just as I was getting a headache over this, a message pop-up pulled me back from my thoughts. It was sent by someone named Alara, by Cici. Sister Mukshu, did your family come to rescue you? Where are you? If it's convenient, could you come to North Building 602 and pick me up? North Building? Isn't that the building I'm in right now? But this name sounded super familiar. Could it be her? I remembered the day I had that conflict with Seraphina again. At the time, Seraphina blew her top because her friend asked if she liked me, and the one who asked that question seemed to be exactly this Alara. I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh, rapidly searching through my brain for Alara's info. She was a girl with a gentle personality, very timid, not many friends, and came from a very average background. Because of that, she got a lot of attention too. When she first got here, quite a few rich kids targeted her, trying to throw money to make her their sugar baby. But unfortunately for them, Alara had one, and only one, friend, and that friend was Serafina. Furthermore, the two of them were super close, hanging out together practically all day, which forced that bunch of rich simps to immediately behave themselves. I recalled what Alara looked like. The very first thing that popped into my head was that her assets were even larger than Serafina's. Immediately, I sent a reply back. Wait for me. I'll be right there. Putting the phone down, I straightforwardly woke Serafina up. The groggy Serafina just woke up, feeling like she had just had a terrible nightmare. Wait, this doesn't seem to be a dream. She opened her eyes and saw me still standing nearby. Serafina quickly and fearfully, get dressed. Follow me upstairs to find Alara. The moment I said that, Serafina's face instantly flashed with unconcealable panic. No, she hasn't offended you. Please don't hurt her. Saying that, Serafina grabbed onto my arm, looking at me with a pleading expression. After my thorough education session just now, Serafina's eyes were completely clear of defiance. She absolutely didn't dare to say anything out of line. Seeing Serafina's current somewhat pitiful look, my mood became extremely delightful. I reached out and ruffled Serafina's hair. Whether I lay my hands on her or not, that depends entirely on your performance. Serafina's body trembled. Seemingly undergoing a long internal struggle, she finally lowered her head, a look of giving up on absolutely everything. Just when she thought I was going to do what I did before, I instead told her to tie her hair up into a bun. What does this mean? Serafina, whose practical knowledge was clearly lacking, completely didn't understand what I was trying to do. A long while later, Serafina finally wiped her tears. Feeling so wronged, she wanted to cry out loud, but because her throat hurt so much, she couldn't even speak. And the moment she opened her mouth, the milk she just drank spilled out. Can we not go find her now? Serafina's voice was laced with sobs. No, I only promised not to hurt her. I never said I wouldn't go find her. I stated as if it were a universal truth. Rested enough? Follow me. I didn't give Serafina any room to choose. Grabbed the fire poker and directly opened the door. This action scared Serafina so much she hastily warned me. There are still zombies outside. Doesn't matter. I will handle it. Serafina really wanted to ask, where do you get your confidence? But remembering the scenario where she couldn't move a muscle, she couldn't help but secretly guess if Caspian knew some sort of telekinesis superpower and used that to control her. After all, a zombie apocalypse just happened. Having superpowers wouldn't be that weird, right? Thinking up to this point, Serafina half-believingly followed right behind me. This dorm building didn't have many people to begin with. Plus, the zombie outbreak happened in the morning, so most people weren't in their dorms. Therefore, the number of zombies was much lower too. The moment we stepped out, 4 zombies that were crouched on the floor tearing into something heard my movements. They instantly snapped their heads up. Serafina was so terrified, she proactively glued herself to my side, while I just unhurriedly waited for the zombies to get close, swung the fire poker, and smashed it right into one zombie's skull, followed immediately by a horizontal sweeping strike. That attack, which required zero technique, forcefully exploded one zombie's head. The other 3 zombies were sent flying backward, their heads smashing into the wall, losing all signs of life. Serafina stared blankly at this scene. Any little rebellious thoughts she had just sprouted in her mind were silently and swiftly snuffed out. The 2 of us continued upstairs. I kept using the same method to clear the hallways. During this time, I knocked on a few doors but got zero response, so we kept heading further up. Serafina also asked me during the climb why I knew Alara was upstairs. The moment she heard I had taken her phone, Serafina instantly got nervous. You looked at my WeChat? Did my family send me any messages? No, I specifically kept an eye out for that too. However, Serafina's family hadn't sent a single new message. It was pretty obvious things didn't look good for them. If you don't believe me, you can look for yourself. Saying that, I handed the phone to Serafina. Once she got it, she immediately scrolled to the chat logs with her family. Looking at the completely empty new messages, Serafina still clung to a shred of hope. Maybe their phones broke. Or maybe they just didn't have a signal, like her. Let's go. My voice pulled her back from her thoughts. After dispatching the last zombie, we finally arrived at room 602. I straightforwardly had Serafina knock on the door. Soon the door was unlocked from the inside. A girl around the same age as Serafina peeked her head out. Seeing Serafina, she exclaimed in pleasant surprise, Sister Mukshu, it really is you. Saying that, Alara opened the door wide to let the 2 of us in. After closing the door and confirming it was safe, Alara excitedly gave Serafina a massive hug. Alara, wait, there's an outsider here. At this moment, Serafina's body, which had just undergone some intense exercise, hurt even more from Alara's tight hug. You could really tell, these 2 were genuinely close. Alara hugged her for a good long while before letting go. Upon seeing me, she finally remembered there was another person in the room. Sorry, may I ask who is he? He is Caspian, my. When Serafina tried to introduce our relationship, She paused, finding it incredibly hard to spit the words out, but looking back and seeing me staring right at her, Serafina ultimately gave up on struggling. He is my boyfriend. After saying that sentence, Serafina felt like all the energy had been drained from her body, while Alara completely froze. Subsequently, an expression of sheer disbelief appeared on that sweet, beautiful face of hers. At this moment, I also stepped forward and directly wrapped my arm around Serafina's waist. The motion appeared incomparably intimate. Sister Mukshue! Looking at Serafina, who wasn't resisting in the slightest, the shock in Alara's heart was beyond words. She knew Serafina was extremely sensitive to physical touch. In daily life, even with girls she was close with, she minded having too much physical contact, let alone with a man. But the scene playing out right in front of her completely shattered everything she thought she knew about Serafina. What shocked her even more wasn't Caspian that guy who got into a fight with Sister Mukshue? The very guy she herself had gossiped about? Sister Mukshue, so you really did like him, huh? You scolded him so viciously last time. I honestly thought you really hated Caspian. Serafina knew Alara had misunderstood something major, but she couldn't explain it. She could only nod bitterly to confirm it. After expressing her shock, Alara wanted to ask something else, but right then, her cheeks flushed slightly red, and she embarrassedly turned her head away. I'm still standing right here. Can't they be a little more mindful? They look like they're about to start kissing. And Sister Mukshue too. Why hasn't she said a single word? I wanted to ask, what should we do now? I also stopped my movements and looked at Alara. Perhaps she didn't have any other clean clothes, but Alara was only wearing a thin, flimsy short-sleeved shirt and a pair of extremely short shorts. Under the illumination of the light, her figure was hazily outlined, putting Alara's most alluring side on full, unadulterated display. Furthermore, unlike Serafina's seductive vibe, even though her figure was technically more developed than Serafina's, she gave off an even more innocent, pure charm, like an honors student with excellent grades since childhood, completely untainted by any bad habits. No wonder so many guys had their eyes on her. If it weren't for Serafina being around, a girl as gentle, cute, and stunningly gorgeous as Alara would have probably been thoroughly educated by society a long time ago. We planned to check out a few other rooms, gather some supplies, and then relocate to a new base. Do you want to join us? I replied casually, while my mind was calculating how to bring Alara under my complete control. Threats are a bottom-tier strategy. That wouldn't give me the thrill of revenge at all. Since I have a power like the system, I naturally have to make Alara fall for me slowly and unknowingly, while simultaneously continuously tormenting Serafina. Okay, do I need to go with you guys right now? Alara asked doubtfully. You just wait here. Just as I finished speaking, I paused slightly. At this moment, the system's notification sound chimed in my ear. Partner 2 Alara Ratings Reward Sharing Effect. You can choose one of your own abilities to share with a partner. System recommends sharing infection immunity. What the heck? This counts as establishing a partner too. I literally just said one casual sentence. I never expected the system's criteria to be this easy. Saves me the brain power, I guess. Since I can use hypnotism, the next steps will be a walk in the park. Glancing at the reward, although it wasn't an item that boosted my combat power, it was still pretty good. I immediately shared infection immunity with her. Hopefully the reward from checking in later will give me something more helpful. Age 20 status, joyful daily check-in, not completed today, scanning her up and down very carefully. Suddenly, a slender hand tugged at the corner of my shirt. Looking down, I saw Serafina wearing a nervous expression. Didn't you promise me you wouldn't hurt her? I'm just looking. All right, follow me out to find some food. Let Alara wait here. Serafina had no objections, and consciously followed right behind me. Sister Mukshue, are you guys leaving right now? Isn't it too dangerous to go out without any preparation? I have an axe in my room. Do you guys want it? Saying that, Alara pointed at the axe by her bed. I'll take it. I raised an eyebrow. Having an axe makes breaking down doors much more convenient. Watching Serafina, who she had just reunited with, follow me out the door just like that, Alara felt super weird inside. She couldn't shake the feeling that ever since Serafina got a boyfriend, her whole personality, if it were the past, Serafina would definitely have dragged her aside to gossip non-stop. However, Alara didn't overthink it. She just sat by the door and started waiting. Her slightly messy thoughts also began to drift, remembering how Caspian seemed to get targeted by so many people, all because of his conflict with Sister Mukshue, and it seemed she was the prime culprit who caused that whole mess. A wave of immense guilt welled up inside her. If only she hadn't asked that stupid question back then. If only, when Caspian was being bullied by others, she had stepped up to defuse the situation. Should she do something to make up for it? In the hallway, looking at the hypnotizing status on Alara's panel, I nodded in profound satisfaction, maxing out Alara's feelings of guilt, making her desperately want to make amends for her mistake, until she reaches a point where no matter what I say, she wouldn't be able to refuse. Serafina, I called out her name coldly. Just now you said I was an outsider, right? No, I didn't mean it like that. Serafina felt a chill run down her spine and hurriedly explained, but I didn't care what she had to say. I casually busted open a door with the axe. Finding no one inside, I grabbed Serafina by the wrist and pulled her onto a desk. Perform well, otherwise I'll have Alara take your place. At this moment, Serafina felt incredibly deceived. She felt like she had been lied to by her own friends. Those girls clearly told her that men were way weaker than women in this regard, and basically had to rest for a long time afterward. But Caspian literally couldn't stop. Serafina couldn't help but feel terrified of the future. She even spawned a fleeting thought. What if I just let Alara join in preaching to help share the burden? No. How could I think something like that? Serafina shook her head furiously, fighting a fierce ideological battle within her own mind. Soon, the 6th floor was completely scavenged, but we didn't find a single survivor. We did, however, find some food and water. 5 loaves of bread, a few instant noodles. This generation of students really sucks at hoarding supplies. While I was munching on some bread, I handed a piece over to Serafina. Serafina hadn't eaten a single thing in 3 days. Seeing the food, her eyes literally lit up. Taking the bread she wouldn't have even glanced at in the past, Serafina started scarfing it down like a starved wolf. After finishing one, she still looked unsatisfied, staring at me with big pitiful eyes. Relax. As long as you're with me, I naturally won't let you starve. If you want to eat more, wait until we get back. Alara is still waiting for you. Saying that, I patted Serafina's head, and Serafina was becoming less and less resistant to this. When we returned to Alara's dorm room, Serafina walked in and saw Alara wearing an incredibly unnatural expression. After handing some food to Alara, Alara ate while constantly stealing glances at Caspian, like she was trying to observe something. Several times she opened her mouth but stopped herself. This girl isn't actually trying to ask Caspian how the two of them ended up dating, right? Alara, what's wrong? You seem to be constantly staring at him. Is something on your mind? Me? Alara embarrassedly rubbed her head. Was I being that obvious? Sister Muksho noticed so quickly. I was just thinking about that time Sister Muksho argued with him. It's all because of my big mouth. If I hadn't asked you, none of that would have happened. Hearing this, Serafina finally breathed a sigh of relief. It's fine. It's all in the past now. Don't overthink it. Eat your food first. Alara nodded. Serafina thought that was the end of it. Little did she know, her words of comfort actually made Alara feel even more indebted about the whole situation. I should still go apologize to Caspian properly later. Experiencing 3 intense battles in one day, Serafina's mind and body were utterly exhausted. After eating her fill, she quickly fell fast asleep on one of the beds. At this time, the clouds on the horizon turned a dusky yellow. As sunset approached, the zombies outside also started becoming more active. These freaks rest during the day and hunt at night. While I was analyzing the zombies' behavioral patterns, I was also plotting tomorrow's course of action. After all, we couldn't stay here forever. Caspian? Right then, a gentle voice sounded from behind me. Alara tiptoed her way over. What's up? I replied with a perfectly normal expression. Do you still remember that incident from before? I've always felt so sorry towards you. Sister Muksho told me not to worry about it, but my heart still feels super uneasy. I really wanted to give you a proper apology. So, can you forgive me? At this moment, Alara's attitude was incredibly sincere. Her head was bowed so low she was practically bowing, but I just let out a cold scoff. If just forgiving you could actually fix anything, I would have forgiven you a long time ago. Hearing me say that, Alara's body tensed up. Her already guilt-ridden emotions birthed an endless wave of deep remorse. I'm sorry, you don't need to apologize. I cut her off before she could finish, instantly making Alara feel like she wanted the floor to swallow her whole. So she was really just thinking a simple apology would make it all go away. I'm such a horrible person. I really messed up. Please, give me a chance to make it up to you. I'll do whatever you ask. I don't want to be hated by the person my sister likes. Right now, Alara felt her brain go completely blank. The overwhelming desire to be forgiven peaked in her mind. She decided in her heart, even if I asked her to run outside and act as zombie bait, she wouldn't utter a single complaint. The corners of my mouth curled up slightly. All right, then I'll give you one chance. Let's see if you can grasp it. Hearing this, Alara's spirit instantly lifted, looking at me with immense gratitude, ready to listen to my demands. Starting from right now, whatever I say you do. Keep this up until tomorrow morning and I will completely forgive you. How does that sound? I have no problem with that. Alara didn't hesitate at all. She straightforwardly agreed to the terms. Very good. I'm feeling a bit cold right now. Come over here and let me hug you for a bit. Oka, wait. Alara was just about to raise her arms when she suddenly froze in place. She doubted if she had misheard me. Did you say you wanted to hug me? Yeah. What's the matter? Receiving an affirmative answer, Alara's face immediately flushed bright red. But you're my sister's boyfriend. How can I do that? Relax. She won't mind. How is that possible? Even if she doesn't mind, we still can't do that. It's wrong. If you're cold, can't you just use a blanket? At this moment, Alara was getting a bit anxious. She hoped I wouldn't push such a request again. The result? My single sentence crushed her resistance entirely. Then don't even dream about me forgiving you. The opportunity was given. You were the one who didn't cherish it. These words struck like a bolt of lightning from a clear sky, directly plunging Alara into a torturous dilemma. How did it turn out like this? She felt like she was falling apart. Her sense of guilt started violently clashing with her bottom line. After a long silence, Alara finally spoke in a voice as quiet as a mosquito. Then, just this once, saying that, Alara stood in front of me, overcome with shame. She turned her head to the side, not daring to make eye contact with me. Then Alara opened her arms. Her body, clad only in thin clothes, directly embraced me. She was so nervous her heart felt like it was going to leap out of her chest, and the direction she turned her head just so happened to give her a clear view of the soundly sleeping Serafina. An incredibly bizarre and foreign sensation continuously bombarded Alara's nerves, causing her brain to blue screen once again. Her mind went completely blank. Not bad. I revealed a gaze of approval in my heart. Feeling Alara's scorching body temperature, looking at the young girl's flush pink neck, I could even catch a faint whiff of a delicate fragrance. Especially the way Alara was trembling from pure nervousness, it made people uncontrollably want to cherish her. Look at me. I immediately issued another demand. Alara obediently followed the order. She was scooped right up into my arms, and her soft lips were forcefully sealed. Her eyes widened in shock, trying to struggle, but I suddenly stopped. You just agreed to my terms. I didn't say you only had to listen to one command. My demand right now is that you don't move. Serafina is sleeping. Don't wake her up. Hearing my words, Alara's delicate body shuddered. Looking at the soundly sleeping Serafina on the bed nearby, the strength in her struggles began to gradually weaken. Tears slowly welled up in her eyes. Daily check-in completed reward. Skill, wind pressure effect. Creates a high-pressure zone at a designated location. Objects within the zone are suppressed by strong winds for 2 seconds before being forcefully blasted away. Looking at this RPG-like skill description, I gently stroked Alara, who was still in my arms. I wiped away the remaining tears from the corners of her eyes and tucked her into the blanket. As for me, I headed over to Serafina's bed and pulled Serafina into my embrace. Serafina groggily opened her eyes. Seeing it was me, she hesitated for a few seconds, then chose to stay completely silent, quietly resting by my side. She really didn't know what to do anymore. Rationality told her that if this kept up, she was probably going to become a literal servant, but reality told her she had absolutely no other choice. Right now, sharing the same heavy-hearted mood as Serafina, was Alara. She lay in bed, curled up tightly in her blanket, tears unknowingly soaking a large patch of her pillow. She felt exactly like a student who had just caused a massive disaster. Terrified and panicked to the point of losing the will to live, she didn't even dare to imagine what kind of apocalyptic scene would unfold if Serafina found out. Alara, why are your eyes so red? Seeing Alara's cry-swollen eyes, Serafina asked with concern. I probably just didn't sleep well. It's nothing, really. Alara forced out a strained smile, pretending absolutely nothing had happened. Serafina didn't suspect a thing. After the zombie apocalypse hit, if someone could sleep well, that would be the real weird thing. However, she suddenly realized she seemed to have slept incredibly comfortably yesterday. It was her first genuinely good night's sleep since the end of the world. Waking up this morning, she felt exceptionally secure. What are we doing later? Are we going to other floors? No, we're heading straight outside. You guys just grab your stuff and follow me. This place isn't suitable for a long-term stay. I had planned this out ages ago. We're going straight to the supermarket on campus. First, secure a massive load of supplies, then find a solid stronghold to settle down in. After that, I can get back to serious business, continuing my search for the poor, helpless female students. I'm just a guy with a heart of gold. Whenever I think about so many female college students falling into despair in this apocalypse, my heart just aches for them. But before all that, I need to claim today's daily rewards. Heading out after that won't be too late. Alara, if you didn't sleep well, just go back to sleep and catch up on some rest. I'll wake you up later. I don't need to. Alara frantically waved her hands in refusal. That works too. I also respected Alara's choice. Right in front of her face, I pulled Serafina into my arms and planted a kiss on her earlobe. Seeing this scene, Alara immediately stood up and jogged right back to bed to catch up on sleep. Why do you have to be like this? Couldn't you at least wait until Alara wasn't looking? Serafina pressed her small hands against my chest. She was trying to muster up her old, untamed, arrogant persona to strongly reprimand me. But after my intense regime of oppression, Serafina's version of throwing a tantrum now looked more like a little housewife pouting over a minor grievance. Looking at her, I almost felt bad for going too far. I promise I won't do it next time. Really? Serafina was highly surprised. She didn't expect me to be this agreeable today. Soon, I completed today's check-in, rewarding me with a talent. Close Quarters Combat Master, automatically master various melee combat techniques, and rapidly grow stronger through combat. Looking at today's reward, it was pretty decent. Just not as amazing as Alara's from yesterday. It wasn't until noon that I finally cleared out the zombies on the bottom floors, bringing the 2 girls outside. At this moment, on the campus grounds, dried bloodstains were splattered everywhere, along with tons of scattered debris. It looked like a scene straight out of hell. The 2 girls involuntarily huddled closer to me. Unable to bear the sight, they looked away. I didn't waste a single second. The moment we stepped out, I headed straight for the nearest supermarket. Our path also took us past several other dorm buildings. Many survivors trapped in their rooms saw that there were actually people walking around outside. Some directly threw open their windows, screaming at the top of their lungs for help, while others stayed completely silent. quietly watching everything unfold, and among them, quite a few recognized Serafina. All of them expressed absolute shock. What's going on? Is that Serafina? She's actually okay. And she's with a guy. Who is that dude? Why does he look so familiar? What gives him the right to hold Goddess Mukshui's hand? Serafina's admirers were not few in number. All of them stared at this scene with shattered hearts. I didn't linger. There was only one mixed dorm building. Girls top, boys bottom. And that was only because last year they admitted too many girls and ran out of space in the female dorms, so they arranged it like that. So, no matter how many survivors there were here, it was useless to me. None of them could help me clock in for my daily rewards. Serafina did pay a bit of extra attention to that side, but didn't harbor any sneaky thoughts. She wasn't stupid. Those people who couldn't even step out of their own doors, how could they possibly save her? Although it felt a bit degrading, she had to admit, staying by my side seemed significantly safer. Yep, she only didn't run because she felt safe. Definitely not because she had submitted to me. When we arrived at the supermarket's location, I originally expected a massive horde of zombies, but surprisingly, it was dead quiet inside. It's clearly a dimly lit space. Logically, it should have earned the zombies' favor, acting as a massive gathering spot for them during the daytime. Yet right now, the supermarket didn't have a single zombie. The shelves inside were all knocked over, various products scattered all across the floor. Caspian, what are we still waiting for? Aren't we going in to grab stuff? Serafina asked with a hint of anticipation, because she had spotted a bunch of her favorite snacks. Once we're inside, do not split up. Stick with me while grabbing things. Serafina obediently nodded her head, happily following me inside. While scavenging for supplies, I kept a vigilant eye on our surroundings. When things are this abnormal, there's usually a demon at play. I absolutely did not believe the zombies just chose not to gather here. Right at that moment, outside the supermarket, a series of dense, chaotic footsteps echoed out. But they weren't zombie footsteps, people. My brow relaxed. As long as it's not zombies. I then told the two girls to stop scavenging, and turned my gaze toward the supermarket entrance. Your plan was genius. We only lost one idiot, and managed to lure all the zombies out of the supermarket. That's why you're the boss. Alright, cut the crap. Hurry up, and grab everything we can carry. Soon, 7 or 8 guys walked into the supermarket, but seeing that there were actually other people inside, they all froze in their tracks. I, on the other hand, looked at this group quite casually. These were a few students from our campus, but they all dressed and acted like street thugs, and I recognized every single one of them. The guy leading the pack was named Caspian. He was one of Serafina's highest profile pursuers, and the very first rich kid to rally the troops to bully me. Upon seeing Serafina, his eyes instantly lit up, revealing a flash of unconcern, and the others, upon seeing it, was just one guy and 2 girls. Their expressions shifted from shock to absolute glee. My eye twitched slightly. Faced with such a cliché storyline, I really didn't know whether to roast it or praise the heavens for handing me my revenge on a silver platter. Well, if it isn't the campus queen Serafina, and the one with her is Alara, right? Who would have thought? Right after luring the zombies away, we'd come back to find 2 massive beauties waiting for us. I remember these chicks used to act all high and mighty toward Boss Caspian. How do you want to handle them, boss? How to handle them? Serafina is mine. The other one, you guys can do whatever. The leader, Caspian, finally spoke up. Hearing this, the group exchanged sinister smiles, excited as if they had just hit the jackpot, completely and utterly ignoring my existence. Listening to the garbage coming out of these guys' mouths, Serafina's brows furrowed deep. She had never felt so violently disgusted in her life. You bunch of absolute trash. Do you have no shame? Is this what your parents taught you? Serafina herself didn't even realize it, but facing anyone other than me, she instantly reverted to her old, arrogant, haughty persona. Serafina, you really are still as naive as ever. Do you seriously think someone's going to protect you in the apocalypse? Exactly, Serafina. Your family's probably rotting in a ditch somewhere by now. Stop dreaming your little princess dreams. Instantly, Serafina was hit with a barrage of mockery, especially that line about her family rotting in a ditch. That struck a direct, agonizing blow to her deepest fears. Brothers, enough talking. Hurry up and take them down. We'll grab the food and get out of here. Caspian barked an order. Saying that, the group immediately surrounded us. At this moment, having finished deciding exactly what methods to use for my revenge, I looked at the group and let out a laugh. To be honest, I've always been a very reasonable man. If you guys drop to your knees right now and kowtow a few times, I might just consider letting you go. Where did this lunatic come from? You think a few words are gonna scare us off? Why are you acting so tough? One of the guys scoffed in ultimate disdain, and directly threw a punch charging right at me, intending to teach me a harsh lesson. But in the next second, the man's final memory before blacking out was the sight of a solid iron fire poker. And then, nothing. The man was sent flying backward, crumpling into a limp pile right at Caspian's feet. Seeing this, the entire group sucked in a collective breath of cold air. It felt like they had just brushed shoulders with the Grim Reaper. The gazes they directed at me instantly. After pulling my fire poker back, I swept a calm, collected gaze over every single one of them. Caspian was the first to react. Realizing they had kicked a steel plate, he hurriedly shot his underlings a look, while his hand slipped into his pocket, gripping a pocket knife. This classmate looks a bit familiar. Got some good moves too. But if you're trying to play the hero saving the beauties in front of us, you're still way too green. However, before Bastian could even finish the word him, my figure instantly materialized right in front of his face, and with one hand I hoisted him into the air by his throat. Boss Bastian! Several of his lackeys cried out in panic, yet not a single one dared to step forward. They just watched as I dangled Bastian in the air like a slaughtered pig. Bastian kept making strangled gaga noises, trying desperately to pry my hand open, only to find my grip was like an iron vice. He couldn't shake it at all. As the suffocation set in, the previously arrogant and domineering Bastian, terrified, started squeezing out words of surrender from his mouth. I let out an amused laugh and loosened my grip. Tossing him onto the ground, I raised my foot and planted it firmly on the side of his head. The high-spirited Bastian from just moments ago, now having his head stepped on, not only didn't dare to move a muscle, but completely submitted and started begging for mercy. I was just joking around just now. Please don't take it seriously. Let me go this once. Everything in this supermarket is yours. We'll leave right now. Listening to Bastian's sincere begging, the foot I had pressed against his head applied a little more pressure. Still haven't remembered who I am yet? Looks like you really don't give a crap about anyone else. But that's fine. From now on, you're going to remember the name Caspian very well. See Caspian? Hearing that, Bastian's entire body violently convulsed, as if he had just heard the name of a demon. Oh, you're screwed. Remembered now, didn't you? Don't be scared. I told you, I've always been a very reasonable man, so I won't make things too difficult for you. Let's play a little game. From here on out, as long as you don't make a single sound, I'll let you go. Saying that, I bent down and grabbed one of his fingers. Snap! Ah! Instantly, Bastian let out a blood-curdling scream of pure agony. You lose, but I'm feeling generous today. I'll give you one more chance to play. As I spoke, I stomped my foot right onto his hand, instantly snapping another finger. Crunch! I just kept playing the game with a pleasant smile on my face. Very quickly, Bastian simply passed out from the sheer pain. After finishing that up, I finally raised my head, looking at the remaining guys. All right, your turn to play. At this point, the lackeys had long since had their souls scared out of their bodies. Where would they find the guts to challenge me now? Seeing Bastian's unknown dead or alive status, without a single moment of hesitation, they all turned and bolted. I casually raised my hand and softly spat out two words, wind pressure. Instantly, the guys trying to run away were slammed flat onto the floor by an invisible, massive force. What the hell is this? What's happening? Where did this crazy wind come from? The wind pressure didn't completely paralyze them. A few guys, fueled by pure adrenaline and terror, forced themselves up and kept running. But 2 seconds later, the wind pressure erupted again. The group of guys was blasted. I then strolled over to the guy who had talked the most trash earlier, holding my fire poker, looking down at him from above like a god. Bro, I was wrong. We were all forced by Bastian. We're not really with him. Was it this mouth that was running its jaws earlier? Are my people something a piece of trash like you gets to discuss? I didn't hesitate. I swung the solid iron poker directly into this guy's mouth. In a flash, blood splattered everywhere, mixed with a whole mouthful of shattered teeth. I'm a very kind-hearted person. I gave every single one of them the exact same VIP treatment, ensuring total fairness and justice. Instantly, the supermarket floor became a chorus of agonized wailing. All right, go grab whatever useful stuff you want. We'll deal with them later. I turned my head and spoke to Seraphina. Right now, looking at me, Serafina felt a highly bizarre emotion budding in her heart. Was this him protecting her? This feeling was actually pretty nice. Plus, compared to these degenerate scumbags, Caspian actually seemed quite reasonable, and the way he treated her was honestly just payback for how bratty and arrogant she used to be. Even though Caspian's methods were still super extreme, he had never even had a girlfriend before, so it seemed it wasn't completely unacceptable. Seraphina's thoughts were running wild. She completely forgot what she was supposed to be doing, just mindlessly grabbing random items off the shelves. During this, Alara gently called her name several times, but she took forever to snap out of it. Sister Mukshue. Sighing helplessly, Alara poked her. Only then did Seraphina realize she was zoning out. Alara, what's wrong? Hearing Seraphina's confusion, Alara asked, sounding incredibly unsure of herself. Sister Mukshue, was I hallucinating just now? Why did all those guys go flying the moment Caspian waved his hand? Right now, Alara's facial expressions were super rich. Ever since Bastian and his gang showed up, she had been tense to the absolute limit. She originally thought Caspian, being all alone, would be absolutely no match for those thugs. Who knew the ending would be such a massive Uno reverse card? And what made her doubt reality even more was, Serafina didn't seem surprised in the slightest. Actually, thinking back on it now, Serafina was pretty surprised too, but she had already experienced firsthand that invisible force that forcefully restricted her movements. She had chalked it up to telekinesis or some other superpower. So, Serafina shared her own headcanon and explained it all to Alara. Even though the two girls were whispering, standing not too far away, I heard every single word loud and clear. Finding out that Serafina actually justified it like that in her head, I didn't bother going over to correct them. Whatever, just let them think that. I then used, not caring whether they were dead or alive, I strung them all together like a chain of sausages, tossed them directly outside the supermarket, and proceeded to break every single one of their legs. Just like that, leaving them to suffer under the scorching sun, waiting for the darkness to fall so they could become an all-you-can-eat buffet for the zombies. After that, taking Serafina and Alara, I left the supermarket sector and began searching for our new sanctuary. I know a place nearby. It's the university's music rehearsal hall. The doors and windows all have iron grates locking them. The space inside is huge, and it's usually locked up tight. There definitely won't be any zombies inside. At this moment, Alara suggested a location. Works for me. Since we didn't have anywhere else to go anyway, we followed Alara's suggestion. Taking advantage of the daylight, we quickly found the rehearsal hall Alara mentioned. Just as she said, the security was top tier. There were locked iron grates outside, another grate on the door itself, and only a few tiny windows up high. Even if they were open, zombies couldn't squeeze through. Alara, how do we get in? Serafina yanked on the iron grate, thinking, are we supposed to violently bust the lock open? Use this. Saying that, Alara pulled out from her pocket a massive ring of keys and directly unlocked the gate. I'm a music major. I just so happened to be assigned the job of managing the rehearsal hall. Never thought it would come in handy at a time like this. Not bad. Then we'll crash here for a while. Speaking of which, you study music. What instrument? Oh, woodwinds, like the saxophone. Then do you have to practice your mouth techniques a lot? I raised an eyebrow, continuing my interrogation. When playing these instruments, you have to train your mouth techniques every single day. Otherwise, it's really hard to improve the tone and quality of the music. Alara replied with a face full of pure innocence. Then you should teach Serafina today. Have her practice with you, I suggested with a pleasant smile. Why? She didn't quite understand. It's the apocalypse. Why on earth does Sister Muksha need to study music? Does learning music increase your survival rate? Alara completely failed to grasp my underlying meaning, but Serafina, who had been rapidly maturing over the past 2 days, instantly knew my intentions were anything but pure. Checking the time, I saw there was still plenty of daylight left, so I made 3 more trips to the supermarket to haul supplies. This system really drops the ball sometimes. Couldn't it just give me an inventory spatial ring or something? Carrying stuff back and forth manually is so tedious. I really wanted to hypnotize the system and force it to spit out some legendary loot. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the zombies began to liven up. By this time, Serafina and Alara had already cleaned up the rehearsal hall. Laying out some mats to make a sleeping area, they started to rest. Suddenly, a wave of warmth spread across my back, followed by a pair of arms wrapping around me. When I turned my head, I saw Serafina burying her face extremely low, seeming to be waiting for something. What are you doing? Are we directly resting today? Serafina paused for a moment. Then her face flushed so red it looked like it was going to drip blood. Alara is asleep. I thought. She was stuttering, her words jumbled, not knowing how to explain her own actions. Even though she fully understood the drill by now, this was still her first time initiating it herself. She couldn't help but reveal an expression that looked more agonizing than getting rejected after a confession. I silently opened the system panel and took a glance at Serafina's info. Status: ashamed hypnotized. No confirming that I hadn't accidentally hypnotized Serafina. I couldn't help but feel a bit surprised. I originally wasn't planning on bothering Serafina tonight, but since the meal delivered itself to my door, I had no reason to turn it down. At this time, Serafina was curled up in my embrace, whispering softly by my ear, "Thank you for today, and for everything in the past. I'm sorry." A while later, Serafina's breathing leveled out, and she fell into an exhausted slumber, while those words kept echoing in my ears. Letting out a long sigh, my mood improved significantly. In my heart, I silently forgave Serafina. But that didn't mean I was going to forgive the others. Resting for a bit, I stood up and shifted my gaze over to Alara, who hadn't checked in yet today. Asleep? Looking at the motionless Alara, I tapped open her panel. Status: panicked, guilt-ridden. Guilt level is currently doubling. People who are asleep don't feel panicked. I couldn't help but chuckle. Then I walked over and stood right in front of Alara. Her panel status instantly shifted to nervous. It almost made me laugh out loud. Her fake sleeping skills are absolute garbage. Even without the system panel, I could see Alara's toes curling up tightly. Who sleeps like that? Immediately, I reached out and ruffled Alara's hair. Alara finally stopped pretending to be asleep. Her little face flushed bright pink as she looked up. Feigning calmness, she asked, "Is something wrong? Don't be scared. I just came to look at you. That's not a big deal, right? After all, you were just peeping on us earlier." "I did not!" Being exposed by me, Alara blushed furiously as she tried to defend herself. I was too lazy to listen to excuses. I directly opened the system. On Alara's panel, I added yet another command. When near me, feelings of guilt will rapidly dissipate. "Your face is so red. Catching a cold?" I slowly reached out and touched Alara's cheek. Alara originally wanted to dodge away, but watching that hand about to land on her face, for some inexplicable reason, her heart, which was overflowing with guilt, actually felt a tiny shred of comfort and peace. This feeling made it impossible for her to refuse. I didn't hesitate either. Directly pinching Alara's chin, I planted a gentle kiss on her lips. The texture was delicate and flawless, like eating a soft, sweet piece of jelly. At this moment, Alara's breath hitched. Her heart was racing incredibly fast, yet she felt an unprecedented sense of security. All the guilt toward Serafina in her brain vanished into thin air, leaving behind a rare oasis of peace in her soul. She didn't know what was wrong. She clearly knew she had to reject this, but she simply couldn't resist this feeling. She only wanted to sink into this momentary serenity. Reward, skill, purple flame effect, can control a special type of flame for combat, simultaneously grants fire resistance. Seeing Alara's check-in reward, my eyes couldn't help but light up. An AoE, area of effect skill. This was exactly what I needed right now. Plus, if I combined this skill with wind pressure, the destructive power would jump to a whole new tier. Not bad at all. I kissed Alara on the cheek and then returned to Serafina's side. I'm not a greedy guy. Securing the reward was enough for me. Pulling Serafina back into my arms, I did a quick mental rundown of tomorrow's itinerary and rapidly drifted off to sleep. However, Alara didn't have it so easy. The moment I left, her mood plummeted back into the abyss. The guilt was even stronger than the first time. She tossed and turned on her sleeping mat. No matter what she did, she couldn't fall asleep. Finally, staring at the two of us not far away, Alara gulped nervously. As long as I just get a little bit closer, it should be fine, right? When Serafina opened her eyes the next day, she felt herself being held by me. She wasn't resisting it anymore, but when she moved her hand, she suddenly brushed against another female hand. She instantly froze in shock. Serafina violently sat bolt upright. Staring at the scene before her, her pupils shrank to the size of pinpricks. She saw Alara lying right behind my back, both of her arms tightly wrapped around my neck. For a moment, Serafina's brain completely blue-screened. What the hell is going on? My man, and my absolute best friend in the world. Why is it like this? Noticing the commotion, I also woke up from my sweet dreams. Still half asleep, I instinctively groped around and found Alara behind me. Then I turned, pulled Alara into my arms, and gave her a few morning kisses. Alara! Suddenly, Serafina let out an explosive shout, instantly waking everyone up completely. When the three of us sat in a circle to eat breakfast, I continued eating my food as if nothing happened. But the atmosphere between Serafina and Alara was indescribably awkward. I'm sorry! Suddenly, Alara bowed her head low and started frantically apologizing to Serafina. At this point, Serafina, who had cooled down a bit, didn't plan on making things too hard for her. Seeing Alara being so incredibly sincere, she decided to let it go. You definitely didn't do it on purpose, just be careful from now on. Sister Muksha, I am so sorry. All right. As long as it doesn't happen again, it's fine. It's not that big of a deal anyway. Although Serafina felt terrible inside, for the sake of her best friend, she forced herself to act magnanimous and forgiving. But hearing that, Alara felt even more guilty, and then, completely out of her own control, she lunged into my arms, directly causing Serafina's forced smile to freeze solid. Alara's own expression stiffened in horror too. Even she didn't realize what the heck she had just done. What are you doing? I'm sorry, Sister Mukshu. I don't know what's wrong with me either. I accidentally I'm sorry. Do I look like an idiot to you? Let go of him right now. Seeing Serafina getting furious, Alara really, desperately wanted to let go. But the moment she thought about the agonizing feeling of leaving my side, she simply couldn't force her body to move. I can't do it. I'm sorry. What do you mean you can't do it? Is I'm sorry the only thing you know how to say? The angrier Serafina got, the guiltier Alara felt, and the tighter her grip around me became. The negative emotions endlessly flooding out of Alara's heart were constantly being negated by my presence. Under this intense psychological crossfire, Alara felt like her mind was literally twisting into pretzels. Whatever, she figured she was never going to be forgiven anyway. Rather than torturing herself, might as well just stay permanently glued to Caspian like this. At least this way, she wouldn't feel like dying inside. I watched the situation escalate and chose not to say a word. But I could feel that Alara had already given up on seeking forgiveness. At this point, no matter what Serafina yelled, Alara treated it as background noise, holding onto my arm in a death grip and burying her little face right into my chest. Seeing Alara not responding with a single word for half the day, Serafina couldn't help but say in utter disappointment, Alara, I never thought you were this kind of person. I was truly blind to trust you. Saying that, Serafina threw herself directly into my arms as well, forcefully shoving Alara out of the way, leaving Alara with nothing but my arm to cling to. Caspian, kiss me! At this moment, Serafina looked incredibly aggrieved, staring at me with eyes full of deep, desperate affection. Seeing her pitiful, teary expression, my heartstrings actually tugged a little. Originally, I only planned to torment Alara, but this development was completely outside my calculations. Seeing things go slightly off the rails but resulting in an outcome that made me extremely satisfied, I had no choice but to delay today's schedule. I gotta claim today's daily rewards first. Daily check-in completed reward. Enhancement potion. Daily check-in completed reward. Heavy alloy cleaver. Today's check-ins went exceptionally smoothly. Right now, Serafina and Alara were nestled against me, one on the left, one on the right, looking like they weren't planning on getting up anytime soon. Serafina's emotions were undoubtedly a tangled mess. She had predicted long ago that I would get other girls, but she never expected that the person would be her most trusted, most cared for bestie. And to think she cared so much about Alara before, sacrificing so much for her. Heartbreak. After enjoying a moment of peace and quiet, I told the two girls to get up. Time to head out. Today, we're going straight to the female dormitories to bring back whoever is still alive. Serafina puffed out her cheeks, thinking I was way too greedy. I actually still wanted to find more girls. As for Alara, right now her entire brain was filled with nothing but me, and the overwhelming urge to be close to me, even though she knew this was wrong, and that she was doing Serafina incredibly dirty, and that it completely violated all her moral values. But, whatever, let's just keep going like this. Under the immense pressure, Alara straight up chose the path of voluntary corruption. We headed out exactly like yesterday. But the difference was, today, Alara and Serafina weren't standing together anymore. Instead, they flanked me on both sides, looking like fire and water that couldn't mix. Just like yesterday. Don't wander too far away from me. I'll keep you both safe. You're the best. Serafina was suddenly super talkative today. She had even learned how to act cute and clingy because of Alara. I get it. Meanwhile, Alara had absolutely zero reaction to Serafina's words. She just tightly hugged my arm. It's so desolate here. Why aren't there any girls in the dorm building? Serafina looked at the female dorm building in confusion. The male dorms we passed by earlier clearly had a ton of people inside. Why wasn't there even a single shadow to be seen in the female dorms? Hearing this, the corner of my mouth twitched. I started recounting the story I read in the group chats. Just because of one arrogant little fairy who told everyone that as long as they rushed out, there would be rescue teams waiting. She thought the zombies were all weaklings. So, a massive group of female students charged out of the dorms. The result? They all turned into the zombies' all-you-can-eat buffet. Being stupid yourself is one thing, but she dragged so many others down with her, causing me to lose a mountain of potential rewards. Hearing what happened in the female dorms, Serafina wore a dumbfounded expression. Are these people completely brainless? Thank God I never hung out with them. She used to think she was pretty spoiled and impulsive herself. Who knew there was always a bigger fish when it comes to stupidity? The doors to this dorm building have been left wide open. There's probably a massive horde of zombies gathered inside, really causing me a ton of extra hassle, I muttered to myself, casually pulling out the heavy alloy cleaver from behind my back. This heavy sword was about a meter long and weighed a solid dozen kilograms. A normal person would struggle just to lift it, let alone use it as a weapon, but holding it felt incredibly light to me. I could probably throw it like a dart if I wanted to. I claimed I grabbed it while we were at the sanctuary, and simply explained to the two girls, found it on a storage rack. Neither Seraphina nor Alara doubted it. Soon our footsteps attracted a swarm of zombies. The zombies that were hiding inside the dorms to avoid the sun instantly crawled out from the shadows the moment they saw living humans. Their movements looked like freaky spiders, but their speed was shockingly fast. Thud! Slash! With dull thuds of blade meeting flesh, the crawling zombies were chopped down one by one. Glancing into the lobby of this building, I noticed there were actually over 10 zombies loitering inside. I raised my hand and initiated with a wind pressure, followed immediately by a blast of purple flame. When the flames got sucked into the high-pressure wind, the fire instantly exponentially expanded. Riding the mini hurricane, it swept forward like a vortex, beginning to scorch the entire horde of zombies. Standing beside me, Serafina looked at me with stars in her eyes. Turns out her man had even more superpowers. He looked even cooler now. Let's go. After smoothly entering the dorm building, I started searching just like before, occasionally trying to see if any survivors could hear my voice. Without a doubt, after being guided by that brilliant little fairy, there wasn't a single person left on the first floor. Feeling speechless, we headed up to the second floor. After clearing the zombies in the hallway, I didn't expect anyone to be here either. However, unexpectedly my casual shout actually got a response this time. Is there someone outside? Help! I'm over here! Immediately my gaze locked onto one of the doors. Come out yourself. The zombies outside are all dead. Quickly, the door was unlocked, and an average-looking girl walked out, leaving me feeling slightly disappointed. But that makes sense. If just any random background character could rival a campus queen like Serafina, then wouldn't this S-tier rating be way too cheap? Still, picking up an extra reward wasn't a bad thing. But right now, the rescued girl was looking incredibly frantic and excited. Thank God! Someone finally came to save me. Do you guys have any food? I'm literally starving to death. I have this with me. Seeing the girl demanding food without even saying hello, Alara directly pulled out a pack of biscuits she brought along. Seeing this, the girl immediately snatched it from her hands. Without uttering a single thank you, she started wolfing it down. After finishing it, she opened her mouth again. Got any more? This behavior made me frown. The food is all back at the base. If you join our group, I can give you food. As I issued the invitation, the girl nodded in agreement without a shred of hesitation, and the system's prompt chimed right on cue. Target: Gretchen rating, B reward, temporary enhancement potion effect. Same as enhancement potion, but effects begin to decay after 2 hours until they completely disappear. Teask. This reward is kinda pathetic, not gonna lie. I couldn't help but sigh. Meanwhile, that girl locked her sights on Seraphina. Sister, you look really familiar. Are you that Seraphina? I am. For the first time in her life, Seraphina felt embarrassed about being recognized. She didn't like strangers, especially the ones who completely lacked any sense of boundaries. That's awesome. It really is you. Then you must have brought your family's rescue squad, right? Quick, tell your guys to escort me to a safe place. I'm going crazy being stuck here. You're overthinking it. There's only the 3 of us. Right now, we're going to check the other floors to save more people. If you don't want to stay here, then follow us upstairs. Hearing this, Gretchen's face instantly dropped, putting on a "how is that possible" expression. No way. There's only 3 of you and you're still trying to save people. I thought you guys had a massive squad. What does how many people I have anything to do with you? At this point, I was getting really annoyed. My tone turned noticeably colder. Gretchen originally wanted to say something else, but seeing me holding a massive heavy cleaver, she forcefully swallowed her words back down. So, are you coming or not? If you're not, we're leaving. I'm coming. Wait a sec. Let me go grab my precious baby. I'll be right out. Saying that, she ducked right back into her dorm room and started rummaging through her stuff. A moment later, she walked out holding a giant stuffed animal body pillow. All right, we can go now. Seeing this, the corner of my eye twitched uncontrollably. I forcefully suppressed the urge to swing my sword. Arriving at the 3rd floor, I proceeded exactly as before, raising my blade and letting it fall, relentlessly butchering the zombies. Seeing how skilled I was, Gretchen scurried right next to Seraphina. Sister, is this your family's bodyguard? Why is he so fierce? Just now you didn't even say anything, and he gave me such a nasty attitude. Can you tolerate this? A guy who doesn't even know how to be gentle to girls. He's not a bodyguard. He is my boyfriend, Seraphina corrected her. Even a boyfriend shouldn't act like that. A man like this, how could he ever be worthy of us? Look at him, hanging around with that skanky-looking woman. Seraphina knew she was talking about Alara. Even though she and Alara currently had a rift between them, hearing a complete stranger badmouth Alara still made Seraphina intensely disgusted. And just as Seraphina was about to express her displeasure, I discovered yet another group of survivors. Excuse me, are you the rescue team? Can you please save us? I caught onto the key word. There was actually more than one person in here. Open the door. It's safe outside now. I'm just a survivor from nearby. But saving a few people is no problem at all. The people speaking inside the room, half doubting, half believing, unlocked the door, allowing me to see the scenes inside. I saw a petite, yet exceptionally gorgeous young girl standing at the doorway. I almost didn't spot her at first glance, because the height difference between us was way too massive. I honestly doubted if she was even a college student. And right at this moment, hiding behind that petite girl, was actually another girl who looked exactly like her and was around the exact same height. They looked like identical twin sisters. Hello, we are survivors from nearby. You can call me Caspian. I'm Lyra. The girl's small mouth parted slightly. Looking up at me, she spoke somewhat timidly. Seeing a girl whose visuals were clearly several tiers higher, my mood instantly improved dramatically. I extended an invitation with the utmost patience. I've gathered a few people, and we're searching for survivors nearby. Do you two plan to join my team? Or do you want to try surviving out there on your own? Right now, I was acting extremely friendly and approachable. Add to the fact that I had several girls standing behind me, Lyra gradually lowered her guard and directly nodded to accept, and the system chimed in perfect synchronization. Target Lyra rating status, starving nervous reward, crystal core, gold effect, grants a special ability upon consumption. However, a human body can only withstand 1 core. It will continuously erode the body's constitution. Not recommended for host to consume. System suggestion. Equip the crystal core into a weapon. Note: defeating certain zombies has a chance to drop crystal cores of varying qualities. Target: Nova rating, status, starving, terrified, reward, enhancement potion. Rapidly scanning the notifications, I immediately caught onto a crucial piece of info. Crystal cores. These things don't just come from the system. Killing zombies can actually drop these crystal core items too. This meant other people could also acquire these golden crystal cores. However, I didn't care about that at all. System-produced items are all top tier. Plus, I have more than one way to boost my power. Even if someone else gets a golden core, they still can't compete with me. But this did serve as a wake-up call. In this apocalypse, there are other supernatural powers out there. To prepare for these unknowns, I need to make sure I check in regularly and maintain. At this time, my gaze shifted past Lyra and landed on the girl behind her. I'm sorry, she's my younger sister Nova. She has a bit of a communication disorder. She doesn't really dare to speak. Seeing my action, Lyra hastily started explaining, terrified that I might think her sister was being rude and decide to kick her out of the team. It's no problem. Just come out and stay close to me. I proactively stepped aside, making room, planning to bring the two of them along and continue heading upstairs. Since I made the trip all the way here, I naturally have to check every floor. But right at this moment, an incredibly discordant voice rang out from behind. Excuse me, you've already found 3 people. Aren't we going back to your base yet? I'm not demanding your base be super safe or anything, but at least let me get something to eat first, right? Right now, Gretchen had a stank look on her face, acting like she was extremely dissatisfied with me. I've always considered myself a reasonable man. Under normal circumstances, as long as people don't try any shady business, I don't usually resort to killing intent. But given the current situation, I really couldn't hold back anymore. And Lyra also spotted Gretchen at this moment. A flash of surprise crossed her eyes. Gretchen? Why are you here? Didn't you lead all those other girls outside? Why are they all dead, but you're completely fine? Hearing Lyra's words, I immediately looked back at Gretchen. I saw panic flash across her face. I just got lucky. Those idiots wouldn't listen to my commands. They almost got me killed too. I just got lucky and managed to escape back inside. Hearing these few short sentences, I instantly understood exactly what happened. My tone dropped to absolute zero. Lyra, are you saying? She's the one who organized all those girls? And told them to run out and feed themselves to the zombies? She even tried to force us to go with them. I refused, and she brought a bunch of people to cuss us out for a long time. Lyra puffed out her cheeks, speaking in an incredibly aggrieved tone, looking like if you punched her once she'd cry for a very long time. So, that brain-dead idiot was you. Saying that, I raised my heavy cleaver and placed the blade directly against Gretchen's neck. What are you trying to do? I'm just a girl. What was I supposed to do? I didn't know there would be so many zombies outside at night. Throwing away the facts, aren't the others at fault too? You make a compelling argument. Therefore, for the 4th floor, you go stand in the front and scout the way. I pointed toward the stairwell with my sword, signaling Gretchen to walk up herself. Wait! You're so strong! Why don't you just scout ahead? How can you make me go first? Heh, don't worry. There were so few zombies on the 3rd floor. The 4th floor is definitely empty. Hurry up and go. I'll be right behind you to protect everyone. I'm not going! Gretchen still wanted to argue, but my fist had already met her face. One solid punch sent her entire body crashing to the floor, instantly leaving her face a bruised mosaic of black and blue, and causing a fountain of blood to gush from her nose. Are you going to crawl up there yourself? Or do I throw you up there? Pick one. Gretchen's teeth chattered from the sheer pain. She sprawled on the floor for a long time, unable to recover. How can you hit a woman? She turned her head to look at Serafina and the others, desperately seeking some form of help, only to find that the way Serafina was looking at her was eerily identical to the way I was looking at her. Say one more word of garbage, and the next thing landing on your face won't be a fist. Realizing that not a single person was going to speak up for her, Gretchen instantly felt like she was plunged into an icy abyss. She truly felt the threat of imminent death. Under my intense coercion, she trembled like a leaf and walked to the front of the group, cursing me 1,000,000 times in her heart, while simultaneously praying to God that the 4th floor was empty. When Gretchen's heart was practically in her throat, she finally reached the 4th floor. Looking at the completely empty hallway, she instantly let out a massive sigh of relief. Thank God, these people refused to stand by me, but at least God is protecting me. But in the very next second, her face drastically changed. From one of the dorm rooms with an open door, a zombie with half its face missing crawled out. Instantly, Gretchen screamed at the top of her lungs in terror, which immediately drew the zombie's full attention. She turned to run for her life but tripped over her own feet and face-planted onto the floor. Save me! I beg you! I was wrong! Save me! But the zombie pounced right on top of her, taking a massive bite out of her leg. Like a wild beast taking down its prey, it dragged her entire body back into the dark room, leaving behind nothing but her agonizing, heart-wrenching screams. In just a few short seconds, the screaming began to weaken, until it faded away completely. And right then, the system's notification sound chimed. Target: Gretchen's status, deceased evaluation. No comment. I shook my head. I'm so sorry. I honestly didn't expect there to be a zombie upstairs. But throwing away the facts, wasn't she at fault too? She only lost her life, while I lost a whole 3 seconds of sympathy. Hearing Gretchen's voice completely disappear, the girls behind me showed a hint of discomfort on their faces, but there was absolutely zero sympathy. Someone who got that many people killed deserved to die 1,000 times over. Suddenly, zombie roars echoed from other directions. The other zombies hiding in the dark corners had all been attracted by Gretchen's blood-curdling screams earlier. There was even movement coming from the floors above. Big Brother Caspian, should we go search a different building instead? There are way too many zombies here. Listening to the rising chorus of roars, Lyra, standing beside me, started getting scared. Her younger sister was gripping her hand even tighter, her little hands clinging on for dear life. I, on the other hand, was completely unfazed. I even had the leisure to say, Big Brother Caspian doesn't sound right. Why don't you just call me Oppa or Daddy? Ah, Lyra blinked. She and her sister exchanged a look, both seeing the pure confusion on each other's faces. Caspian Oppa, can we please leave now? The zombies are too many, it's really dangerous. At this moment, Lyra's face was burning up. Even though she was small, her mental age was completely normal. Using this kind of cutesy, little girl honorific made her sense of shame absolutely skyrocket. Why did I already call him that? And he still doesn't look like he wants to leave. Seeing that the zombies were about to pour down from upstairs, Lyra was getting incredibly anxious. Just as she was about to warn me again, Serafina patted her on the shoulder. There, don't worry. My boyfriend is super strong. No matter how many zombies come, he can handle them. When saying this, Serafina looked completely relaxed. She even took the opportunity to steal a side glance at Alara, only to find Alara biting her finger, staring at me with eyes full of absolute worship. But there really are a lot of zombies, Lyra judged, based on the— There won't be a lot soon, Serafina said, her face also brimming with admiration. Just as Serafina said, I had already hefted my heavy cleaver and started hacking and slashing my way forward. In an instant, the first wave of charging zombies were immediately decapitated. The zombies upstairs also violently surged downward, pouncing like hunting beasts. But my reflexes right now were incredibly sharp, and my zombie killing techniques were becoming increasingly masterful. I didn't even care if there were any survivors left anymore. One man, one sword. I straightforwardly slaughtered my way through this entire dorm building, top to bottom, until there wasn't a single zombie left standing. I was just about to shout a couple of times to see if there were any survivors left. But Lyra and her sister, who were seeing this kind of brutal scene for the first time, were directly shocked to the core of their souls. The way they looked at me completely. At this moment, Lyra finally understood that when Serafina said I was super strong, it wasn't just a boyfriend filter talking. It was the absolute, unvarnished truth. See, I told you I was right, didn't I? At this time, Serafina spoke with a hint of pride, as if waiting for Lyra's envy. After we searched the entire building, I originally thought that in such a massive dorm, it was impossible for there to be absolutely no one left, right? Turns out there really wasn't a single other soul. Sigh, letting Gretchen die just like that really let her off way too easy. After sorting out my mood, I was just preparing to check out the other buildings. But standing on the 7th floor and looking over at the other dorms, there wasn't a single room with a human shadow in it. It couldn't be that all 3 other buildings were completely empty too, right? Until 30 minutes later, when I had thoroughly cleared the zombies out of the other 3 buildings as well. Yet we gained absolutely nothing. Such a massive dormitory area, and there really wasn't a single person left. Caspian Appa, the zombie apocalypse broke out several days ago. If people didn't have any food, they would have practically starved to death by now. Even if there were original survivors in the dorms, they probably already left a long time ago to find a way to live. My sister and I were still in our dorm, only because we happened to have some food stashed in our room. At this moment, Lyra spoke up to analyze the situation. Even though I had already thought of this point long ago, I was still clinging to a tiny sliver of wishful thinking. Now, being reminded by Lyra, I finally accepted reality. Alright then, let's head back for today. Taking advantage of the daylight, we'll swing by the supermarket to grab some stuff. After making a few round trips between the campus area became incredibly lively once again. By this time, it was also time for dinner. Lyra and Nova, having just arrived here, seemed extremely reserved and cautious right now. Both of them only took one. We're freshmen who just arrived. We're studying education. We originally wanted to become teachers after graduating, but before we could even get familiar with the university, things turned out like this. While I looked at the two of them, a very bizarre image floated into my mind. With this exact height and voice, if they actually became teachers, what would it look like when they stood at the podium giving a lecture? They'd probably get mistaken for some other teacher's kids. Is that so? I really haven't paid attention to this year's freshmen. What specific subject are you guys studying? We both major in Japanese, Lyra replied while nibbling on her food. Hearing this, Seraphina nodded in understanding. She was completely unfazed by these kinds of majors. But when I heard that, I directly paused all my movements. Meaning, your Japanese is really good then? Say a few lines for me to hear. Lyra felt a bit put on the spot. What was she? Give a self-introduction or something. But if they couldn't understand it, it would seem like she was showing off. A bit impolite. But if she said something they could understand. The Japanese phrases widely known to the general public probably wouldn't pass the censorship guidelines, right? Finally, she spoke with a hint of bashfulness. Arigato, Oni-chan. Hearing that slightly immature, sweet voice, my cloud timer instantly finished resetting, and my interest was thoroughly piqued. Soon it was time to sleep. However, the rehearsal hall only had 2 sleeping mats, so Lyra suggested she could sleep on the chairs and let her sister sleep with Alara. But I flat out rejected that idea. But we'll squeeze Sister Alara. After hanging out for a bit, the 2 sisters had already gotten to know Alara. You 2 sleep on 1 mat. 1 mat is enough for us. I just stated. She completely failed to comprehend my sleeping arrangements. But aren't you and Sister Muksha boyfriend and girlfriend? Then Sister Alara? She doesn't mind. I simply threw out one nonchalant sentence. Lyra wore an expression of absolute shock, like she had just heard something defying the laws of physics. Even Nova, who hadn't spoken a single word since being rescued, couldn't help but let out a confused little hum. Let's go to sleep. Saying that right in front of the 2 little sisters, I directly wrapped my arms around Alara and planted a kiss on her cheek. What are you guys doing? Seeing this scene, Serafina shouted in pure dissatisfaction. Then she ran right up to me and threw herself into my arms too. A bizarrely harmonious picture brought an unimaginably massive psychological impact to the two sisters whose only goal in life was to teach and educate the youth. Sister, what are they doing? Nova, don't look! Saying that, Lyra immediately covered her younger sister's eyes. Lyra originally thought everything would be fine once the lights went out, but watching the active silhouettes of three people in the dark night, and the noises that occasionally drifted over, Lyra and Nova's faces instantly burned red all the way to their ears. Nova, let's just go to sleep quickly. Maybe Caspian Appa and the others will be done in a minute. Nova didn't say a word, just nodded. Just like always, the two sisters huddled close together, closing their eyes, desperately trying to block out the external noise, but they suddenly realized, the moment they closed their eyes, they could actually hear everything even more clearly. Sister, I'm feeling a little hot. At this time, Nova opened her eyes. Her gaze started to drift erratically, while Lyra bit down hard on her thin lip. Right now she had no idea, because she herself was feeling a little hot too. She had absolutely no idea how to calm down. It's fine, it'll be over soon, Lyra just thought to herself silently, until daybreak the next day. Lyra, who had been mentally tortured all night and didn't sleep a wink, stared blankly at the ceiling with lifeless eyes. She originally thought the noise would stop quickly, but she severely underestimated me. It wasn't until a very, very long time later that things finally settled down, and when she thought she could finally get some sleep, she realized she couldn't shut her eyes at all. You don't look like you have much energy. Did you not sleep well last night? I looked at the exhausted Lyra, asking the question even though I already knew the answer. I'm just not quite used to this place yet, Lyra hurriedly explained, trying to cover up the hardcore facts she witnessed last night. Sleeping on the floor is indeed uncomfortable. I'll go get you a proper bed today. That's way too much trouble for you, Lyra hastily and politely declined. It's fine, I was planning to bring a few back anyway. Since I brought you guys here, providing you with a comfortable environment is just something I ought to do. Hungry? Eat something. You hardly took anything yesterday. Meanwhile, Seraphina and Alara, after last night's rigorous activities, were utterly exhausted. They were still sound asleep even now. As for Lyra's sister, she wasn't awake either. Looking at her expression, it seemed she had slept pretty soundly, so I casually picked out some food and handed it over to Lyra. Since you're not familiar with everyone yet, if you feel too embarrassed to eat a lot now, you can always eat more later. Don't worry about whether there's enough or not. Thank you, Lyra happily Her heart felt warm too. She never expected I would be this considerate. Looking at the incredibly obedient Lyra, out of pure habit recently, I reached out and patted her on the head. Feeling my large hand landing on her head, Lyra's delicate body stiffened slightly. Her small face rapidly turned red. This should just be a comforting head pat, right? Probably, maybe? Lyra's tiny heart started getting nervous. She didn't overthink it too much, but in her mind a head pat was generally an action reserved for very close people. Even if she assumed I just wanted to comfort her, she still felt a little weird about it. But it felt really nice. Gradually she relaxed. Even the mental tension caused by her insomnia was completely healed. Sister, what are you guys doing? Suddenly Nova's voice rang out from behind, scaring Lyra so much she visibly flinched. Turning around, she saw Nova, It instantly made Lyra feel like a thief who just got caught red-handed. She desperately wanted to pull her sister aside and explain. But right then, I had already naturally pulled my hand back, and just as naturally, I gave Nova a head pat too, directly causing Nova to wake up instantly. Then, she looked at me with a bewildered expression. Good morning! I flashed a warm smile at her. Morning! Nova answered blankly, using both hands to touch her own head. Feeling the lingering warmth, her brain was still struggling to process what just happened. I also took this moment to seriously examine the two sisters. They looked practically identical, but there was a massive difference in their voices. Lyra's voice was delicate and sweet, while Nova's voice was significantly softer and more crisp, making her sound even easier to bully than Lyra. Are you going to eat? Saying that, I handed some breakfast over to the younger sister too. Thank you, Nova. But her eyes never dared to look directly at me. Watching the two sisters sitting together, burying their heads in their food, a sudden thought popped into my head. Keeping two of these little things around actually seems pretty fun. So, having nothing better to do, I simply sat down right next to Lyra and started chatting with the two sisters. As a result, I effortlessly farmed quite a bit of favorability. But as we were talking, Alara woke up too. The very first thing she did upon opening her eyes was start looking for me. Seeing that I had run off to the side, she completely ignored Lyra and Nova, walked straight up to me and stared at me with those pitiful puppy dog eyes. Sister Mukshu isn't awake yet. Can I hug you now? Saying that, Alara pursed her lips and sat directly onto my lap, delivering a morning kiss. Then she lightly nibbled on my cheek, closed her eyes, and began to carefully enjoy. This scene made the two spectating sisters' hearts race again, as if they couldn't suppress their own rising heartbeats. We're going to sleep a bit longer. Saying that, Lyra pulled Nova down, turned around, and lay flat, pretending they were already asleep. Hearing the two of them talk, Alara felt only a tiny bit embarrassed. But really, just a tiny bit. Then she turned her head back to look at me. Can you kiss me too? To this, I just offered a slight smile, and directly put my actions where my mouth was. Reward item, Blueprint Watcher. An intelligent android forged from special alloys. Can be commanded to protect the sanctuary. Possessing this blueprint allows you to submit materials to the system, and the system will automatically craft the item. Looking at the check-in reward Alara just gave me, I felt it was pretty damn good. If I get the chance to build a few of these later, having them guard the house would be fantastic. I gave Alara a highly satisfied kiss, while Alara practically melted onto my body, like a literal cat. Caspian, when Sister Mukshu is awake, can I still get a little closer to you too? Alara's warm, flushed cheeks were pressed snugly against my chest. That exquisitely beautiful little face of hers gave people infinite room for wild imagination. Did I ever say you couldn't? I said while stroking Alara's smooth, delicate skin. That's good then. I was scared you wouldn't like it if I did that. If you got mad and didn't want me anymore, I would feel so terrible. Saying that, Alara tightened her grip on my arm. Just as she was about to say something else, Serafina happened to wake up at this exact moment. Alara's first instinct was to pull away, but after 3 seconds of deep thought, she chose to squeeze her eyes shut and let her soft body completely slump into my embrace. Serafina, who was already sore from working hard all night, felt even worse upon waking up to this scene. So the early bird gets the worm, huh? Next time, she'd wake up early herself, to assert her absolute dominance. Even though I was quite tired early in the morning, I still reluctantly pushed through and claimed Serafina's reward as well. 1 enhancement potion. After drinking it, my body gained another slight boost. A long while after everything wrapped up, the fake sleeping Lyra pretended to have just woken up, sporting a bright red face as she said good morning. What are we doing today? There's no one left in the dorms. Are we still going there? Serafina asked while clinging to my arm. We'll wander around somewhere else. If we don't find anyone, we leave this place tomorrow. We'll figure out a new path. I had checked my phone again yesterday and found out the university group chat was completely dead, but some social groups outside the campus were still active. From those, I learned that survivors outside had already established strongholds. Soon, we arrived at today's destination, which was the cafeteria we hadn't visited yet. We're at the cafeteria. I just reloaded my meal card, and I didn't even get to eat any of the good food yet. Looking at this once familiar place, now reduced to a chaotic mess, Lyra and Nova couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness. It felt like living in a bizarre fever dream. There don't seem to be any zombies in the cafeteria. It has iron doors just like the rehearsal hall. Can the zombies not get in? The moment we got close, I keenly sensed something was off. At first, I thought maybe when the outbreak happened, the cafeteria was coincidentally closed. But looking through the windows, the inside was a massive wreck too. I immediately realized things weren't that simple. It was obvious this place had suffered a zombie outbreak. I just didn't know who had dealt with them. Are there people inside? Serafina, staying by my side, had also gotten a lot smarter. Should be. Saying that, I grabbed the door handles with both hands. The sturdy iron doors instantly began to warp. Then, I gave it a forceful yank outward. The doors groaned under the immense pressure and broke right off. The moment I stepped inside, I immediately heard faint footsteps coming from upstairs. Seems like there's quite a crowd. I immediately signaled the girls to wait downstairs, planning to head upstairs myself to take a look. But before I could even walk up, from the top of the stairwell, finally, my gaze landed on the prettiest girl among them. Hello, my name is Valerie. If you want to talk, you can talk to me. Also, please put your weapon over there. Your other companions can come up one by one now, but they cannot carry weapons. Looking at Valerie as she spoke, I couldn't help but appreciate the view. This was a girl with a very standard, athletic figure. Her lines clearly exuding a sense of youthful vitality. The muscle definition on her calves was just right, without losing any of a young girl's aesthetic beauty. And from the slight heaving of her abs, I could tell the calm and collected demeanor she was putting on was 100% faked. I wanted to laugh a little. I pulled the heavy alloy cleaver from my back and handed it to her. If you're afraid I have bad intentions, then you hold on to this. I don't want to do this either, but I have to be responsible for everyone's safety. Hearing that, Valerie thought I was expressing dissatisfaction. While explaining her helplessness, she reached out to take my sword. The result? The moment she caught it, Valerie stumbled and almost face-planted into the floor. Thankfully, her reflexes were sharp. She immediately increased the strength in her palm and wrist, stabilizing the sword that was about to pull her down. Using all the strength she gained from working out, she barely managed to lift the blade. Are you kidding me? What the hell is this? What kind of psycho makes a sword this heavy? And it's a one-handed sword too. In order to not completely shatter her tough girl image, Valerie hurriedly placed the sword to the side, quickly restoring her authoritative look as the base leader. I've given you the weapon. My companions can come up now, right? They can. Valerie hid her hands behind her back and secretly rubbed her strained fingers. Valerie originally thought the people downstairs would be men too, but to her absolute surprise, the first one to walk up was a girl radiating elegance and grace, whose appearance made even her want to sneak a few extra glances. Sister Xiaoya, that person looks so familiar. She looks like Serafina. A girl next to Valerie instantly recognized her the moment she saw Serafina. Caspian! Serafina walked upstairs, shot a glance at the people on the second floor, then immediately jogged over to my side, anxiously patting me all over to check for injuries. I didn't hold back in the slightest. Meeting Serafina's little mouth, I planted a solid kiss right on it, instantly making Serafina blush bright red. She wasn't that shy about kissing anymore, but there were so many people watching right now. Consequently, Serafina lowered her head, preventing me from doing anything else in front of all these strangers. But that deeply affectionate look still made people incredibly envious. Valerie and her crew had never seen a scene like this before. The girls all showed shy expressions. That shouldn't be Serafina, right? Valerie felt a bit hot under the collar. She knew of Serafina, that famously haughty princess of the rich circles. But in her impression, why would this grand princess ever be so lovey-dovey with a guy? Very quickly, Valerie thought of a possibility. It's the apocalypse now. Human order has collapsed. Serafina is just a weak girl. Acting like this now, she might be under some kind of threat or coercion. Thinking like this, Valerie's impression of me instantly plummeted into the gutter. But Valerie didn't say anything out loud. She just watched quietly. Watched as another girl walked up from downstairs, a refined, elegant girl whose beauty and figure were so top-tier that it actually made Valerie feel a tiny bit insecure. Alara had always been inseparable from me. The first thing she did upon coming up was walk straight to my side and lean against me. Seeing this, Valerie became even more convinced of her own theory. She felt that both Serafina and this new girl were definitely being coerced. Her fists clenched uncontrollably, but she wasn't planning on playing hero just yet. She just started worrying for the safety of the girls beside her. But in the next second, Valerie's pupils shrank. She saw two adorable, sweet-looking lolies whose heights only reached her stomach walk up from downstairs, and then they also rapidly sprinted to my side. "All right, this is all of us. We can talk business now. But why does your expression look so weird? Are you disappointed that I don't have enough people?" I looked at Valerie in confusion. But Valerie wasn't feeling happy at all. She stared at me, standing calmly among all these girls. Unable to suppress her anger, she blurted out, You are absolute human scums." Hearing this, I was genuinely baffled. I hadn't done a single thing yet, right? How did I suddenly get slapped with that label? "What did I do?" I asked calmly, not angry or annoyed. You won't even spare them. You are simply going too far. Don't think I don't know what you've already done to them. Doesn't your conscience hurt at all?" Valerie pointed her finger at Lyra and Nova, looking at me with pure hatred. The other girls were also glaring at me the same way, as if they were witnessing some horrific tragedy. Finally understanding what was going on, I looked at them, suddenly at a loss for how to explain myself. Thankfully, Lyra also realized what Valerie had misunderstood, so she frantically stepped forward, waving her two delicate little hands. Big sister, it's not what you think. Caspian Appa is a good person. I just look small, but I'm actually a college freshman, and we were just unconditionally taken in by him. Absolutely nothing has happened." Seeing Lyra's desperate explanation, Valerie's heart melted. At the same time, she immediately calmed down. "Is what you're saying true? Then what about Serafina? Sister Mukshue is Caspian Appa's girlfriend. They just have a really good relationship." Lyra tried her hardest to explain, but Valerie suddenly noticed Alara leaning in even closer to me. Her suspicions flared up once again. But before she could even question it, she saw Serafina looking at me with eyes full of utter tenderness, looking at me like I was her most precious treasure. It really didn't look like she was being coerced. "But then why is that girl also?" Valerie pointed at Alara and demanded. "If Serafina is the girlfriend, then why is Alara acting like that too?" She didn't understand. And Lyra understood it even less. For a moment she had absolutely no idea how to explain it. Was she supposed to say the three of them had a special relationship? Just as Valerie was growing highly suspicious, Alara suddenly spoke up softly. "I am his cousin. We always act like this normally. Please don't overthink it." "Cousin?" Valerie's knitted brows relaxed, realizing she really had completely misunderstood, so she hastily apologized, feeling incredibly embarrassed for her reckless accusation. Looking at me again, Valerie's perception of me underwent a massive 180-degree shift, providing protection for 4 girls in the apocalypse, and hasn't done anything out of line to them. This guy is a total saint! While her thoughts were flying, Valerie also told the others to stop being so tense. Meanwhile, Serafina fell into deep silence. This Alara girl just inexplicably turned herself into my cousin, lying without even blinking an eye. She knew it was just an excuse to steal Caspian from her. "I'm really sorry about just now. I didn't know your situation. I thought you were some heinous villain. That's why I treated you like that. It's fine. So, can we talk about other business now?" "Sure. What do you want to do? If you want food, we don't mind at all. There's plenty of meat in the cold storage here. The only problem is, there's no way to carry it all out. I'm not really interested in food. I wanted to ask if you guys would consider joining my sanctuary. We can survive together from now on." I straightforwardly stated my objective. To be honest, if you had a lot of people, I would definitely agree. But our strength is very weak. If I hand everyone over to you, and you can't protect them, what then? Faced with Valerie's lack of trust, I simply replied, "Simple. You can join first. I'll share all my supplies with you. If you feel I don't have the capability, we can cancel the partnership, and you can take whatever supplies you want. Either way, you won't lose out. Do you guys have a lot of supplies? I completely emptied out a nearby supermarket. What do you think? After a long period of contemplation, having weighed the pros and cons, Valerie also made a decision in her heart, so she cast her gaze toward the others. I agree to join you, but as for them, Sister Xiao, I'll just follow you. If you have no objections, I'll join too. Valerie was clearly very highly regarded among the group. Hearing that she was joining, the rest of them immediately started stating their stance. Soon, the system's notifications began chiming. Valerie age 20 reward, blueprint, comprehensive generator 19, a reward blueprint, landmine Daphne age 20 rating, a reward, enhancement potion. In an instant my background notifications exploded. Including Valerie, the rewards for a total of 7 girls were distributed. Taking a quick glance, besides Valerie being an S tier, the rest were all A tier. Honestly, even without the system's rating, I could tell with my own eyes. These girls were all objectively pretty, and Valerie was especially beautiful with her own unique charm. Having this rating wasn't surprising at all. It was just the reward this time that made me slightly raise an eyebrow in surprise. Comprehensive generator blueprint requires only 1 purple crystal core to craft. This generator can produce electricity via solar, wind, combustible fuel, and various other methods. Time quickly flew to the afternoon. During this time, besides hauling all the food from the music hall over, we also completely barricaded the broken front doors of the cafeteria. Thankfully, there was still a back door we could use to get in and out. Caspian, we walked so much today. My legs are like jelly. Can you rub them for me? Saying that, Serafina placed her long, fair legs directly onto my lap. Looking at her pitiful, pouty expression, it was a tiny request no one could refuse. I simply nodded my head. Serafina quickly scoped out the room. After confirming no one was looking our way, she immediately gave me a quick peck on the lips, then closed her eyes, letting me massage her however I wanted. The second floor of the cafeteria had partition booths, but Valerie had cleared out the tables in the booths, turning them into resting rooms. Originally, everyone could have slept in their own room, but in the end I still slept in the same room as Seraphina and Alara. Lyra and Nova shared a room together. Having these partitions also solved my problem of having no private space, which made my daily check-ins much more convenient. Tonight, just like usual, I stayed up late until I finally coaxed Seraphina and Alara to sleep. I originally planned to get up, use the restroom outside, and come back to continue sleeping. But on my way back, I cast a glance into Lyra and Nova's partition. This was supposed to be a beautiful sight, but I noticed something was off. I could hear their slightly ragged breathing and faint trembling. I reached out and felt their foreheads burning up. They had a fever. How did this happen? Why didn't you tell me you were feeling sick? I couldn't help but sigh. They were feeling terrible but were too embarrassed to say anything, afraid of causing me trouble. But that won't do. This mindset needs to change. So I directly pulled up the system panel, opened up the long Zust hypnotism skill. I inputted a new effect. Partners will be more willing to express their true thoughts to you, and applied it to all partners. After doing all that, I planned to go ask Valerie to see if they had any medicine. I didn't hold much hope, but surprisingly, there just so happened to be a first aid kit in the cafeteria. After grabbing the fever-reducing medicine, I hurried back and woke the two of them up. Caspian Appa! Lyra weakly opened her eyes, letting out a sweet, delicate voice that could melt bones. You don't need to call me Appa right now. Come, take your medicine. Saying that, Lyra's cherry lips were met with a spoon. A mouthful of bitter fever-reducing medicine was fed into her mouth. Her face was incredibly flushed right now. I didn't know if it was from the fever or from being held in my arms. Caspian Appa! When Nova gets a fever, she can be a bit willful. She'll just do whatever she wants. She might cause you some trouble. Please don't get mad. All right, I understand. After laying Lyra back down, I picked Nova up, looking at a face completely identical to her sister's. If Lyra hadn't spoken first, I honestly wouldn't have been able to tell who is who. Wake up, time for medicines. I tried to gently shake Nova awake. Watching Nova, who had never spoken a word to me before, slowly open her eyes, I scooped up a spoonful of medicine to feed her. But Nova kept her mouth shut tight, looking like she absolutely refused to drink it. It's time for medicine, I continued to persuade her. Feed me, Nova said in an incredibly tiny voice. This was the very first time she had spoken to me. Her voice was even softer and sweeter than Lyra's. Aren't I feeding you right now? I was a bit confused. Who knew Nova's next sentence would make me freeze the moment she opened her mouth? Use your mouth to feed me. See, can you? I was genuinely a bit stunned. It was hard to imagine the person saying this was the severely socially anxious Nova. Is this what they call being willful? No, wait. Maybe it's the command I just issued, making them easier to express their true inner desires. So this effect doesn't alter their thinking. Everything Nova is doing right now is exactly what she secretly wanted to do all along. Well, I suppose that's not impossible, I said, sounding a bit unsure. Then, I held a mouthful of the fever medicine, still wondering how exactly to deliver it. Right then, a groggy Nova lifted her head and leaned right into me. 2 petals met and pressed together, just like that. Nova's little tongue took the initiative to explore, pried my mouth open, and took the medicine. Soon, all the medicine was finished. It actually made me feel a tiny bit embarrassed. After all, with Serafina and the others, I felt like we were actually dating. But switching to Nova, who had the visual vibe of a porcelain doll, it made me feel a slight twinge of moral depravity. Wait, the medicine is all gone! Nova, what are you doing? Just as I was about to pull back, I realized Nova seemed to have completely attached herself to me, opening her arms and hugging me tightly, her little mouth absolutely refusing to part. If I wanted to stop this, I could easily just peel Nova off. But seeing her so incredibly passionate, the hand I raised to push her away dropped back down. I couldn't help but feel a deep surge of interest. I really wanted to see exactly how willful Nova could get, and what else she wanted to do. Nova reward. Weapon. Black gold dagger. At this moment I lay flat on the sleeping mat, letting out a long exhale. My whole brain was fried. Who said this Nova was just willful? This Nova was absolutely amazing. After resting for a bit, I felt both of their foreheads. Noticing their fevers were gradually going down, I prepared to head back. But just as I sat up, a tiny hand grabbed me. Don't go. Right now, Nova was literally hanging off me, her eyes hazy from the fever. After making me lie back down, she directly swung her little leg over my body, treating me like a giant body pillow and hugging me tight. Heaven and earth as my witness. Towards Lyra and Nova, who never provoked me and were always incredibly well behaved, I swear I never intentionally used the system on them to do anything bad. My use of it just now was genuinely only to make them a little more honest. Caspian Appa! Suddenly, Lyra's voice whispered right by my ear. I turned my head to look. The deeply asleep Lyra, whether she was truly sleepwalking or what, her little hand stealthily reached over and directly wrapped around my neck. When I woke up the next day, Lyra, who had fallen asleep right after taking the medicine last night, had absolutely no idea what happened. All she knew was, the moment she opened her eyes, she saw herself hugging me tightly. In that instant, Lyra froze for a solid half-minute. I'm sorry! Then Lyra immediately let go, her face turning bright red first thing in the morning. In the next second, she finally noticed Nova, discovering that her own sister was also hugging me, exactly like she was. And even though she was clearly awake, she was still glued to me, not moving an inch. It wasn't until she met Lyra's gaze that Nova slowly let go, reluctantly leaving my embrace. She used those beautiful eyes of hers, brimming with complex emotions, to look at me. It was obvious she still remembered what she did last night, but she still didn't say a word, nor did she show any signs of distancing herself from me. If anything, she seemed even closer. Caspian Appa, I'm so sorry. Sorry for making you take care of us last night. It's fine. Just don't hide it from me next time you feel sick. That actually causes me more trouble. Lyra nodded furiously, like a kid who just got caught doing something wrong. All right, you rest a bit more. I'm gonna go find Mukshue and Alara. Nova, what were you doing last night? Taking medicine, Nova replied, sounding slightly guilty. Is that so? As long as you didn't make anyone mad. By the way, why do you have a weird smell on you? Probably the medicine's smell. Now Nova felt even guiltier. Ultimately, Lyra stared at her sister weirdly for a bit, but didn't suspect anything too crazy. However, when she looked down, she noticed a stain on the bed sheets. She mentally calculated the dates. Nova's time of the month shouldn't be this early, right? Is this because she didn't rest well, and her body's cycle got messed up? Serafina, check-in completed. Reward enhancement potion. Alara, check-in completed. Reward skill perception tracking effect. Targets attacked by you will be marked for tracking. You can perceive their exact location for 1 minute. Seraphina, you're really slacking lately. You haven't dropped anything good in a while. I patted Seraphina's cheek, my mind wandering randomly. As if sensing my slight dissatisfactions, Seraphina wrapped both her hands around my arm, planted a few kisses on my arm, then grabbed my hand and placed it on her waist, playing the role of willingly throwing herself into my arms to absolute perfection. If outsiders didn't point it out, who would ever connect the current Seraphina with the haughty princess who used to look down on everyone? Hubby, am I pretty? Very pretty. Discovering Seraphina was extra talkative this morning, probably the system's influence. I didn't find it annoying at all. On the contrary, I was quite curious what kind of things Seraphina would say now that she would never say normally. As for Alara, she goes super hardcore every single time, but she also burns out incredibly fast every time. Today she even broke her own record, directly passing out cold. Hubby, right now, Seraphina was thoroughly enjoying our private time, pressing close to my ear, repeating the word hubby over and over again. Do you think Alara is prettier? Or am I the prettiest? Hearing this, I couldn't help but feel a wave of pressure. I honestly didn't know what to say. But right now, Seraphina was looking at me with an expression full of expectation, yet lined with nervous anxiety. After hesitating for exactly 0.3 seconds, you're the prettiest. Only then did Seraphina's expression shift to smug triumph. The corners of her mouth couldn't help but curl up, as if she wasn't the one who was totally head over heels just a second ago. Soon, everyone in the base gradually woke up. However, a piece of terrible news arrived. The campus lost power, or rather, the entire city lost power. The girls, led by Valerie, who had just felt their lives were getting a bit better, had their moods plummet back into the abyss. Right now, Valerie felt incredibly lucky for the decision she made yesterday. Otherwise, she wouldn't even know what to do. Now that the power was out, the meat in the cold storage couldn't be preserved anymore. Even though they could rely on my supplies now, they still couldn't bear to just give up on the cold storage. But what use was it? The atmosphere at breakfast was very depressing. Because the only ingredient they had was meat. Breakfast consisted entirely of cumin sliced meat, crispy fried pork, and similar dishes. Valerie and her crew were absolutely sick of eating this stuff. But for me, Seraphina, and the other girls, this was the very first time we'd had a hot meal in days. While eating, Valerie sat together with those other girls. The atmosphere over there was quite gloomy. While I sat together with Seraphina and my group, everyone was in high spirits. Seraphina took small, delicate bites of her food, eating very carefully, not losing a single ounce of elegance. Not a single drop of broth spilled. Alara's mind clearly wasn't on the food. She just ate casually, while one of her hands secretly held my left hand under the table. Lyra was the most pure-hearted. Hearing that if they didn't eat it now, they wouldn't get to eat it later, she started rapidly polishing off the food on her plate. But halfway through eating, she suddenly stopped, because she noticed Nova hadn't even picked up her chopsticks. She hadn't eaten a single bite. Her eyes were glued to my side the entire time. "Nova, has your cold not gotten better? Still don't have an appetite." Lyra thought Nova was still sick. But unexpectedly, right at this moment, Nova stared right at me and asked with absolute seriousness, "Can you feed me?" Hearing this, Seraphina and the others froze. They all turned to look at the usually silent Nova. What did Nova just say? She wants Caspian to feed her? They doubted if their ears were malfunctioning. But before they could even process their disbelief, I had already agreed. "What do you want to eat?" Nova pointed at my plate. "Open wide." Saying that, I picked up a piece of crispy fried pork with my chopsticks and prepared to feed it to Nova's open mouth. Since Nova was sitting right next to Alara, seeing Nova acting like this, Alara was incredibly confused. Nova successfully accepted the food, chewed it in her mouth a few times, and then, before anyone could even react, she leaned up and gave me a kiss on the cheek. The entire table instantly went as silent as a classroom during an exam. "Nova, what are you doing?" Lyra was so scared tears literally sprang to her eyes. Like a fierce little tiger pouncing on its prey, she grabbed Nova and yanked her back, wanting to give her a severe, harsh scolding. Her brain had just been hit so hard by Nova's action that her fundamental core coding was experiencing a fatal conflict. Ultimately, Lyra chose to hold Nova's head down with one hand, forcing Nova to bow, while she herself also bowed her head in apology. "I'm so sorry. Nova might still have a fever. Her brain isn't thinking straight. I'll take her back to rest right now. She suddenly kissed you like that. Please don't be mad." But Caspian's girlfriend was sitting right here. Her worries weren't unfounded, because Seraphina's pretty face instantly darkened. Even Alara was staring daggers at them. Lyra felt like a parent whose kid just became a homewrecker, and the rightful spouse came knocking on the door for answers. She felt immense guilt and complete helplessness. "What's wrong with you guys?" Right then, Valerie walked over, looking at Lyra in confusion. "Nova just accidentally bumped into me. Just pretend nothing happened, as long as everything is fine. In a bit, I'm going to take the meat out of the cold storage to defrost. We'll boil it in batches and then fry it dry. Although theoretically, cooked meat can't be stored for long either. It's still better than throwing it away." Valerie casually mentioned her plan. This was already the only solution she could think of, but I spoke up and stopped her. "No need to rush. I remember there's a generator nearby. I'll go out and look for it in a bit." "A generator!" Valerie whipped her head around violently, but soon her excitement died down again. "Are you sure that generator can sustain the cold storage its power needs? Even if it can, where are we going to find the fuel to run it?" "I saw it before. The power output is definitely enough. As for fuel, I heard it's a high-end product the university got internally. It can generate electricity via wind, solar, or burning coal, regardless of whether it can sustain the cold storage or not. Bringing it back will definitely have other uses." "No, that's way too dangerous. I can't let you take such a massive risk to find something that might not even help us." Valerie rejected the idea firmly and decisively. A generator would definitely be placed inside some room, which means someone would have to walk into high-rise buildings swarming with zombies. "I have my own methods. You don't need to worry." I didn't accept Valerie's objection, and even added with a teasing tone, "Though, I didn't expect you to care about me this much." "Oh, of course I do. We're all friends. How could I let you do something so dangerous?" Faced with my occasional teasing, Valerie was thrown off balance and couldn't really handle it. She could only resort to issuing a friend card. "But I still need to head out for a bit. You can absolutely trust me on the safety aspect. I'm actually more worried that after I leave, the base might run into some danger." Seeing that I had kept my stance on going out twice now, Valerie didn't feel it was right to keep arguing. "Don't worry about things here. I've guarded this place for so long and nothing has ever gone wrong. Last time, a guy named Bastian tried to force his way in with some people, and we beat them all back." Valerie patted her chest proudly. Hearing the name Bastian, my eyes twitched slightly. Almost forgot about that guy. That crew has probably been eaten clean by now. With you here, I can rest easy. The corners of my mouth curled up slightly. Valerie inexplicably felt a bit shy. As a girl who lived a relatively tomboyish life, she rarely interacted with the opposite sex. Suddenly having a guy look right at her and praise her, it really took some getting used to. But this feeling, she didn't seem to hate it. She even felt a strange, secret thrill. At this time, Lyra also breathed a massive sigh of relief, because Serafina and Alara's gazes had finally shifted away from them. After finalizing the plan, Valerie went back to figure out the cold storage issue, while Lyra dragged Nova back to their sleeping partition and delivered a rigorous, severe lecture. However, Nova, who normally only ever talked to her older sister, now refused to say a single word to her either. She just stood there with her head bowed, standing at attention, not saying a peep, giving off a complete vibe of, say whatever you want, I'm not listening anyway. This instantly made Lyra feel incredibly anxious inside. Her sister wouldn't even listen to her anymore. Is this her rebellious phase kicking in? After lecturing for half the day and not getting a single word out of Nova, who just kept standing there accepting her punishment silently, it made Lyra, as the older sister, feel incredibly wronged too. On the other side, Seraphina and Alara looked calm on the surface, but their internal monologues were running wild. Caspian, what's wrong with Nova today? Why did she kiss you? At this moment, Seraphina hugged me from behind. Feeling like I was surrounded by the softness of clouds, my interest was continuously piqued. She had a fever yesterday. I fed her some medicine. Maybe she just wanted to thank me or something. My answer was exceptionally perfunctory. I slightly turned my head and expertly planted a kiss on the corner of Seraphina's mouth. Is that so? Fine then, Seraphina pouted, very dissatisfied with this answer. But she didn't plan on pressing the issue. Just like usual, she walked around to the front and threw herself into my embrace. This wasn't Seraphina trying to flatter or seduce me. It was just that she was gradually falling more and more in love with this kind of physical contact. She felt that if we were separated for even a moment, her little heart would feel like a stranded fish. To put it plainly, her heart had already been molded into my shape. Seraphina gripped my back with both hands, offering her affection as intensely as a raging fire. Though it was a bit tough on Alara, who was right next to us. She just had to sit on the side, watching with eager, longing eyes. Soon, after enjoying a moment of intimacy, I grabbed my weapons and left the cafeteria. Of course, the university didn't actually have a generator. I just planned to go out and hunt some zombies. I already had the generator blueprint the system gave me. All I needed now was one purple crystal core to craft it. Killing zombies had a chance to drop crystal cores, but I had no idea what the drop rate was. At the very least, after killing so many zombies up to this point, I hadn't even seen a single blue crystal core. You can imagine how rare these things are. So, whether I could actually craft the generator or not, I honestly had no idea. I could only come out and try my luck. Even if a purple crystal core didn't drop, I still wouldn't lose anything. Leaving the girls at the base, I didn't have so many restrictions this time. I could finally stretch my limbs properly. I sighed and stretched my back. After drinking so many enhancement potions, my physical stats were growing stronger by the day. But when I went out before, with Seraphina and the others tagging along, I had to worry about this and be cautious about that. It really kept me suffocatingly restricted. Today I finally felt relaxed. Lifting my foot, I launched myself forward from a standstill. My speed was so fast, even I was a little surprised. After all, this was my first time running at full tilt. After sprinting through the campus for a bit, I skidded to a halt. I had arrived at the wide-open sports field. The green artificial turf was already dyed crimson. Skeletal remains were scattered everywhere across the ground, baking under the scorching sun, emitting waves of putrid stench. Those are zombies. Right now, several zombies were wandering aimlessly across the field. What confused me was, why were there zombies in a place bathed in full sunlight? Every anomaly has a reason. Immediately, I walked toward the zombies, wanting to see how they differed from normal zombies. Spotting the silhouette of a living human, the zombies let out low, hoarse growls. Their hunting instincts triggered. They shambled toward me, baring their fangs and claws. But their speed was shockingly slow, like elderly people with mobility issues. Only when I got close did I realize these zombies had grown something on their bodies. Something resembling a hardened, armored cuticle layer. Filled with curiosity, I swung my sword directly at them, slicing one of the zombies clean in half at the waist. Even though it was still effortless, I distinctly felt the resistance increase this time. Looks like the zombies are evolving. I swung my blade a few more times, cleanly and efficiently dispatching the rest of the zombies. Right then, a translucent blue stone dropped out, rolling right to my feet. The system panel also popped up with a notification. Acquired, crystal core blue, not a purple one. However, I remembered that gathering 10 blue ones allowed me to craft a watcher. Placing them in the base as bodyguards wouldn't be a bad idea either. I stuffed the crystal core into my pocket and immediately headed toward the nearest academic building. Just as I got close, I saw over a dozen zombies wandering around. All of them showed little to no fear of the sunlight, and their bodies weren't very stiff either. Much more agile than the ones on the sports field. Are these ones evolving even faster? While I was wondering, the dozen or so zombies had already spotted me, stumbling and sprinting in my direction. But unlike before, 2 of the zombies actually didn't move. Instead, they stood perfectly still and let out blood-curdling shrieks. Instantly, shadows began pouring out of the academic building, swarming out from the doors, windows, and other exits. A massive horde of normal zombies seemed to have been summoned. Even though they hadn't spotted me themselves, they surged crazily in my direction anyway, so they even know how to call for backup and gang up on people now. A flash of surprise crossed my eyes, but it was quickly replaced by a hint of disdain. Raising my heavy cleaver, my mind instantly formulated countless combat strategies. This was the effect of the close-quarters combat master, a reward I had obtained earlier, automatically granting me mastery over all forms of cold weapon combat. Accompanied by the sound of tearing air, the sharp blade cleaved through the zombies, slicing through body after body. Immediately following that, I raised my left hand. Wind pressure released. A violent air current instantly materialized in front of me. The howling wind completely drowned out the zombies' roars. Then, right before the wind pressure ended, I chained it with purple flame. The fire instantly spiraled along with the cyclone, engulfing the entire wind zone, landing on the zombie's skin and inflicting horrifying burns. 2 seconds later, the wind zone automatically detonated. Buffed by the purple flame, the effect was like they were hit by a literal bomb. Countless zombies were buried in a sea of fire. The stench of charred flesh filled the air, but it still couldn't stop the hunting desires of the remaining zombies. I wanted to cast wind pressure again, only to find out this thing actually had a cooldown. I couldn't use it again for 20 seconds. Having just annihilated one wave of zombies, they were quickly replaced by another wave, surging toward me like a tidal wave once again. Without the large-scale AoE of the wind pressure, gaps started appearing in my attacks. After swinging my sword a few times and killing several zombies, I realized that if I stayed in the same spot, I would be completely encircled by the horde. The scenario I hated the most was happening. But it wasn't a big deal. A barrier. The Golden Crystal Core's special skill, Defense Field, activated. An invisible wall of air that isolated everything materialized, halting the zombies' advance. And taking advantage of this moment, I directly wreathed my sword in purple flame. By the time I had accumulated enough power, the defense field precisely vanished. I swung with all my might. The purple flame flew out, instantly cleaving through the zombie tide in front of me, and violently combusting, incinerating many zombies. This move was actually pretty handy, but the purple flame required charge-up time. Without charging it, it only gave the sword a fire visual effect. The actual lethality wasn't that high. I still lacked diverse offensive methods. I thought to myself, the zombie hordes I faced before weren't that large. The most I ever fought at once was maybe 100 or so. But this time, just the ones I could see numbered in the hundreds. Adding the ones inside the building together, there had to be at least over 1,000. With this kind of sheer numerical stacking, clearing them out was both time-consuming and exhausting. 20 seconds passed. Wind pressure released again. Wrapped in purple flame, it carved out a path of blood. I literally dashed in and out of the zombie tide, constantly shifting my position, constantly swinging my blade, constantly cycling through my few skills. Gradually, my technique became increasingly proficient. Just when the zombie numbers had sharply dropped by over 300, an anomaly occurred. The zombies, which had been mindlessly charging forward, suddenly stopped in their tracks. I also halted my movements, looking at them in confusion. But then the zombies moved again. Except they didn't charge at me. Instead, they turned around and started running back like maniacs, as if their house had just been broken into. What is the meaning of this? After pondering for 2 seconds, I decided to follow them and take a look. Just as I followed them into the main lobby, suddenly an explosion rang out, followed immediately by a shockwave blasting outward. The zombies were blown to pieces, and I was also caught in the blast radius. Thankfully, my reflexes were sharp. I instantly deployed the defense field in front of me, blocking the shockwave and deflecting several chunks of falling debris. At this point, I couldn't maintain my stoic expression anymore. I absolutely never expected something like this to happen. This isn't a military base, nor is it a chemical plant. Why would there be an explosion? I couldn't figure it out no matter how hard I thought. But the academic building couldn't withstand the damage. It began to crack inch by inch, looking like it was about to collapse. Left with no choice, I had to evacuate the building. My front foot had barely touched the ground outside when another explosion echoed from behind. The tall building couldn't bear the devastation and completely collapsed into rubble. The zombie horde was also buried beneath the ruins. I just stood there, quietly watching everything unfold. Subsequently, I saw several black silhouettes emerging from the dust-filled ruins. There are actually other people here. My brows furrowed slightly. As the dust settled, I finally got a clear look at those people. They were dressed entirely in white, carrying backpacks and wearing masks over their faces. From their figures, I could tell there were both men and women. They were holding something in their hands. Looked like a chunk of meat shaped like a stone block. This mutation speed is way too fast. It hasn't even been half a month and it's already like this. Heh, who knows if that's a good thing or a bad thing? There is no good or bad. The fact that we're still alive is good enough. I'm not wishing for anything else anymore. Wait, there's someone over there. At this moment, my eavesdropping session ended, and I had been spotted. Their gazes instantly locked onto me. If I said I was just passing by, would you guys believe me? I wore an expression of utter helplessness. I really didn't stand here on purpose. Who would have thought that coming out to farm some mobs would trigger a hidden storyline? The special operation of the mysterious organization. In a flash, countless plot developments raced through my mind. Like how the mysterious virus is actually man-made, the goal being to research forced evolution, and crazy scientists wanted to do this and that, ultimately leading to the zombie apocalypse. And these people right here are the main culprits behind the outbreak, etc. But I quickly stopped my wild fantasies, feeling my ideas weren't very realistic, because I had never seen any mysterious organization in the world, with nearly 10 operatives, face off against a single guy like me, and look that nervous. Right now, the people in white were staring at me, their bodies going completely stiff one by one. They looked like they were terrified of me. Then one of them tossed a smoke grenade. Under the cover of the smoke, the group instantly sprang into action. I couldn't see what they were doing at the moment either, but a few seconds later, a jeep sped out from behind the collapsed building, flanked by 3 motorcycles, speeding off in the direction leading out of the campus. So they just ran away? Without saying a single word, just turned around and bolted. Are they here for comedic relief? It was glaringly obvious the zombie outbreak had nothing to do with them. If there really was an organization capable of creating the virus, there's no way they'd act this cowardly. But I didn't plan on just letting this go. After all, these were the first people I had seen here who weren't students, and they literally blew up an entire building. One look, and you could tell they were special. No matter what, I had to catch at least one of them, to interrogate them a bit about their identities. Is the sample secure? Just focus on driving. The people in white inside the jeep communicated. Suddenly, the man sitting in the passenger seat had his face drastically change. Did I see that right? That guy from just now? Is he catching up to us? Catching up to us? Are you kidding me? The driver immediately checked the rearview mirror. The expression under his mask instantly froze solid. He saw a human silhouette holding a sword, using a completely unscientific speed to inch closer and closer to them. Behind us! Behind us! It's a ghost! The white-clad operative driving a motorcycle screamed at the jeep. If anyone found this scene the most horrifying, it was undoubtedly the 3 people riding the motorcycles. Watching the silhouette getting closer and closer, while they had absolutely zero protective measures on them, it felt like starring in a Final Destination movie. Right then, due to sheer panic, one of the motorcycle riders lost their balance and crashed into a fire hydrant. The entire bike flipped over. The driver and the passenger on that bike were sent flying. And seeing the silhouette behind them about to catch up, the person on the ground who was less injured frantically scrambled up, righted the motorcycle and hopped back on. Save me! At this moment, the other severely injured person reached out a hand towards their partner, begging for help. The person on the motorcycle shuddered violently. They only hesitated for 0.3 seconds, before decisively and rapidly starting the engine, gradually speeding away from her. At this time, the abandoned operative in white looked at the convoy disappearing into the distance, her eyes filled with absolute despair. Finally, unable to bear the pain from the crash injuries, her consciousness grew increasingly blurry. And just like that, she passed out. At this moment, the woman's abdomen had been pierced by something unknown. Blood was profusely flowing out. The mask she was wearing had also shattered, revealing a delicate, exquisitely beautiful face that evoked pity. Because of the injury, the woman's face had also turned pale, making that uniquely elegant face look even more moving. With injuries this severe, even rushing her to an ER would barely save her. But thankfully, I had the healing spell I got from Serafina. This skill, besides not being able to cure the common cold, could heal literally anything else. As for why it couldn't cure a cold, the system's explanation was that a cold is the human immune system working properly. It's not classified as an illness or negative status, so it can't be healed. When I returned to the collapsed building again, I started digging for the crystal cores that dropped earlier. After working my butt off for half the day, I only managed to search through about 100 zombies, but I acquired 22 blue crystal cores and 2 purple crystal cores. Looking at the crystalline stones in my hand, I directly opened the system, selected the Watcher blueprint, submitted 20 blue crystal cores, and crafted 2 Watchers. Soon, a flash of white light appeared in front of me. 2 androids, as tall as a normal human, materialized. The Watchers were completely white, displaying reassuringly solid steel bodies. They also had 2 gun barrels mounted on their sides. Then, following the system's instructions, I activated the 2 Watchers. Instantly, the 2 androids lit up. Not bad. You guys can help me carry stuff in a bit. I nodded in satisfaction, then tapped on the generator blueprint. With the disappearance of 1 purple crystal core, a highly futuristic, sci-fi-looking generator appeared right before my eyes. Next, I picked up the woman, and bringing the generator and the 2 Watchers, I headed back toward the cafeteria. Meanwhile, Valerie in the cafeteria had finished her usual workout routine and was sitting on the first floor resting. But her mood right now was terrible. It had been so long and I still hadn't returned. It made Valerie, who tended to overthink things, start imagining scenarios she didn't want to accept. As the very first man who ever complimented me, "You better not let anything happen to you, otherwise I'd have no idea how to explain it to your cousin and the others." Valerie thought to herself silently. Who knows how much time had passed. Valerie was even starting to feel a bit sleepy. Only then did she finally see 3 silhouettes approaching outside the window. Valerie immediately shot to her feet, proactively running over to throw the doors wide open. "You're finally back. Are you hurt anywhere?" Valerie carefully inspected me. After not seeing any wounds, her gaze finally shifted to the watchers beside me. "What are these?" "Found them while looking for the generator. The manual said they're a new product from the Academy of Sciences, placed in the university for beta testing, so I brought them back. I used the excuse I had prepared long in advance." Valerie blinked. Seeing my completely deadpan, serious expression, she didn't suspect a thing. "Then did you find the generator?" "Found it." Saying that, I ordered the 2 watchers to walk inside and unload the things they were carrying on their backs. One put down the generator. The other put down a woman dressed in white. "Who is this?" Seeing an extra woman, Valerie was highly confused. "Someone I picked up on the road," I replied, feeling a bit awkward myself. "How do you manage to pick up literally everything?" Saying that, Valerie stepped forward to check the woman's condition. "What kind of functions do these 2 androids have? Have you tested them?" "I tested them. Seems like they're intelligent androids meant to protect residential buildings. They have electromagnetic guns built in. We can use them as guards for the base." I gave the watchers a fake backstory and briefly introduced their functions. Hearing this, Valerie's eyes lit up. "Can you make it shoot once? Let me see how powerful it is." "Sure." I didn't dawdle. Commanded one of the watchers to aim outside the door and fire a single shot. With a loud bang, a tree outside the door was hit. Half of the trunk was blown wide open, leaving it completely charred black. "If that hit a person, it wouldn't just leave a bruise," Valerie said in absolute awe. After that, the generator was handed over to Valerie to study, while I picked up the unconscious woman and placed her inside one of the partition rooms. Only then did I go find Serafina and the others, hugging for a little while, soaking in the warmth. "Where did Nova go? She's sleeping, right? What's wrong? Are you tired of us already?" Bringing another woman back, and then immediately asking for Nova. Saying that, Serafina grabbed my hand, looking at me with incredibly pitiful eyes, looking like she was terrified of falling out of favor. I had actually already completed Serafina's daily check-in. I was originally planning to let Serafina get some rest, but faced with Serafina's overwhelming passion, I could only generate some electricity for love and teach her a tiny little lesson. A long time later, Serafina's face was glowing with a rosy hue, and she didn't dare to act cocky with me anymore. Subsequently, I checked the panel. At this time, Nova was still listed as check-in incomplete. So, wanting to claim the reward, I headed over to Nova's partition room. Right now, Lyra was sleeping soundly, but was suddenly startled awake by a hand landing on her head. She groggily opened her eyes and saw my hand stroking her hair. Her throat was a bit hoarse, so she didn't speak. She just looked at me curiously, wondering what I was trying to do. But in the very next second, failing to recognize that the girl in front of me was Lyra, and firmly believing it was Nova, I cupped this tiny, delicate face and leaned in to kiss those cherry lips. Lyra's pupils instantly dilated. Her brain crashed entirely. Then her body trembled. Her heart practically jumped out of her throat. The blood in her entire body boiled. She couldn't help but let out a soft sound. At this moment, Lyra couldn't help but think back on her 18 years of life experience. She had never been this close to a man before, let alone had any intimate physical contact. Watching me act like I was going to devour her whole, she was absolutely terrified to move a single muscle. All sorts of chaotic thoughts scattered through her mind. Due to lack of oxygen, her eyes began to squint shut. Both of her hands pressed against my chest, hesitating whether she should resist or not. Consequently, it turned into a situation of half resisting, half yielding. Yet she had no idea her exact demeanor right now was precisely what triggered my impulses the most. Slowly, Lyra lost all her strength. The 2 hands blocking me gradually relaxed. Her entire body was pulled tightly into my embrace. Lyra check-in completed. Reward, skill, weakness strike effect. When activated, automatically marks the target's weak points. The familiar system notification chimed. I instinctively looked to check the reward, but suddenly realized something was very wrong. "Lyra?" I immediately looked down and saw an incredibly weak, exhausted girl. One arm covering her eyes, one hand clutching her stomach, her breathing ragged, her face flushed bright red. "Lyra." It was only then that I realized I got the wrong person. Looking at the traces by the bedside, I also instantly sobered up. I used to hear biology trivias saying some people could have it more than once. I thought earlier that it was just a normal occurrence. Turns out, I had the wrong twin. Caspian Appa. The 2 older sisters are going to be mad. Right now, Lyra bit her lip, sniffling pitifully with tears in her eyes. That cute, obedient look actually made a wave of intense guilt wash over me. I wanted to say, "I'm sorry, I thought you were Nova," or something like that, but if I actually said that, it would sound even more completely messed up. Not only would it not help anything, it would literally mean I was saying, I actually wanted your younger sister. I didn't expect it to be you. I accidentally got the wrong person. I'll go find your sister in a bit. Speaking of which, you silly child. Why didn't you just say a single word earlier? If you had said literally anything, I could have told who it was just from your tone of voice. But Lyra just had to stay completely silent. It wasn't until the system gave me the prompt that I finally realized the person in my arms was Lyra. With things having reached this point, I could only muster a simple "I'm sorry." Hearing my voice, Lyra's emotions became a bit agitated, and then, very disappointingly, she started crying out loud. I wiped her tears for her, wondering if I should strategically retreat for a bit. After all, looking at it from another angle, if I try to comfort her right now, wouldn't that be equivalent to just finishing bullying someone, and then saying I didn't do it on purpose? Even though I really didn't do it on purpose. But the damage had already been done. I was just about to get up and give her some space. But the moment I moved my body, Lyra grabbed the corner of my shirt. While wiping her tears, she pleaded aggrievedly, "Don't go. Right now." Lyra felt incredibly insecure. Seeing me trying to leave, her heart panicked even more. Looking at her actions, I stopped trying to get up and pulled Lyra back into my arms. I didn't speak. I really didn't know what to say. Facing thousands of zombies, I handled them with absolute ease. Yet right now, I felt completely at a loss. Thankfully, Lyra cried for a bit, but didn't scream out cliches like "I hate you." And what I didn't know was the reason Lyra was crying so hard actually didn't have much to do with what just happened. The main reason she couldn't stop dropping little pearls of tears was because Nova was being disobedient today, which made her, as the older sister, feel incredibly sad. Add to that the incident from this morning, Serafina and Alara weren't talking to her anymore. Lyra had been suppressing all these negative emotions. With my sudden arrival, Lyra's dam of tears completely burst. As for the aspect of dealing with me, her psychological resistance actually wasn't that strong. It's just that she felt a bit lost on how she was supposed to face me from now on, which caused her heart to hang in suspense, making her extremely anxious. Feeling Lyra's petite body shivering in my embrace, her body heat was also transferring over to me. Like an automatically heated body pillow, a soft, tiny little thing curled up against me. This quiet atmosphere lasted for a while. Lyra was the first to break the silence. "Caspian Appa, why did you do that?" Excellent. Opening right up with a fatal question. Just as I was struggling to find an answer, Lyra actually came up with an answer herself. "Do you like me?" Please forgive Lyra's brain for not being able to think of anything else. In her understanding of the world, only if you truly liked someone, would you ever do that with them? I like you. I just rode the wave of Lyra's logic. But it wasn't exactly a lie either. Who wouldn't like a delicate, weak-bodied, sweet, adorable, pure-hearted little loli who can speak Japanese? Hearing this, Lyra's face flushed even redder. Even though she quieted down, her heart was burning so hot she felt like she was emitting steam. She was practically turning into a steam engine. "Then, Caspian Appa! Next time you want to find me, you can. Actually, just tell me directly." While saying this, Lyra was so nervous her words were a complete jumbled mess. "Wait, no, I don't mean I don't care. I mean, if it's Caspian Appa..." "No, that's not it either. I meant to say, if you really do like me." Lyra stumbled over her words. She had completely lost track of what she was even trying to express. And after all this time, my emotional intelligence had finally rebooted and come back online. Looking at the shy Lyra who didn't even dare to open her eyes, I proactively pinched Lyra's chin. "Then, may I ask, can I kiss you right now?" Gulp. Lyra swallowed hard. Her heart, which had just barely calmed down, started racing again. She mumbled vaguely and gave a tiny nod, trying to signal her consent. Looking at Lyra with her eyes squeezed shut, I placed both my hands over her ears, isolating some of the external noise for her. Instantly, Lyra felt as if she were submerged underwater. Her focus became incredibly hyper-concentrated. Unable to hear the chaotic noise of the outside world, she could only hear her own heartbeat and the rhythmic sound of my breathing. With her eyes closed and her ears covered, Lyra felt her body's sensory perception drastically heightened. She could clearly feel me leaning in. And then, her mouth was sealed. This incredibly vivid, almost dreamlike experience made Lyra experience a level of joy she had never encountered before. With a slight bit of guidance from me, Lyra actually started actively reciprocating. Looking at how things were escalating, it seemed like this was going to take up a bit more time. But just as things were getting intensely intimate, a silhouette appeared, directly shattering the mood. Sister, standing at the doorway of the partition, Nova, wearing a nightgown, stared blankly at everything happening in front of her. Hearing Nova's voice, Lyra was scared completely witless. Opening her eyes, she saw Nova looking back with a dark, gloomy expression. "Nova, listen to my explanation." Lyra really desperately wanted to say that, but she temporarily couldn't speak. It wasn't until I let go that she was finally able to talk to her sister. But then Lyra realized she seemed to have absolutely no grounds to explain anything. "It's not what you think," Lyra frantically and clumsily tried to fix her somewhat messy clothes, while Nova watched with a face full of absolute shock. "It's over. It's completely over." At this moment, Lyra felt like crying but had no tears left. Anything she said now would sound so incredibly hollow, especially since she had spent all morning lecturing Nova. telling her she absolutely wasn't allowed to do those kinds of things. And then this afternoon, Nova catches her, making out with me. Her dignity as an older sister in front of Nova was completely and utterly shattered. While Nova, after standing frozen for 3 seconds, her brain rapidly went into overdrive, attempting to analyze the situation playing out in front of her. Finally, she arrived at a conclusion. Her base had been stolen. Realizing this point, Nova fell into deep thought once again. After a rigorous left brain right brain coordinated deliberation session, Nova arrived at another conclusion and devised a counter strategy. Immediately, she kicked off her slippers, patted her little bare feet and jogged right over. Then, with an accidental slip of her foot, executed a picture-perfect, flawless flat-ground trip. Falling directly toward me, I also naturally opened one arm to catch her, pulling Nova into my embrace. But I forgot my right arm was still holding Lyra. So after pulling Nova in, I accidentally smushed the two of them right up against each other. Looking at this aesthetically flawless, beautiful picture, I, a man who usually lacks patience, suddenly became incredibly patient. Nova didn't say a word. She just tilted her head up and gently kissed me. "Nova, why are you doing this again?" Lyra instinctively grabbed Nova, looking very angry. But before she could even start scolding, she suddenly remembered she had absolutely zero right to criticize her anymore. So she swallowed the rest of her words back down. Nova looked at Lyra, completely ignoring Lyra's attempt to lecture her. Instead, she reached out and grabbed her and planted a kiss right on Lyra's cheek. Even though she didn't say anything, her expression practically screamed, "It's okay, I forgive you. Let's just live happily together from now on." "What the hell is going on?" Lyra screamed internally. She felt that this was just so fundamentally morally incorrect. How was this allowed? But then again, she didn't seem to feel any resistance to it, and her sister wasn't angry either. So it seemed it wasn't exactly not allowed. Wait, why had she suddenly fallen into degeneracy so fast? But falling into degeneracy didn't seem to be a bad thing either, except that facing Sister Mukshoa and Sister Alara later was going to be incredibly awkward. At this very moment, Lyra's heart was torn with inner conflict, but her body was being extremely honest. She had been hugging me for half the day, and showed absolutely zero intention of letting go. She even sneakily scooted a little higher up. As for Lysra's current mental state, my experience points in this area were already maxed out. You could even say I had god-tier comprehension of it. After all, Alara was practically my own personal masterpiece. Immediately, I took a glance at the check-in incomplete tag on Nova's panel, and chose the most decisive course of action, bringing Lyra along for a round 2, using this method to completely shatter all those messy, conflicting thoughts in her brain. In the end, the conflict between Lyra and Nova was successfully mediated and resolved by me. The two sisters intertwined their fingers. Using gazes as soft as water, they looked deeply into each other's eyes. Then, both of them looked up at me, their other hands naturally resting within my own. After that, Lyra collapsed into a soft puddle, just like Serafina from before. She was simply too exhausted. The moment she closed her eyes, her little head drooped and she fell fast asleep. I also really wanted to rest for a bit, but remembering the woman I picked up on the road, so, after coaxing Nova to sleep, I headed over to the partition room where I placed the woman, only to find she still showed no signs of waking up. Having no other choice, I decided to manually wake her up. But because the girls I usually interacted with were Seraphina and Alara, with whom I did interesting things, my hand hovered in mid-air. For a moment, I honestly didn't know where I was supposed to poke her. Finally, I just poked the woman's cheek. Seeing she still wasn't waking up, I sighed, while simultaneously pulling back the fabric on her lower abdomen, which was stained with dried blood. When she was injured, she lost a massive amount of blood. Her entire abdomen area was stained red. To keep things clean, I had to take off her outer coat and shirt to wash them, revealing warm, pale skin. Down towards her lower abdomen, 2 perfect V-lines accented the woman's incredible figure. And right at this moment, the sleeping woman also gradually regained consciousness, sensing that someone was doing something to her. Am I dead? Where is this? Heaven! Why is it so cold? The woman slowly opened her eyes. A light bulb happened to be shining directly above her head, piercing her eyes uncomfortably. After adjusting to the light, she finally saw the unfamiliar environment around her. I'm not dead. Just as confusion started filling her mind, my silhouette appeared in her line of sight. In the very next second, her nerves went completely taut. Relying almost entirely on pure instinct, she violently sat bolt upright and scooted backward. Watching the woman's reaction, I found it a bit amusing. This really breaks my heart. I went through all that trouble to save you, and the first thing you do upon waking up is repay me like this. I shifted my gaze downward, looking at the place where the woman had been injured. Following my gaze, she also looked down at her own abdomen. In her memory, her abdomen had suffered a devastating blow and was bleeding uncontrollably. Yet right now, her abdomen was completely flawless. The skin even looked softer than before. You saved me? The woman touched her own abdomen, looking at me with a mix of shock and suspicion. Yep, I acted completely naturally, without adding a single unnecessary word, looking exactly like a genuine good Samaritan, which also made her lower her guard quite a bit. Thank you, but The woman's voice was mature and intellectual, carrying a vibe that was both authoritative and cold, highly penetrating, not as lively as a young girl's, but listening to it made your entire body feel incredibly comfortable. However, I was in no mood to appreciate it right now. I raised my hand and cut her off. I assume you want to ask how such a severe injury healed so fast. And where is this place? Who am I? And similar questions, right? The woman looked at me, slightly taken aback. On that face of hers, which rarely showed large expressions, a flash of obvious unease appeared, like a child whose little secrets had just been completely seen through. Even though anyone could have guessed these questions, she still felt a chill run through her. Wait, no, it wasn't just a chill in her heart. She literally felt a chill on her body too. The woman, who had only been focusing on her injuries and hadn't noticed any other anomalies, finally realized at this moment. Her outer coat and shirt were completely gone. She frantically tried to find something to cover herself, only to find there was absolutely nothing around, so she could only cross her arms and hug herself tightly. Her cold, aloof face also flushed a deep red, making her look even more alluring than when she was just sitting there doing nothing. Forgot to tell you, your injuries were too severe, you were covered in blood, and I don't have any spare clothes here, so we had to make do, I explained with a perfectly straight face. The woman didn't get angry over this. It was completely understandable, but her sense of shame didn't decrease by a single fraction. Watching the woman's expression, I finally took off my own jacket and handed it over to her. If you don't mind, put this on for now. You can call me Caspian, the owner of this sanctuary, and also the guy who picked you up. Thank you. My name is Harper. No need to be polite, since I've answered your questions. Now, could you answer some of mine? I walked a few steps closer and sat down across from her. Oh right. Before that, do you want to join me first? If anything comes up or you're unsatisfied, you can leave at any time. All right. Harper thought about it and didn't refuse, but actually what she really wanted to say was, you didn't seem to tell me exactly how my injuries were magically healed? The system's notification chimed right on cue. Harper age 25, rating reward. Blueprint communicator penned 1 blue crystal core to craft a communicator that ignores signal jamming, allowing for contact at any time. Are you saying that zombie was you? Harper was incredibly shocked. Yep, I nodded my head. I genuinely thought Harper had recognized me. I never expected that. Up until this very moment, Harper didn't know the guy holding the sword was actually me. But Harper's misunderstanding also solved my own confusion. No wonder they bolted the moment they saw me. They literally mistook me for a special infected. I admit I was covered in blood at the time, and probably looked a bit terrifying, but I clearly spoke to them, didn't I? Couldn't you guys hear me? I think I did hear something, but your voice was too quiet. I thought it was just a zombie groaning. Harper rubbed her hands awkwardly. You really couldn't blame her for thinking I was a zombie. At the time, all she saw was a guy covered not just in blood, but also draped in various zombie spaghetti. There wasn't a single trace of humanity left in that visual. Harper secretly roasted me in her mind, but suddenly she realized a massive plot hole. Wait, if that was you, then the thing chasing us was also you. Harper instantly tensed up. Looking at my warm, gentle face, she felt a freezing chill shoot right up her spine. A human outrunning a vehicle that is clearly outside the realm of humanity, which means he's not human. Harper's series of micro-expressions were entirely captured by my eyes. It wasn't hard to guess what she was thinking. My playful nature instantly flared up. Looking at the terrified Harper, not only did I not explain, I even revealed an enigmatic, sinister smile. Looks like you figured it out. Saying that, I took 2 steps forward. At this moment, Harper's heart was practically in her throat. Her body was so stiff she couldn't move an inch. Cold sweat rolled down her forehead. Then, I leaned my face right up to Harper's ear, and using a deep, dark voice, I whispered, actually, I was the one who caused the zombie outbreak. Guess who I really am? You are. At this moment, Harper linked everything to absolute nightmare scenarios. Her small face turned completely pale. Her original cold, aloof demeanor shifted entirely to a look of sheer, trembling panic. I was just messing with you. Watching the expression on Harper's face turn to bewildered shock, and then, realizing she had been trolled, gradually turning bright red, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. While Harper's emotions felt like they had just ridden a massive roller coaster, she felt that this man who indirectly caused her disaster but also saved her life. Even though he looked refined and elegant, he had a surprisingly twisted sense of humor. All right, those unimportant things. You'll figure them out eventually. I still have a few other details I need to ask you about. What do you mean unimportant things? How can such mind-bending, bizarre events be described as unimportant? Harper screamed internally. Last question. Tell me, did you lie to me just now? No. Looking into my eyes, which felt like they could pierce right through her soul, Harper blurted out the answer. Hearing this, I nodded in profound satisfaction, quietly staring at the system panel. Harper hypnotized. Yes, at this moment, I had applied an effect to her. Cannot lie to me. My favorite kind of kids are the honest ones. Even though this kid was technically older than me, but that wasn't a big deal. It didn't hinder my performance. Starting today, you'll live here. Of course, if you want to leave, you can leave at any time. I won't stop you. Hearing this, Harper's expression shifted slightly. I want to go back. Harper's words were shocking. I paused, feeling a bit confused. Logically speaking, she was completely abandoned by them. She shouldn't want to go back at all. It's like this. My parents and my younger sister are all at the base. They are also part of the team. I want to. She still wanted to continue speaking, but I had already cut her off. I wasn't angry, nor was I disappointed. Everything remained exactly the same. I understand. You get some rest for now. When I have time, I'll escort you back. Do you want me to introduce you to the others? I've got some business to take care of these next 2 days, so you might have to stay here for a day or two. Harper stared at me blankly and gave a light nod. She had just imagined all sorts of reactions, thinking I would be angry or disappointed or try to force her to stay. The one thing she absolutely didn't expect was this kind of calm response. But the less I seemed to care, the more Harper felt that she had wronged me immensely. Caspian, quick, come look at what I found. You'll never guess. Those 2 androids you brought back actually have all sorts of fun functions, able to run over this happily and acting this silly and oblivious. It couldn't be anyone else but Valerie. This is... Valerie blinked. Recalling something, she suddenly realized, is this the person you brought back earlier? Yep, I just chatted with her for a bit. Her name is Harper. She's a survivor from outside. Seems like she's also a scientist involved in research. You introduce her to the others. Seeing Valerie so excited, I simply handed this task over to her. No problem, but you gotta come look at these 2 androids first. They are so interesting. What's going on? I hadn't actually researched the Watcher's specific functions, so I had no idea what Valerie was talking about. You'll see when you come over. Oh right, forgot to introduce myself. My name is Valerie. Valerie looked closely at Harper, not quite sure how she should address her. So she hesitantly said, I'm 20 years old this year. Can I call you big sister? Sure, I'm 25. The 25-year-old Harper lowered her head, suddenly feeling a tiny bit of age-related inferiority. She never expected the people here to be so young. When I went downstairs with the 2 of them, I saw that the dimly lit first floor was now illuminated by dazzling neon lights, shining in all sorts of colorful hues, making it look like a massive KTV lounge. 3 girls were already there, standing right between the 2 glowing Watcher androids, dancing to a lively routine. Their dance moves were pretty great. It's just that the clothes they were wearing were still regular casual wear, not quite suitable for my personal viewing pleasure. Should I go out and bring some new clothes back? At this time, Alara and the other girls were standing on the sidelines watching as the audience. A sense of relaxation and joy that absolutely didn't belong in the apocalypse rushed over us. The person who felt this the most was Harper. During her previous survival days, she had spent every waking moment in a state of high tension. There was basically 0 time to relax. She had to help with experiments every day and go out to scavenge for supplies, constantly hovering on the edge of life and death. Looking at the scene before her now, Harper couldn't help but feel a long-lost sense of peace and security. They can even play music and stuff, and they are super intelligent. They even have a conversation function. It's just like chatting with a real person, Valerie said while explaining, while secretly reaching out a hand and poking me in the waist. I really can't believe it, that you actually brought these things back from the outside. You're pretty amazing, huh? Valerie wasn't just referring to the Watchers, but also that highly unscientific generator. These items didn't just solve their survival problems, they also resolved a ton of hidden security risks. As the former leader of this base, Valerie felt deeply gratified. It's no big deal. You come out with me tomorrow. I want to go pick out some clothes. Clothes? As if a magic keyword had been triggered, Valerie's eyes instantly lit up. Seems like you really love buying new clothes. No, I don't like it. It's just that having only 1 set of clothes is indeed too shabby. If we can bring some clothes back, that's not a bad thing, right? Valerie defended herself with a guilty conscience, but suddenly she tacked on another sentence. It's definitely not because I like wearing cute clothes or anything. Wait, why did I just blurt out the truth? Valerie facepalmed, doubting if her fever had come back. Why is it that whenever she faced Caspian, she subconsciously wanted to tell the absolute truth and didn't want to hide anything? Meanwhile, my gaze swept over Valerie's athletic, shapely figure, scanning up and down, left and right, looking at her so intently that Valerie's face flushed bright red. Caspian suddenly, a gentle voice drifted over. Alara walked right up. She first took a glance at Harper, a flash of confusion crossing her eyes. However, she didn't ask any questions. Completely ignoring Harper, she hugged my arm and leaned against my side like a delicate little bird. At this time, the girls who were enjoying themselves also noticed my arrival. They stopped their respective entertainments and flocked over to my side one by one, looking at me with gazes full of adoration and joy. Big brother Caspian, are you well rested? Do you want me to massage your shoulders? I can do it too, Caspian Appa. You guys are amateurs. Big brother Caspian, come with me. I'm a dance major. I can give you a private lesson. Daphne, you scheming fox. What do you mean scheming? You're obviously the one he's been working hard for so long, practicing some yoga to loosen up his muscles and prevent injuries. What's wrong with that? In just a few short sentences, the girls started bickering back and forth. However, they all heavily expressed their immense enthusiasm for me. These girls, even knowing full well that Serafina was my girlfriend, still constantly spoke slightly out-of-line words, as if testing the waters step by step. Of course I didn't mind in the slightest, and the others didn't dare to mind either, except for the pure and innocent Valerie. Hey, what are you guys doing? I told you to be nice to Caspian, but I didn't mean it like this. Serafina is still upstairs, you know? At this time, Valerie stood by my side, voicing her protests toward her own girls. Ahem, Sister Xiaoya, you don't understand, and we don't blame you. Valerie's good sister patted Valerie on the shoulder, revealing a smile that screamed, those who know. No, are you kidding me? Serafina and Caspian practically never hung out, just the two of them. Alara was always following right beside them, and those two sisters, Lyra and Nova, were also incredibly intimately close to Caspian. Only Valerie would be naive enough to think that Serafina was the only one who had a relationship with Caspian. Alara is his cousin. What kind of cousin acts like that? The girls looked at Alara, who was leaning against me, her face slightly flushed pink. In their hearts, every single one of them understood the assignment. However, they still respected Valerie. Seeing her oppose it so strongly, they didn't do anything too overboard. The things they said instantly became family-friendly and wholesome. Valerie stood frozen in place, her CPU desperately trying to process the data. She didn't know what was going on. Everyone clearly didn't explicitly say anything, but she felt like she had just been invisibly roasted. She didn't understand. Isn't Serafina his girlfriend? What part of that did she not understand? Valerie felt sullen and depressed. But remembering she still had to introduce Harper to everyone, she quickly broke this pointless, awkward atmosphere and shifted to the next topic. After introducing Harper to the crowd, the girls' reactions were massive. Although Harper wasn't very talkative, surrounded by their overwhelming enthusiasm, the atmosphere became extremely harmonious. It didn't take long for Harper to be dragged away by them, plunging straight into girl talk topics. Seeing them getting along so well, Valerie finally breathed a sigh of relief. And then, she noticed the zero-distance gap between Alara and me. Even if Alara was his cousin, and it was normal to be close, was acting like this right now truly considered normal? Valerie finally sensed something was off. Combining it with what everyone had just said, Valerie's CPU finally finished its calculation and arrived at a very special possibility. No, Valerie, how can you think of other people like that? Stop thinking about it. The more Valerie thought about it, the hotter her face got. She hastily slammed the brakes on her wild imagination. Soon evening arrived. Tonight, I originally planned to just go straight to sleep. But before closing my eyes, I took a look at Serafina. That beautiful sleeping face of hers truly made a man's heart itch unbearably. Thinking back to my miserable life before, and getting angry at Serafina just remembering it. Seeing her sleeping so soundly now, I really wanted to wake her up and make her sleep all over again. This idea wasn't entirely impossible, so I reached my hand toward the soundly sleeping Serafina. Target locked onto her face. Just as I was about to touch her, Serafina suddenly shifted her body. Without opening her eyes, she accurately snuggled right up to my chest. One tiny hand grabbed my collar. She lowered her head and buried her face into my body, as if she wanted to drill right inside me. I paused for a second, ultimately pulling my hand back, giving up on this little prank. Instead, I hugged the soft young girl, warm, cozy, and incredibly comfortable. When the sun rose the next day, after confirming the massive zombie hordes had hidden away, I took Valerie and left the cafeteria. As for whether the newcomer, Harper, would harbor any bad intentions, or try to pull some shady tricks, I had already considered that. So before leaving, I had applied hypnosis to every single person, completely eliminating the possibility of internal conflict or anyone trying to stage a betrayal. The reason I brought Valerie along was also very simple. Valerie was capable of doing heavy lifting and manual labor. Among everyone in the base, Valerie had the absolute best stamina. Are you familiar with the clothing stores around here? Walking in front, I asked Valerie. Not really. Valerie looked deeply ashamed. Even though she was a girl, her knowledge of the nearby shops was strictly limited to which restaurants tasted the best. Speaking of restaurants, that reminded her of her absolute favorite 1,000-mile barbecue meat restaurant. It's a pity she'd never get to eat there again. At this moment, I noticed Valerie swallowing hard, her eyes filled with a longing, dreamy expression. I had no idea why asking her about clothes would make her drool, but seeing Valerie swallowing her saliva, I also thought about food. I smacked my lips, finding my mouth feeling a bit empty and lonely. This is the most torturous part of the apocalypse. We have survival supplies, but the supplies are basically all the exact same thing. You get sick of eating it real fast. Especially since the cafeteria's seasonings were all gone. A pile of pork could only be boiled as plain white meat. At best, we could render some lard and stir-fry it to extract a limited amount of flavor. Right now, I really miss the days of ordering takeout and eating a hot bowl of braised chicken and rice. Even if it was a cheap group buy meal, I'd take it. I remember there's a clothing store to the south. After we grab the clothes, let's go check out the nearest supermarket too. Oh, okay. Although neither of us explicitly mentioned food, we were both telepathically thinking about the exact same thing. Soon we walked out of the campus area. We hadn't taken many steps when we ran into a zombie. It didn't hide from the sunlight, but it wasn't as stiff as the zombies from before either. It was lying on the ground, soaking in a puddle of dirty water. When it spotted me, it violently sprang up and lunged over, baring its fangs and claws. Looking at this zombie, which was even more disgusting and smelled even more putrid than the others, I swung my sword in pure disgust, slicing its body clean in half. Instantly, the foul liquid inside its body spilled out, dripping onto the ground and emitting a sizzle sound, bubbling up like acid. What's going on? Why is it out here when there's sunlight? Having not stepped out the door for days, Valerie's understanding of zombies was still stuck on the impression that they feared sunlight and wouldn't proactively come out during the day. Forgot to tell you, these zombies are evolving very fast. There have been ones unafraid of sunlight for a while now. Then, I poked around the zombie with my sword. Didn't expect to only find one blue crystal core. I instantly lost interest. I thought this new zombie variant would drop at least a purple core. Didn't expect it to still be blue. What is that? Valerie leaned in curiously. A crystal core, something you can slot into a weapon to grant a person some power boosts. Are you messing with me? Even a toddler wouldn't believe a line like that. If that's real, I'll literally offer myself to be your slave. Valerie roasted me without a second thought, completely failing to notice that on the side of the building she had just walked close to, a zombie hanging from the second-floor windowsill, directly dive-bombed right at her. By the time Valerie saw the zombie, it was already too late for her to react. Just as she was panicking in sheer terror, I raised my hand and cast an instant wind pressure, directly blowing the mid-air zombie flying away, followed immediately by a wisp of purple flame, which rode the wind and wrapped around the zombie. Looking at the zombie rolling around on the ground, twitching violently as it burned, Valerie was still staring blankly in a daze. What just happened? Valerie asked blankly. Used a little trick whose little trick is so absurdly overpowered that it can send a zombie flying through the air. So, everything you said was true? Having witnessed a scene that shattered her understanding of reality with her own eyes, Valerie finally started to believe a little bit about the crystal cores. Why would I lie to you? I gently patted Valerie's shoulder and whispered softly into her ear. As for the slave thing, we'll talk about it when we get back. No rush for now. Hearing this, Valerie's little heart skipped a beat. The shock towards the unknown supernatural powers in her heart was actually completely overwritten by the words, "Be your slave." Wait, I was just joking. She didn't dare to imagine the scenes of everyone hanging out together in the future. Others would be calling Caspian Oppa or hubby, and she'd have to call him master? I was joking too. I maintained my smile, but the answer felt extremely perfunctory. This made Valerie, who had taken it seriously, suddenly feel like a massive clown. It felt like punching a pile of cotton and then accidentally tripping yourself, rolling across the floor in embarrassment. Suddenly, a flower pot teetering on a balcony, pushed by a passing gust of wind, fell with pinpoint accuracy right toward Valerie's head. Right before the flower pot smashed down, I reached out and gave her a gentle tug, pulling Valerie over to me. Valerie felt herself stumble one step and directly plunged into my embrace. Her body pressed flat against my chest, pressing so hard her assets were deformed. Can I get up now? Valerie blushed brightly, looking up at me from below. This angle, combined with her outfit, also gave me a fantastic view of the high-altitude scenery. I thought your legs turned to jelly and you couldn't get up. If you're fine, I'll let go. I spoke in a tone pretending it was completely accidental. Oh, I'm totally fine. Valerie hurriedly stood up straight, running her fingers through her hair, adjusting her appearance. Be careful. If I wasn't here, you would have died twice already. I know. Thank goodness you're here. I honestly don't even know how to repay you anymore. Then you better think about it really hard. I'm quite fond of people who know how to repay gratitude. I teased her, watching the show unfold. Without waiting for her to answer, I waved my hand and started walking elsewhere. Meanwhile, in Valerie's heart, she was still agonizing over exactly what method to use to repay a double life-saving debt. Should I really pledge my body to him? At this time, inside a clothing store on the street, after I had swept the surrounding zombies completely clean, I started hauling the clothes inside the store. But Valerie's brain was completely filled with the phrase, "pledge my body to him." She couldn't muster even a shred of interest. In this apocalyptic $0 shopping spree, wherever she walked past, she just blindly grabbed whatever clothes were there and stuffed them into a sack, until I finally called for her to stop. I know you might like wearing this kind of stuff, but the others probably won't. You should come over here and grab some normal clothes. I pointed behind me. Valerie still didn't understand what I meant, until she looked down and saw that she was holding a piece of clothing that consisted of only a single layer of translucent sheer mesh. Wearing it would literally be no different than wearing nothing at all. When Valerie and I returned to the base, it was already afternoon. Led by Lyra, the whole group of girls was waiting at the door to welcome us. However, I took a quick scan and didn't see Seraphina or Alara. The two older sisters seemed to be sleeping. I just saw them together earlier. Lyra noticed my confusion and started explaining, then let them sleep. Saying that, I dropped the bags of clothes, telling the girls to pick whatever they wanted. Instantly, the eyes of the entire group of girls lit up. They hadn't worn new clothes in a very long time. Some didn't even have a change of clothes. However, none of them rushed to grab anything. Instead, they swarmed me and Valerie, asking if we were okay and showing concern. Only after a good while did they start picking out clothes. The girls also directly changed into their new outfits, not shying away from the fact that I was still sitting right there. They freely displayed their beautiful sides to the fullest, making me, just sitting there, feel my interest getting increasingly piqued. Two girls in particular proactively came over, leaning against my left and right sides. Big brother Caspian treats us so well. How do you think we should thank you? A girl named Daphne gently rested her hand on my arm. First, she poked me with her fingertip, slowly testing the waters. Seeing that I wasn't disgusted by it, her movements became progressively bolder. Big brother Caspian must be tired, right? Let me give you a massage. The girl on the other side wasn't about to lose either. A pair of delicate, slender jade hands gently kneaded my shoulders, giving me the distinct feeling that she wasn't trying to massage me, but was actively trying to seduce me. Hazel, just a massage isn't enough. Aren't you an art major? Why don't you find some time to take Big Brother Caspian and have a deep private discussion about art? I do want to play with Big Brother Caspian alone, but I also can't just interrupt Big Brother. Hazel leaned in closer while massaging, until the distance reached a point where the two of them would continuously brush against each other. Relying on her assets, which were significantly larger than Daphne's, she seized the absolute initiative. Caspian Appa, tell us, when can we come find you to play? The two girls mimicked Lyra's usual way of addressing me. However, I didn't react much to it. But it did make Lyra, who was secretly observing the situation from the side, flush bright red in the face. So using the word Appa actually sounds this cheesy and completely cringe? She didn't even notice it when she said it herself. But hearing someone else yell Appa gave Lyra literal goosebumps all over. Should I change how I call him? But on second thought, Lyra decided against it. After all, I was the one who told her to call me that. Maybe I just really liked hearing it. Oppa, say something if you don't like me. Just tell me, I promise I won't come be an eyesore in the future. Saying that, the two girls tugged and pulled at me, making the other girls watch with eager anticipation. But most of them were more reserved, not daring to be as open and bold as these two. I'm quite busy today. If you want to play, come find me when I have some free time. Saying that, I wrapped one arm around each of them. After a secret, subtle interaction, I nudged the two of them back into the crowd of girls. Receiving my answer, the two of them instantly felt a surge of joy in their hearts, nodding obediently, shooting me flirtatious, suggestive glances with their eyes. My gaze didn't linger for too long. Instead, it shifted over to Lyra and Nova. Lyra, missed you. Come give me a hug. Ah! Lyra jumped in shock. She saw that I wasn't hiding it at all. There were still so many people watching. Walking up to my side, Lyra tilted her head back, blinking her big eyes at me. Because of the height difference, she could only wait for me to bend down and pick her up. This made Lyra feel a tiny bit awkward inside. I immediately scooped Lyra up into my arms. She was petite and exquisite, even softer than a body pillow. Plus, she came with a built-in constant temperature system. Holding her in my arms felt absolutely incredible. Lyra endured the shyness of being secretly stared at by everyone. Her small hands tightly gripped my collar, pressing close to my ear. Oppa, Nova and I prepared a gift for you just now. Do you want to come see? Lyra's warm breath traveled along my ear to my nerves. My interest was instantly ignited. Where are we going to look at it? Or do you want to show me right here? Not here! Let's go back upstairs! Lyra spoke with a face burning completely red. All right. Wearing an expression of absolute doting, I carried Lyra upstairs. As for Nova Ever, since she went upstairs to change clothes, she hadn't come back down, probably still waiting up there. Meanwhile, the girls in the sanctuary, seeing me leave with Lyra, all had their own thoughts running through their minds, but they quickly stopped overthinking it and started organizing the supplies we brought back. Only Valerie alone sat in the corner, staring blankly into space. Who knows what she was thinking about? Following Lyra's directions, I walked into one of the private partition rooms. Pushing the door open, I saw Nova, who had changed into a new outfit, waiting there with her cute little mouth pouting. At this moment, the outfit Nova was wearing looked incredibly familiar to me. It was the exact same sheer top Valerie had picked out earlier. Incredibly thin and incredibly transparent, a sheer mesh top functioning as nothing more than a jacket. Furthermore, Nova was wearing black stockings on her legs and a pair of cat ear hair accessories on her head, accentuating her adorable face even more. Caspian Appa, wait for me a second. Lyra wiggled out of my embrace, then ran behind a curtain. A moment later, wearing an identical pair of hair accessories and wearing white stockings, she walked out. Right now, Lyra's face was red all the way to her ears. She didn't dare to say a single word. She grabbed Nova's hand, trying to find a sense of security from her own younger sister. To think she had protected Nova for so long, and when it came down to this, she ended up hiding behind Nova instead. It wasn't until who knows how much time had passed that I finally carried the two sleeping sisters out and placed them on a much softer mattress. Just as I was about to go grab a drink of water, I turned around and saw Alara's silhouette. Sister Mukshu and I prepared a gift for you. Do you want to come take a look? Sure. Hearing those incredibly familiar words, I couldn't help but feel suspicious. But I still followed Alara into the room they shared, and then I saw it. With their fingers intertwined, leaning against each other, Serafina and Alara. The two of them weren't as nervous as Lyra and Nova, but the gazes they shot toward me were so intensely sticky and passionate, making me instantly feel a wave of pressure. Did these four plan this together or something? However, I'm a man who doesn't know how to refuse, so I straightforwardly accepted all of it. But seeing the two of them holding hands, I was still a bit surprised, because Serafina and Alara, ever since that incident, had been like fire and water. Even when the three of us were together frequently, you rarely saw the two of them being this friendly. They always just minded their own business. The sentence they said to each other the most was, "Get away from me." Yet today, the two of them were so harmonious. Also, Serafina's attitude. Her style had undergone a massive shift too. She talked less, and wasn't aggressively trying to fight for my favor like before. She felt significantly more well-behaved. She even put her ego aside, and fully reconciled and cooperated perfectly with Alara. "Caspian, time to eat. What are you guys doing?" "Wait a minute, I'm taking a break," I replied to Valerie, who was outside. "Then hurry up, I'm waiting for you guys." Saying that, Valerie shot a glance at the partition room. Who knows what popped into her head, but she headed downstairs all by herself. Even though she was a bit naive and lacked worldly experience, she could still understand that, which also completely solidified Valerie's previous suspicions, delivering yet another massive psychological shock to her innocent mind. Meanwhile, I leaned against the pillows, resting one hand on Serafina's flat tummy, gently pulling her into my embrace. My eyes, however, fell onto the system rewards. Blueprint. Pioneer Intelligent Construction Androids. Costs 20 blue crystal cores to craft. They can generate architectural blueprints based on your descriptions. After providing them with materials, they will commence construction. Reward. Skill. Frost Invasion. Generates a large-scale domain in front of you. Summons ice spikes within the area to attack enemies. Reward. Passive Empowerment massively enhances all skills originating from crystal cores. Reward. Item Drone, an intelligent flying drone combining combat, medical, transport, scouting, and support capabilities. What's up with you today? After closing the system, I lightly bit down on Serafina's soft pink earlobe. Nothing, I just felt that my personality really wasn't very good. I wanted to change it. Serafina looked up and met my gaze, a flash of expectation crossing her eyes. What did you think of me today? Was I a little more attractive than those two little things? Hearing this, I was stunned for a moment. Looking at the unusually nervous Serafina, I genuinely didn't know how to answer. Seeing me stay silent, Serafina thought I felt she was being too unreasonable, so she quickly opened her mouth to explain. "Look, I cling to you every single day, but you rarely talk to me much, and whatever we do, it feels like you just treat me like a tool. You never compliment me either, and you always sneak off to find the other girls. It doesn't feel like we're dating at all. It must be because my personality is bad, right?" A long string of sentences poured out. Serafina basically completely shattered her own persona right in front of me. Not only was she being incredibly reasonable, she was actually self-reflecting. She was even being understanding to the point of being a bit pitiful, making me feel a little guilty. How was I supposed to respond to this? After thinking it over, I still just leaned down and kissed Serafina's red lips. That soft, moist texture truly made a man addicted. Serafina looked at me, thinking I was going to say something. But to her surprise, I just lowered my head and kissed her again. Serafina blinked. I lowered my head and kissed her again. "What are you doing?" Serafina blushed, being kissed until she was completely dizzy and dazed. "Does this feel like we're dating now?" Serafina froze for a second before finally reacting. "I hate you." After letting out a coquettish whine, Serafina also lifted her head and kissed me back. It really did have the vibe of a sweet, everyday moment between a romantic couple. If only Alara could step outside for a second. And kissed me again. Serafina turned her head and immediately saw Alara, instantly feeling like the warm, romantic atmosphere had been completely shattered by her. Alara also felt very helpless. She wanted to leave too, but she was way too exhausted. She just wanted to lie down a bit longer. She could only watch as Serafina openly flirted. "Caspian, Appa, you guys are finally here. Everyone is waiting for you." When I led the four girls downstairs together, Daphne and Hazel enthusiastically waved their hands at me. Today's meal was incredibly lavish. With all the various seasonings Valerie brought back, plus some canned goods, they managed to cook up the home-style dishes we usually ate in daily life. They even marinated some barbecue meat. Placing it on the table, the aroma filled the entire room. "Hubby, open wide." Saying that, Serafina picked up a piece of meat with her chopsticks and fed it right into my mouth. The other girls let out a collective "whoa," casting envious glances our way, making Serafina's mood incredibly delightful. Alara watched this and copied her, picking up a piece of barbecue meat and feeding it to me. "Opa," Lyra called out softly. I looked over at her, and she immediately swallowed her words. Never mind. She wanted to learn from Serafina too, but in this kind of setting, after thinking about it, she decided against it. It wouldn't look good. That's what Lyra thought. but she forgot she still had a younger sister. Nova picked up a piece of meat. Without saying a single word, she directly shoved it against my mouth to feed me. Nova! Lyra's first instinct was to stop her, but the words reached her lips and transformed into, I'm sitting a bit too far away. Can you help feed him for me too? After being fed by the 4 girls, Hazel, Daphne, and the rest, even though their hands were itching to try it too, they all felt they hadn't reached the level where they could get away with doing that. Except for their big sister Valerie. Everyone's eyes lit up, and they turned their collective gaze toward Valerie. Sister Xiaoya. Someone secretly poked Valerie. Aren't you and Caspian really close? Why don't you go pick up some food for him too? Me? Valerie panicked a bit, because as she watched that warm, harmonious scene earlier, that exact thought had actually crossed her mind too. I think I'll pass. Valerie shook her head and refused. Oh, come on, I see you guys chatting all the time normally. Why not now? Sister Xiaoya, you have to seize the opportunity. I'm full. You guys keep chatting. Saying that, Valerie literally fled the scene, completely ignoring the bewildered looks of the other girls. Valerie's friends didn't understand. They felt Valerie didn't look like she was just shy, nor did she look angry. They honestly couldn't figure out what exactly had happened. Only I took a glance at Valerie's retreating back. After returning to her own partition room, Valerie sat alone in the corner, looking like she had completely shut herself in, one hand gently pressed against her chest, trying to force her body to relax. Her eyes stared at the clothes hanging to the side. These were the ones she picked out from the clothes we brought back. There was a skirt and a set of pajamas. Both were her absolute favorite styles. But even now, she hadn't changed into them. She was still wearing the same everyday tracksuit she always wore. Right at this moment, my hand landed on her shoulder. Who is it? Valerie jumped in shock. Opening her eyes, she saw me walking in. Instantly, Valerie's expression fell into utter panic, becoming incredibly tense. She hurriedly sat up straight, like she was back in military training. Caspian, why are you here? The door wasn't closed. I came to check on you. I mean, shouldn't you be eating right now? Let's put those unimportant things aside for now. Have you figured out what you're going to give me? What do you mean? Valerie's brain short-circuited for a second, failing to remember what I was talking about. Sigh, you're really breaking my heart here. Are you planning on not repaying that double life-saving debt? I put on a purposefully disappointed expression, just remembering what this was about. Valerie immediately started denying it. I am not. I've been thinking about it this whole time. I just couldn't figure out exactly how to thank you. You shouldn't think of me like that. Really couldn't think of anything at all? Why don't you tell me all your ideas? Maybe one of them is exactly the repayment I want. Saying that, I reached my hand out as if to pat her head. Valerie instantly swallowed hard. Her eyes locked onto my movement, but right at the final inch, I pulled my hand back. Valerie, who had just started feeling a bit better, instantly plummeted back into the abyss. But in the next second, Valerie saw my hand change direction and headed straight for her cheek. Just like that, I caressed her left cheek, poking and touching it like I was inspecting a toy. Valerie's violently fluctuating emotions were also thrown into chaos by my actions. Could it be you really don't have a single idea? My voice rang out again. I do! I really, really do! Valerie desperately wanted to answer like that, because she really did have a ton of ideas. It's just that most of them couldn't be broadcast on live TV. She thought about it, and only then spoke with immense embarrassment. If you don't mind, I can work like a horse and toil like a cow for you. Is that okay? Let's skip the horse and cow part. Is there a better method? For example, the phrase that usually sounds very similar to that one? The phrase that sounds similar? Willing to die 10,000 deaths for you. I stayed silent for a long moment, flicked Valerie on the forehead with my finger, and said in a joking tone, what comes after this lowly girl has no way to repay you. Hearing this, Valerie instantly froze. Both of her cheeks rapidly flushed bright red. Even her normally tanned skin looked rosy pink. I will pledge my body to you. In this instant, countless thoughts flashed through Valerie's mind, and she also thought of multiple ways to answer. For example, that's not very appropriate. I'm not worthy. This is moving way too fast. I'm too embarrassed. I'm afraid the other girls will mind. A whole series of phrases like that. But after a full 3 seconds of rigorous contemplation, right now, after saying those words, Valerie immediately lowered her head in pure shyness. Whenever you're ready. Seeing Valerie didn't utter a single word of refusal, my movements grew a bit bolder. I gently pinched Valerie's lips with my thumb. Letting go, I cupped her warm little face with both hands. Valerie had no idea what I was doing, but she just felt incredibly happy. Her face felt as relaxed as if she had just gotten a massage. Unfortunately, I only played around for a bit before pulling my hands back. All right, I need to head back down. If you don't want to go back out, I'll bring some food up for you later. I want to stay here a bit longer. Valerie nodded. She was too embarrassed to go back out anyway. Who knows what the others would think of her? Oh right, Mukshu and the others are tired. They'll probably go to sleep early. Take your time. They're tired. Take my time. Valerie kept repeating these 2 phrases in her mouth, slowly reverting back to the state she was in when sitting in the corner earlier. But this time, she wasn't shutting herself in. Her brain was overheating and needed to cool down. She felt like she had just inexplicably agreed to something incredibly massive. "Come in." My voice was very low, worried about waking up Serafina and Alara. As the partition door opened, Valerie's silhouette peeked inside. She carefully tiptoed, terrified of making even the slightest sound. "Caspian?" Valerie kept her voice to a whisper. That pitiful, moving face of hers carried a hint of pathetic vulnerability. She looked at the two sleeping girls and asked me with deep anxiety, "Do we have to do it here?" "Sure, but if you want to wake them up and have them stare at you, then we can't." Valerie frantically shook her head, her clenched fists tightening even more, trying to use this method to alleviate her nervous emotions. I stood up at this moment and extended a single hand. Valerie tentatively reached out and held my hand. Feeling the searing heat radiating from my palm, Valerie's heart disappointingly started racing again. In the darkness, she couldn't see my expression clearly either, which made her feel incredibly insecure, unsure if I was happy or annoyed, and this worried look of hers was taken in entirely by my eyes. "Calm down, don't have any psychological burdens. This is all perfectly logical and justified. I need to be more mature," Valerie silently chanted in her heart several times. "Stop zoning out, let's go outside." Saying that, I led Valerie out the door. The moment we stepped out, by the faint light coming through the window, my visibility improved drastically. I could completely see Valerie's entire outfit. Tonight, Valerie had made a ton of preparations. She had swapped out her featureless tracksuit and changed into a short skirt and a t-shirt printed with a cute little bear. Her hair looked freshly washed, still carrying that fluffy, blow-dried volume. She smelled incredibly fragrant. Just standing here, I could smell the warm, body heat-infused perfume radiating off her. This was a style Valerie had absolutely never worn before, making me uncontrollably stare a few extra times. And my gaze was naturally noticed by Valerie. "What's wrong? Is there something on my face?" "No, just thought you looked really beautiful." Wanted to look a bit more. Hearing this, Valerie felt like she was floating on clouds from the compliment. Her grip on my hand tightened a little more. Then, she followed me back to her own room. Immediately after, a loud gulp of swallowing saliva was heard. Valerie stood frozen in place, slowly raising her head to look at me. "No one else is here." I nodded my head too, but my body didn't move an inch, just stood there in silence. After standing in silence for nearly 30 seconds, Valerie finally spoke up again. "Didn't you say I was going to repay you? Why are you— I'm tired. You can do whatever you want. I'll just let you know how satisfied I am." "Huh? Huh?" Valerie's pupils experienced a 10-10 magnitude earthquake. "Listen to this. Is this even human language? How was she supposed to know any of this stuff?" For a moment, she was completely at a loss, but she quickly forced herself to calm down, taking a deep breath, suppressing those uncontrollable emotions. "Then, you sit down first." Next, Valerie's brain began rapidly recalling scenes from TV dramas. Caspian, can you close your eyes?" Looking at Valerie's pleading gaze, I smiled and closed my eyes. Seeing this, Valerie finally relaxed and started executing the next step of her master plan. "By the way, this is how you're supposed to do it, right?" Holding a "let's just try and see" attitude, Valerie leaned her face close to mine. Looking at me with my eyes closed shut, she pursed her small lips and planted a kiss right on my cheek. This instantaneous contact directly sent a massive signal to Valerie's brain. Her heartbeat continuously accelerated. Her blood started boiling, like some sort of hidden switch had just been flipped. Next, she kissed my other cheek. Then her gaze landed on my lips. She leaned in closer again, her rapid, hot breath puffing against my face. Subsequently, I felt a coolness on my lips, like pressing against a piece of soft jelly. I didn't expect Valerie's lips to be so incredibly soft and hydrated. It actually gave me a very pleasant surprise. At this moment, Valerie's face was completely red. She wiped her mouth, looking at all this in sheer disbelief, and then, completely out of her own control, she kissed me again. This time, she didn't rush to pull away. She waited a full 5 seconds before slowly pulling back, her eyes gradually turning soft and stringy. I, on the other hand, continued waiting for more surprises. After all, this was a pretty great start. And immediately following that, Valerie wrapped both her hands around my neck, pushing me from a sitting position flat onto the sofa, and then kissed me again. This time it lasted for about 10 seconds before Valerie pulled away again. A few seconds later, Valerie kissed me again, pulled away, kissed again, pulled away, kissed again. I gradually started realizing something was very wrong, but I hadn't lost interest, so I didn't stop her. The result? Half an hour passed just like that. Maybe she got tired of kissing, or maybe Valerie realized she shouldn't only be kissing. She suddenly stopped, shifted her position, and drilled right into my embrace. At 4 a.m., Valerie, who had spent the entire night kissing me, finally startled awake from a dream. Looking at the familiar environment and the familiar me, the slight sense of confusion she felt instantly vanished without a trace. She thought back on what happened yesterday. It seemed she accidentally fell asleep, but there was hugging and kissing and everything. There shouldn't be anything else left to do, right? After all, the TV dramas she watched all played out exactly like this. The pure and innocent Valerie was still pondering this. She looked up and saw my face. She swallowed hard again and stealthily planted another kiss right on my lips. This action also woke me up. I looked at her, feeling slightly exasperated, and Valerie, seeing me wake up, instantly got nervous again. Good morning. How was yesterday? Looking at how shy Valerie was acting, if I hadn't been wide awake the entire time, I would have honestly thought something monumental had actually happened. My review is no comment. I let out a heavy sigh. What's wrong? Did I not do a good job? Or am I just not pretty enough? Do I lack charm? Is my voice annoying? Is my figure bad? Seeing my reaction, Valerie instantly felt like the sky was falling. That's not what I meant. Wait, don't cry. I'm sorry, I didn't do it on purpose. Wah! As Valerie spoke, the tears started flowing, looking wrong to the absolute extreme, making anyone who took one look at her feel an infinite surge of protective pity. All right. You did a great job. You just need a little bit of guidance. I gently pulled Valerie into a hug, lightly patting her on the back, but it seemed she really couldn't be easily coaxed. Feeling helpless, I grabbed the mouthwash from the side and handed it to Valerie, telling her to rinse her mouth. Even though Valerie didn't know why, she still took it and did a simple wash. Feeling a bit better now? Better. Valerie said that with her mouth, but she was still sniffling, and the tears kept falling non-stop. I let out a dumbfounded laugh, pinched Valerie's chin. After being forcefully kissed by her so many times, I finally took the initiative for once. This single action instantly plugged Valerie's sobbing noises and stabilized her emotions significantly. Just as she was still wondering what she had done wrong, her lips were suddenly forced open. Her teeth were also being pried apart. Valerie's eyes went wide as saucers. We can do it like this too? When Valerie felt the invading crisis, she was both terrified and full of anticipation, until a few minutes later, a heavily flushed Valerie had been kissed until her brain was completely mush. Right now, leaning in my embrace, she felt exactly like a little kid. All right, I'll come find you tonight. I'll give you one day to go ask Serafina and the others exactly what you're supposed to do. I won't blame you this time. Valerie leaned tightly against me, breathing softly. She really didn't understand what else there was to do. She just felt that this alone was already pretty amazing. Being able to hug and sleep together was so comfortable. Could there possibly be anything more comfortable than this? I understand. Can you just not leave yet? I want to hug a little longer. Looking at Valerie's humble attitude, I ended up staying for another hour. I really have to go now. If I don't leave, everyone else will wake up. Oh right, notify everyone to gather at noon. We're going to hold a meeting to discuss the location for the new sanctuary. New sanctuary? Do you want to move somewhere else? This place falls way short of my expectations. Of course we're moving. Remember, gather at 11. Saying that, I pressed my cheek against Valerie's warm face. After another long, deep kiss, I finally turned around and headed back to my own room. While Valerie, watching me leave, felt an inexplicable sense of loneliness creeping in. She sighed, shifted her position, moved to the exact spot I had just been lying in. With a slightly flushed face, she pulled the blanket over her head, basking in the lingering body heat. When Valerie finally notified the very last person, she carried an incredibly complex set of emotions and knocked on Serafina and Alara's door. Mukshu, Alara, are you there? Soon the door swung open. Alara, wearing a half-sleeve shirt and shorts, stared at Valerie with those incredibly beautiful eyes. What's wrong? Alara had a fantastic figure. Right now, wearing only thin sleepwear, it was even more pronounced, making Valerie feel incredibly insecure looking at her. She didn't even have the nerve to ask Alara anymore. Terrified the other girl would mock her for being unworthy. Shioya, do you need something? At this time, Serafina also walked over. Towards anyone else, her eyes automatically carried that hint of disdain, that vibe of looking down on everyone. She wasn't doing it on purpose. She just simply couldn't muster up any gentleness for other people, which resulted in the already insecure Valerie seeing the two of them looking at her together, feeling absolutely, utterly terrible. Sorry to bother you. It's nothing. I'll get going now. Right now, the pressure on Valerie was too immense. She completely lacked the courage to bring it up in front of these two. What's her deal? No idea. Watching Valerie flee the scene, the two girls couldn't figure out what that was about either, so they just closed the door and went back to discussing what kind of combo moves could deal the absolute maximum DPS. Meanwhile, at the end of the hallway, Valerie was squatting on the floor, drawing circles in depression. Who was she supposed to ask? Suddenly, a set of footsteps approached. Valerie looked up in confusion and met two pairs of eyes. Sister Xiaoya, what are you doing over here? Lyra and Nova, holding hands, stared at Valerie with faces full of confusion. Seeing the two of them, Valerie's eyes instantly lit up. Lyra! Nova! Oh, thank God you two are here! Valerie hurriedly stood up, excitedly patting the two sisters on the shoulders. She didn't know Serafina and Alara very well. Their relationship wasn't great, but with Lyra and Nova, she hung out with them quite often. These were people she could actually ask. At this moment, Lyra and Nova were even more confused, while Valerie put on an incredibly solemn expression. Please, do you guys know about that? How am I supposed to explain this to you? After hearing Valerie's description, Lyra honestly thought Valerie had lost her mind. How could someone over 18 years old be this completely clueless about the ways of the world? Even she, who claimed to be innocent, understood at least a little bit. Wait, no, that wasn't the main point. The main point was, Caspian Appa has another person now. How is the schedule supposed to be divided now? Lyra, I'm begging you. I promise I won't get in your way, but at the very least I can't disappoint him again today, Valerie pleaded bitterly, bowing her head incredibly low. Sister Xiaoya, it's not that I don't want to tell you, it's just that I don't really get it entirely either, and I have no idea how I'm supposed to explain it to you. If I really had to say it, you just sit or lie on your stomach or lie on your back or whatever, and that's it. What do those mean? I already sat next to him and laid next to him too. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? It means exactly what it means. What does exactly what it means mean? This completely unproductive dialogue went on for a solid half day. Nova, standing to the side, finally couldn't watch this train wreck anymore. She hastily reached out and interrupted the two of them, then waved her hand at Valerie, signaling for Valerie to come closer. Nova, could it be you? Valerie, half doubting, half believing, crouched down next to Nova, and Nova immediately leaned into her ear and began the forbidden whispers of ancient knowledge. Are you kidding me? 20 minutes later, having listened to Nova's tireless, dedicated tutoring, Valerie felt like she had just listened to the whispers of an elder god. No way! No matter how I think about it, that's impossible. There's no way that physically fits, right? It fits! Lyra and Nova both nodded their heads. You guys can do it too? All right then. Hearing that both Lyra and Nova had no problems with it, Valerie thought to herself, I'm definitely not physically weaker than them, so theoretically, it should be fine. It's just, practically, I have no idea how it'll actually go. Thank you. Now I understand everything. Valerie thanked her politely. Nova indicated it was no trouble and curled her finger, whispering softly, I have a plan, a method that will make Caspian even happier. Do you want to hear it? The moment those words dropped, both Valerie and Lyra stared intently at Nova. What method? Please teach me. Follow me. Saying that, Nova led Valerie straight into the dressing room. Valerie looked at the clothes in here, instinctively assuming Nova was going to help her pick out a beautiful, seductive outfit. But completely unexpectedly, Nova walked straight toward the full-length mirror in the dressing room. See this? Take this back to your room, and then point it at yourselves. Make sure both of you can see yourselves in the mirror, and you're good. Valerie's mind instantly generated the visual image, and then she frantically smashed those thoughts to pieces. This is way too shameful. But since Nova said it was okay, she probably wasn't lying to her. Taking the mirror wouldn't hurt. So Valerie followed Nova's instructions and stealthily snuck the mirror away. Standing on the side, Lyra stared at her own younger sister, her tiny eyes filled with massive galaxy-sized confusion. Nova, how did you come up with that? I don't know. I just had a sudden flash of inspiration and thought of it. Right now, Nova looked incredibly cute and innocent, saying the most pure-sounding things. Sigh. Lyra let out a heavy sigh. She herself possessed absolutely zero talent in this specific field. All she knew how to do was say 2 phrases in Japanese. From now on, she was going to have to rely entirely on her sister to carry her. Soon the clock struck 12 noon. Everyone gathered and sat together. The atmosphere was relatively formal. Every single person looked at me with curiosity in their eyes. This was our very first meeting. They had no idea what I was planning to do, but they didn't even need to think about it to know. It was definitely something beneficial for everyone. Since everyone is here, I'll just keep it brief and state the matter we need to discuss. My expression turned a bit more serious, instantly giving off a commanding aura of authority, causing the girls who originally wanted to flirt and chat with me to put away their little schemes and start listening attentively like grade schoolers. Everyone has lived here for many days now. I'm sure you've all noticed a lot of drawbacks. Even though we have food and water every day, the living conditions aren't comfortable. We even have to wait in line just to take a shower. This is obviously not something I enjoy. Big brother Caspian, even though everything you said is true, everyone is still really happy, being able to live like this in the apocalypse. Isn't it already amazing enough? We are all incredibly grateful to you. Yeah. Big brother Caspian protects us so well. This is already more than enough. You don't need to worry about us so much. The girls were incredibly understanding and considerate. One person voiced their opinion, and the rest chimed in with agreement. They weren't like those brain-dead idiots online who only know how to complain, or ungrateful scumbags who bite the hand that feeds them after getting a free ride. To be able to study here and not have to resort to shady businesses funded by rich kids only proved that they themselves were rich kids. Their families were more or less all wealthy. The education they received from childhood was entirely different. Knowing right from wrong was just the baseline. Naturally, they understood exactly how much I was sacrificing for them. Hearing everyone say this, the corners of my mouth curled up slightly, very satisfied with their reactions. It's fine, since you guys are following me. As long as I can provide something better, I will definitely strive for it. Hold on to your modesty for a second. Let's talk about the main topic for today. I lightly tapped the table, my gaze sweeping over everyone. I want to move to a new sanctuary. The requirement is that the space must be massive, the living conditions must be extremely comfortable, and it needs to be far away from areas heavily populated by zombies. You guys know this city better than I do. If anyone knows a suitable place, speak up and let's hear it. The moment those words were spoken, everyone started racking their brains, trying to recall locations. After thinking for a good while, they began throwing out places they thought were suitable. Let's go to the Wanfang skyscraper. No way. That's literally the city center. There are way too many zombies there. Then how about the Jinwoo residential district? A residential district would have even more zombies. I got it. A place with few people. We can go to a factory. That's not a bad idea, but it's so far away from the city. If we go there, how are we supposed to gather supplies? Two women can spin a conversation into a whole flower arrangement just off one topic. With this many girls gathered together, the scene was naturally self-explanatory. Regarding the location of the new sanctuary, after engaging in an intensely heated debate lasting a full 20 minutes, they still didn't have a definitive, authoritative idea. At this moment, Serafina coughed lightly, overpowering the voices of all the other girls. Everyone, hold on a second. I have a place that's quite suitable. Can you guys hear me out? Serafina's words still carried a lot of weight in their ears. After all, she was my woman. The girls quickly quieted down, quietly waiting for Serafina to speak. You guys know the Elysium Villa district, right? It's a certain distance away from the city center, but not too far either, because the property prices are absurdly high. There are very few residents. The buildings are all standalone villas, not a complex, chaotic maze like residential apartments. Plus, the perimeter is entirely fenced off. The entrance gates to the villa district are practically bulletproof. It would be absolutely perfect to remodel into a sanctuary. What do you guys think? Nobody dared to object to what Serafina said. Asking, what do you guys think, was honestly a bit redundant. They only dared to whisper amongst themselves for a bit, and then looked at me, handing the ultimate decision-making power entirely to me. But this honestly put me in a bit of a tight spot. I had never seen this Elysium Villa district. Hell, this was the first time I'd ever even heard of the place. I obviously had no idea about its layout, so naturally I couldn't judge if it was suitable or not. So I had no choice but to look at Alara. What do you think, Alara? Alara froze for a second. She didn't expect to suddenly become the ultimate decision-maker. Even though she was completely caught off guard, she still thought about it very carefully. If it were me, I would choose that place. A villa district has a wide, open field of vision. You can see the situation outside clearly at a glance. There are very few zombies inside. Once we clean it out, it'll be a fantastic sanctuary. All right, understood. I nodded to show my acknowledgement, putting on an expression like I was deeply contemplating it. But in my heart, the decision was pretty much already made. After all, besides that place, no one else had any better recommendations. Then let's pick that place. Give me 2 days to prepare, and then we'll all move over together. Hearing that I had approved this proposal, Serafina looked incredibly smug in front of everyone, unconsciously displaying her naturally competitive personality. After that, everyone went back to doing their own things, while I took Harper and headed out the door. This made Serafina watch with extreme displeasure. She had originally planned to spend some quality one-on-one time with me, and now he just walked off with someone else. Look over there! Looks like a few transport trucks. Right now on a suburban road, a row of transport trucks was parked on the empty roadside. There were no signs of a crash or collision around them, only about 10 zombies wandering around the open space, which were expertly and efficiently dispatched by me. I counted them, a total of 8 trucks. It seemed like a pre-apocalypse convoy team taking a break, and they just so happened to get caught in the zombie outbreak. All of them meeting their end right here. After Harper's inspection, these trucks were actually fully fueled. Seemed like they were freshly maintained too. There was no cargo in the trailers. Judging from the direction the trucks were facing, they were probably heading to a factory in the suburbs to load up goods. We can only drive one back. Memorize this location. When we have time, we'll come back and drive the rest away. Saying that, Harper picked a truck. The keys were still right in the ignition. Didn't even have to look for them. Be careful! Don't bump into anything! Suddenly, Harper offered a caring reminder. But I honestly had no idea why Harper was warning me about this. She doesn't actually think I'd get hurt just by bumping into something, right? I've already clearly demonstrated my strength to her, but it still felt like she was excessively worried, like a parent taking care of their own kid. Hiss? Her own kid? A sudden flash of inspiration hit me, and I looked at Harper. I felt like I had just discovered something very bizarre. Is there something on my face? Harper asked, her expression perfectly normal. I thought about it for a second, and tentatively asked, do you want me to change how I address you? Whatever you want, I don't mind. At this moment, Harper was still completely emotionless. Impossible to tell if she was happy or angry. I feel like calling you by your name is too formal. How about I call you Big Sister? No. Harper froze for a second. Her cheeks suddenly flushed red, and she immediately rejected the idea. Then what should I call you? Just calling you Harper directly probably doesn't sound very comfortable to you either, right? I instantly found this highly amusing, and felt the urge to tease her a bit more. Calling me Big Sister is definitely not right. I would feel too awkward hearing it myself. Then how about Aunt Harper? This time, Harper didn't say a word, but her micro-expressions underwent a massive shift. Her grip on the steering wheel tightened significantly. She was angry, but not entirely angry. At this point, Harper also knew I was doing this on purpose, just wanting to see what kind of reaction she'd have. If anyone else had done this to her, she would have definitely given them a look like they were a mental patient and silently muttered the word trash. But I was different. She didn't know why I was different. All she knew was that she felt she absolutely couldn't treat me like that, which resulted in Harper losing all her strength and countermeasures. She could only sit there sulking, biting her silver teeth, making her look even more alluring and charming. Don't be mad, don't be mad. Boys are young and full of energy. They all like to make little jokes. Having a bit of a twisted sense of humor is understandable. As her older sister, as her guardian, wait, that's not right either. No matter what he does, I just have to be tolerant and forgiving. It didn't take long before we drove the truck back into the city. The truck was incredibly loud, alerting a massive amount of zombies along the way. So I had no choice but to keep the window down and continuously use purple flame to clear the mobs. Suddenly, I heard a different kind of noise. I immediately told Harper to hit the brakes. As the truck slowly ground to a halt, we clearly heard several voices crying out for help. Help! Look over here! Help us! A series of desperate pleas, laced with sobs, echoed from the windows of a multi-story building. I looked up and saw that in 3 or 4 of the windows, people were sticking their heads out, frantically waving their hands and screaming for help. Survivors from nearby. Harper made a simple observation and then stopped talking. The city is massive. It's completely normal that there are still survivors alive at this point. Harper wasn't surprised at all by this random encounter, but she was very curious how I would choose to handle running into survivors. And at this moment, I, looking at those desperate survivors begging for their lives, carefully distinguished between the men and women. Upon finding out there were women, I decisively hopped out of the truck and called out to Harper. Let's go take a look. He chose to go save people without a second thought. Caspian, you rascal, you truly are a saint. Young man, be careful. There are a ton of zombies around here. Are you guys from a sanctuary? Can you please save us? We don't have many people. Take us into your sanctuary. My arrogant, swaggering approach of driving a massive truck made these survivors, whose resources were completely exhausted and who were hovering on the brink of death, see a singular ray of hope for survival. But I'm no shining beacon of selflessness. Everything I do for my own benefit. I didn't rush to make a decision. Instead, I asked the most crucial question. How many of you are there? Tell me your ages and genders. Seeing that I didn't outright refuse, and even proactively asked for their head count, these people instantly felt a surge of joy in their hearts, and couldn't help but get excited. But the reality was, I was just terrified of running all the way up there, only to find out it was just a bunch of middle-aged aunties. After all, the ones sticking their heads out of the windows didn't look very young. Our family only has 2 people. I'm 29, and my daughter is 8. The corner of my mouth twitched. I mean, she's young all right, but that's a bit too young. After I cleared out the zombies, one of the apartment doors cracked open just a sliver. From inside, a girl with bangs completely covering her eyes peeked out. Judging by the facial features, you could actually see she wasn't bad looking at all. Quite delicate, actually. However, her entire body radiated a very unique, distinct aura, giving off an incredibly groggy, muddled vibe. Thinking about it carefully, I suddenly had a moment of epiphany. Isn't this the exact same aura I had when I was a basement-dwelling otaku? No wonder she looks good but doesn't dare to show her face. Understandable. The girl behind the door originally wanted to say hi, but upon seeing me, she hesitated, wanting to speak but too scared to. Very fitting for my stereotype of a basement-dwelling shut-in. You come here, I spoke slowly. The girl at the door shuddered violently and marched out exactly like she was in military boot camp, standing in place, her body still trembling slightly. Attention! The girl's body snapped perfectly straight, listening to my command and executing it flawlessly. But then she realized something wasn't right. Wasn't she here to beg for rescue? Why was she being treated like a plaything? The girl protested internally, but didn't dare to make a single peep out loud. Soon, the other residents also began opening their doors and walking out. Seeing that I was actually standing there completely unharmed, the shock on their faces was entirely undisguised. You killed all the zombies? Cut the useless chatter. I'm giving you 10 minutes to pack your things. I'm leaving in exactly 10 minutes. If you want to come along, get in the back of the truck yourselves. I didn't have much patience for them, so my tone naturally wasn't very polite either. The crowd didn't dare to question me anymore. Under my urging, they rushed back into their apartments and started packing their bags. Actually, there wasn't much left to take anyway. After all, it had been so long. Any supplies that could be consumed were already gone. At most, they just grabbed some medicine and a few changes of clothes. A few moments later, 6 people walked out carrying their backpacks. Hold on tight, everyone. I probably won't be able to check on you guys back there. I gave a quick warning and hopped into the passenger seat. After glancing at the scenery on the road for a bit, I quickly lost interest. Rather than looking at these ruined, dilapidated streets, I might as well look at the scenery right in front of me. And Harper, being the literal scenery herself, naturally noticed my gaze. Are you peeking at me? I call this appreciating art, I stated with a perfectly straight face. causing a few more shades of blush to paint the beauty's face. It's just that Harper was focused on driving and couldn't get distracted. Otherwise, she would have definitely kept her head down for half the day, waiting for her HP bar to regenerate before engaging me in a verbal duel. This is the sanctuary? This is so weird. The crowd got out of the truck and stared at the cafeteria, muttering in their hearts, while vocally not daring to say a single word. Once we're inside, every single one of you must listen to what the others say. This is only a temporary sanctuary. I'll be changing our base of operations in a couple of days. I'll assign you guys work when the time comes. Don't even think about slacking off. The crowd nodded like their heads were jackhammers, following me into the sanctuary. Valerie also brought the other girls over to welcome us. Looking at all these young girls, the young wife, her husband, and the otaku girl, all felt their brains completely glitch out. They couldn't help but doubt if this was actually a sanctuary. In their impression, a sanctuary was definitely supposed to be composed of a group of rugged, tough-looking survivors, both men and women. But the sea of girls standing right in front of them, not only were they dressed in bright, clean clothes, their skin and figures were perfectly maintained. There wasn't a single sign of malnutrition. Newcomers again, huh? Do you need me to arrange things? Valerie proactively walked over, taking on the role of the sanctuary's NPC. Sorry to trouble you. It's no trouble. Valerie didn't quite dare to look me in the eyes. The moment we made eye contact, she would think about the kissing yesterday and her study session with Nova today. All right, everyone, follow me. Wait, those two girls, stay behind. Follow me in a bit. I pointed at two people in the group, the two youngest teenage girls. The married couple's hearts instantly clenched, anxiously gripping their daughter's hand, looking at me with eyes full of desperate pleading. I'll come find you guys later. Even though she was nervous and terrified, that girl didn't hesitate. Trembling with fear, she walked over. That short-haired girl, after hesitating multiple times, also walked over to my side. Harper took a look, opened her mouth, looking like she wasn't very happy about it, but she still silently walked away. In an instant, only me and the two girls were left downstairs. The two girls stared at me anxiously, trying their hardest not to be nervous, yet shaking worse than leaves in a hurricane. State your names. The daughter of the married couple answered, Chloe Luna. What's your relationship with the moon goddess? No, I am Luna, not Lunar, Luna explained frantically, waving her hands defensively like she had just met a 5-star general. Starting today, you two are joining us. No objections, right? Are you kidding me? As if they'd dare to object. Even though I couldn't read their minds, I could pretty much guess the gist of it. But compared to all that, what was more important was, I was far more interested in the rewards the system just dropped. 19 reward. Passive skill when engaged in combat. Attributes continuously increase over time. Maximum bonus ends 200% status. Weakened, Chloe age 22 rating. A reward. Enhancement potion. Seeing me stay completely silent for 2 whole seconds, the two girls became increasingly uneasy, thinking I was mentally simulating terrible things to do to them in my head. While right now I actually didn't have any impure thoughts at all. I just looked at Luna. Move your hair aside and let me see. Ah! Luna reluctantly complied. Beneath the strands of hair was a pair of pitiful, beautiful eyes. I felt she did look quite pretty. But overall, comparing this little face to Serafina and the others, it still looked a bit too childish and immature. It didn't quite exude that mature, feminine charm. Simply put, at first glance, I didn't really feel anything special. Even though with her eyes covered, she perfectly matched my personal aesthetic tastes. So I was extremely curious. Where exactly did the weight of this S-tier rating come from? After all, whether it was Seraphina or Alara, Lyra, Nova, or Harper, every single one of them had at least one absolutely top-tier heaven-defying trait. Whatever. Since the system said so, it definitely had its reasons. I'll just slowly discover it later. At this moment, the two girls were still waiting for me to declare my stance. Having already imagined countless horrific scenarios in their heads, they were getting more and more terrified by the second. Is he going to take us somewhere else in a minute? Just as they were thinking that, I finally spoke. You can leave, Luna stays. The two girls froze, looking at each other in confusion. It took a good while for them to snap back to reality. Me? Chloe pointed at herself, expressing her absolute bewilderment. Does there need to be a reason? If you want to stay, you can stay. You can follow me later. Sorry to bother you. Chloe frantically backed away. Before leaving, she shot Luna a look of deep sympathy and complex emotion. Watching her only fellow comrade leave, Luna's heartbeat instantly skyrocketed. Standing right here, I felt like I could audibly hear the thump, thump, thump coming from her chest. Follow me. My intense interest was fully piqued. I brought Luna upstairs and walked into my own partition room, while Luna stood at the doorway, her footsteps glued to the floor. Her expression looked incredibly conflicted, not daring to take a single step forward. I issued the command again. Only then did Luna walk inside, pinching her little hands together, tears welling up in her eyes. Seeing her acting so timid and cowering, I immediately hit her with a classic head pat. Luna scrambled backward again and again, letting out muffled, indistinct whimpers. Disobeying again, huh? What's the meaning of this? Affection level isn't high enough yet, is that it? Do I actually have to grind affection points before I unlock the head pat feature? If this is a dating sim, I think I can totally go down the evil route. Just grind the pain meter instead. Won't let me pet you? Then go pour me a glass of water. I didn't make things difficult for her either. Sat down on a chair nearby and watched her quietly. Luna wiped away the tears that accidentally slipped out, still finding it hard to believe that I would let her off the hook this easily. No, maybe he's just playing with me. He'll probably extend his evil clutches again in a second. Where's the water? Luna looked around, but didn't see a water dispenser. Find it yourself. I looked toward a box of bottled water behind Luna, gesturing for her to look in that direction. But Luna, following my gaze, mistakenly thought I was looking directly at her. Then she pointed a finger at herself and asked with extreme uncertainty, I just went to the bathroom. I was also a bit stunned by that. Gave her a weird look, got up and walked behind Luna, grabbed a bottle of mineral water. Luna turned around and made eye contact with me at this exact moment. Her exposed little face was instantly engulfed in crimson red. She completely lost her balance and fell flat on the floor. I'm sorry. Your thought process is fantastic. Next time, please stop thinking like that. I grabbed another bottle of water, opened it, and handed it to Luna, telling her to take a sip and cool down. You probably don't want me treating this little incident like a funny anecdote and telling all the other girls about it, right? Luna shuddered violently. Imagined that scenario in her head for a second and instantly felt a freezing chill shoot down her spine. Please, I'm begging you, don't tell anyone. I can pour water for you forever. I'll work like a horse and toil like a cow for you. Luna's reaction was incredibly fun to watch. Taking advantage of this moment, I reached out and patted her head again. This time, she only resisted a tiny little bit. There are other girls who already want to work like a horse and toil like a cow for me. If you want that job, you're gonna have to get in line. For now, you'll just be my little lackey. Saying that, I reached into a storage box and pulled out a collar. This collar was originally meant for Alara, but I hadn't gotten around to using it yet. Might as well toss it to Luna to wear. I tossed the collar over, but she failed to catch it. It smacked right into her head and fell down. Luna rubbed her head and picked the collar up. On the half of her face that was covered by her hair, shyness and panic intertwined, but she couldn't hide it at all. Hesitantly, she put the collar on. Can the leash be a little longer? What leash? This is plenty. Oh, then what do I do now? Luna crossed her hands in front of her body, displaying proper etiquette. Find something to do yourself. But, can I ask a question? Luna asked in a voice as quiet as a mosquito. Are all the other girls in the sanctuary treated like this too? No, only you. Why? Did I do something wrong? Are you punishing me? Luna had wanted to ask this question for a long time. She remembered very clearly. The reason she chose to follow me was because she wanted to live here, to huddle together for warmth with the other survivors. She never planned on becoming a plaything for someone's amusement. You didn't do anything wrong, but I didn't force you to do anything either. Since you didn't refuse, I thought you actually liked this kind of thing. So, you were actually just messing with me. If I rejected you, you really wouldn't force me? Yep, pretty much. How can you do that? Luna's little face finally couldn't hold it in anymore. She let out an angry shout, but it was completely useless. Looking at the expression in my eyes, her body once again involuntarily sat back down, her back slumping over as well. Even knowing that refusing me was fine, she was still incredibly terrified. Forget it, you just stick to being a lackey. Saying that, my hand moved with lightning speed, pinching that soft, tender cheek of hers, not giving her any chance to retreat. She covered her face, rubbing it in pain, while I continued to scan Luna up and down, pondering how exactly to grind some affection points, to see if I could unlock any new interactions. Finally, my gaze landed on her stomach. Want to eat a sausage? I asked with pure innocent intentions. But for some unknown reason, Luna's face flushed red again, not daring to utter a sound. Then how about some bread? Luna swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Just hearing the names of food, her stomach started growling fiercely, yearning to eat something. Bread, snacks, and other junk food. I had stockpiled a ton of them in the room. I casually grabbed one and tore open the packaging. To me, it wasn't exactly a mouth-watering aroma, but it instantly awakened all of Luna's taste buds. She swallowed saliva several times in a row, her eyes completely glued to it. Eat up. I held the bread, waiting for Luna to come grab it herself. And then, Luna's little face flushed red once again. She swept a few strands of hair aside, crouched her body down, opened her mouth and bit directly onto the bread I was holding. This action looked exactly like Alara, except Alara doesn't really like eating bread. Luna lay there on her stomach, chewing continuously, her small mouth stuffed full of the rich, fragrant taste of bread. Her stomach, which had been empty for far too long, was brutally and thoroughly satisfied by me this time. An entire loaf of bread was finished in no time. On the very last bite, Luna couldn't quite stop in time, and accidentally bit my finger too. I'm sorry! Luna's apology speed rivaled the flash. I didn't care about getting bitten once, but I was still extremely curious. Why didn't you just take the bread with your hands to eat it? Luna put on an expression of utter shock. I thought, you wouldn't let me. Your thought process is fantastic. I've decided to take the I thought from earlier and the I thought from right now and broadcast them to absolutely everyone. No! I guess I don't have to. I revealed a pleasant smile. Let me see your face. If you let me see, I won't tell anyone. The moment those words dropped, Luna instinctively clutched her clothes, shaking her head desperately. I spoke in a highly confused tone. I literally just want to see what you look like with your hair pulled back and you won't even let me? Are you being a bit too stuck up? Oh, the face is fine. Luna pinched herself, trying to force herself to calm down a bit. After mentally preparing herself, she shyly brushed her bangs aside, revealing the beautiful eyes hidden underneath, staring at me nervously. To her, this was incredibly shameful. But compared to letting me see other things, just looking at her face was nothing. Still want to eat? Saying that, I tore open a brand-name sausage, holding it in my hand, waiting for Luna to take it. This time, she followed my instructions and reached her hand out, but applied a little force, and realized I had absolutely zero intention of letting go. After hesitating for a moment, she lowered her head once again, and took a bite of the sausage. Hubby, I'm back to find you, Serafina, having heard that I returned, joyfully pushed the door open, and the result, she saw exactly this scene. Hearing someone come in, Luna panicked so much she stopped eating completely. Her body froze in place, slowly turned around, and locked eyes with Serafina's piercing gaze. So scary, Luna trembled internally. From Serafina's hostile gaze, she felt an entirely unconcealed wave of animosity. This person, called Caspian hubby, did she misunderstand something? This is bad, I need to explain. Luna formulated her plan, but she completely forgot one crucial thing. People who rarely interact with others experience a severe degradation in their verbal communication skills. Therefore, the very first words out of her mouth were, "Please don't misunderstand. I was just eating his sausage." No, I mean eating his bread, that's not right either. I was just sneaking a bite. No, wait, not sneaking a bite. I actually wasn't trying to hide and eat it behind your back. 4 sentences, scoring 4 consecutive critical hits right on Serafina's soul. Serafina's heart shuddered, looking at this unfamiliar woman. For the first time ever, she clenched her fists. This is way too arrogant. Not only is she seducing Caspian, she's mocking me right to my face, saying these things to me on purpose. Luna realized that after her explanation, not only did Serafina's hostility not decrease, it evolved from mere hostility into a bone-chilling, freezing killing intent. She had absolutely zero doubts that if I wasn't standing right here, Serafina would have definitely charged forward, grabbed her, and chucked her out the window to feed the zombies. So scary. Luna anxiously scooted closer to me, attempting to seek shelter. This maneuver left even me utterly speechless, but thankfully, Serafina never threw tantrums in front of me. After seeing all this, she forcefully suppressed her emotions, pretending to be completely unfazed. Who is she? A lackey I picked up. Oh, a lackey, huh? Then hubby, if this lackey were to get hurt, would your heart ache for her? Serafina asked me, trying to gauge my exact attitude towards this person. Hearing the conversation between me and Serafina, Luna's little heart started pounding wildly, looking at me with pleading eyes. You know me. Usually my heart only aches for you. I appreciatively eyed Serafina's outfit today, which looked quite similar to a school uniform, and curled my finger. Serafina immediately walked over. You're the best. Saying that, Serafina grabbed my hand, placed it on her collar, parted her lips slightly, looking at me with eyes as soft as silk, demanding a kiss. As her mouth was invaded by the tip of my tongue, Serafina let out an incredibly alluring, "Oh my God, what is she looking at?" Luna stood there like an idiot, covering her small mouth with her tiny hands, her eyes wide open, staring completely unblinking. Slowly, she started feeling extremely uncomfortable physically. Her entire being was not okay. A moment later, I reached out and wiped the corner of Serafina's mouth with my thumb, then looked up at Luna. "Don't you know how to let yourself out?" I'm sorry. I thought you were purposely making me watch." Realizing she had been acting as a massive third wheel this whole time, Luna frantically ran out and slammed the door shut. Seeing Luna leave, Serafina smiled sweetly. "Am I beautiful?" Saying that, she pressed a finger against my lips. "Don't speak. You can use your actions to tell me exactly how beautiful I am." I ended up spending quite a bit of time to secure today's reward, enhancement potion. Serafina was exceptionally energetic this time, didn't even want to go to sleep. When I finally walked out, she was still hugging me tightly. I was originally planning to go check on the others, but the moment I opened the door, I saw Luna squatting by the door, her face completely flushed red. You didn't leave?" Serafina blushed, pointing at her in shock. "I'm sorry. I didn't know where to go. But I wasn't here the whole time. I went somewhere else for a bit. I just got back." Whether she was here the whole time or just got back, Serafina was so embarrassed she buried herself completely into my embrace, reaching the point where she was almost on the verge of tears. Serafina's reaction immediately made Luna completely at a loss for what to do. However, I didn't care, and Serafina didn't say anything either. "Follow me. I'll have Shayoya assign you a room," I called out, telling Luna to follow. We had played enough for now. It was time to hand her over to Valerie to get settled in. Afterwards, I found Valerie and handed her a box of communicators. "I picked these up. They can communicate even without a network connection. Take them downstairs and distribute them to everyone. From now on, no matter where I am, I can contact you guys. Pick these up?" Valerie wore an adorably clueless expression. picking up a communicator that looked even smarter than a smartphone, and started studying it. Don't forget about tonight. I gently rubbed Valerie's shoulder. When I finally finished all my daily check-in tasks, the time had already reached nightfall. Therefore, I went straight to Valerie's door and knocked on the room door. As the door opened, Valerie's small hand slipped through the crack and grabbed mine and yanked me right inside. I already understand everything now. Next, you listen to me, okay? If you don't say anything, I'll take that as a yes. Then come sit down. Saying that, Valerie pulled me over to sit on a chair and fumbled around in the darkness, pulled out a tiny nightlight and turned it on. By the faint, dim glow, what appeared right in front of my eyes was astonishingly a mirror. Subsequently, Valerie, utilizing Nova's ultimate tutorial, very quickly began the dungeon raid. But just one glance and her mind went completely blank. This is completely different from what Nova said, right? Didn't she say she had no problems with it either? No matter how you look at this, there's a massive problem here, right? Valerie felt like she had been completely scammed by Nova, but with things having reached this point, she had no other choice. Staring into the mirror, Valerie strictly adhered to Nova's teachings and successfully achieved what she thought was utterly impossible. Truly an incredibly inspiring and motivational story. The next morning, Valerie emerged from the room with a face completely flushed red, refusing to make eye contact with anyone, especially Nova, who just gave her a knowing, innocent little smile. Despite her embarrassment, the undeniable bond between us had been firmly established. She had truly repaid her debt, and in doing so, found a secure place by my side. Over the next 2 days, the sanctuary was a hive of activity. Following my orders, everyone packed up the supplies, the cold storage meat, and the various clothes we had scavenged. I didn't stay idle either. I used the remaining blue crystal cores to craft the Pioneer construction androids and a few drones for aerial scouting. When the morning of the 3rd day arrived, our grand convoy finally rolled out of the university campus. Harper drove the massive transport truck we had secured earlier, heavily modified with some extra steel plating welded on by the Pioneer androids. Valerie and Hazel drove 2 heavily armored SUVs we found nearby, carrying the rest of the girls. As we navigated the ruined streets of the city, the zombie hordes naturally swarmed toward the noise of our engines. However, they never even got close. Standing on top of the lead truck, I was like a god of destruction. Whenever a massive horde blocked the road, I simply raised my hand. Wind pressure blasted them into the air, followed by a sweeping torrent of purple flame that incinerated them before they hit the ground. For the newly evolved, heat-resistant zombies that dared to charge through the fire, a single cast of my newly acquired frost invasion froze them dead in their tracks, shattering them into icy dust. With the empowerment passive skill boosting all my crystal core abilities, clearing a city block took no more effort than taking a casual stroll. The girls watching from the vehicles were completely mesmerized. Any lingering fears they had about surviving in this apocalypse were thoroughly crushed under the absolute, overwhelming display of my power. By the afternoon, we arrived at the Elysium Villa district. Just as Serafina had described, it was an isolated paradise. The wrought iron gates were easily secured, and the few zombies wandering the manicured lawns were swiftly dispatched. The moment we cleared the area, I deployed the Pioneer androids. Like tireless, highly intelligent worker ants, they immediately began reinforcing the perimeter walls with steel and concrete scavenged from nearby ruins, setting up the Watchers as automated defense turrets, and installing the comprehensive generator to power the entire district. Within a week, the Elysium Villa district had transformed into an impenetrable fortress. One evening, I was standing on the grand balcony of the largest master villa, overlooking our newly established kingdom. The sunset painted the apocalyptic sky in shades of brilliant orange and deep purple. Inside the reinforced walls, the lights were on, soft music was playing, and the aroma of a hot, freshly cooked meal wafted up from the kitchen downstairs. Footsteps approached from behind. Harper walked up, holding 2 glasses of wine. She handed me one and leaned against the railing, her gaze fixed on the distant ruined city skyline. "The organization will eventually notice the missing generator and the Watchers," she said, her voice calm but carrying a hint of underlying concern. "And my family is still with them. They have resources, Caspian. Powerful ones. They might be researching forced evolution." I took a sip of the wine, savoring the taste, and let out a soft chuckle. I wrapped my free arm around her waist, pulling her close. "Let them come," I replied casually, looking at the distant horizon with pure anticipation. "The zombies out there are evolving, dropping better crystal cores. If your mysterious organization wants to deliver themselves to my doorstep, I'll gladly accept the experience points and the loot. When the time is right, we'll pay them a visit ourselves and bring your family back." Harper looked up at me, the last traces of her anxiety melting away under my absolute confidence. She smiled, a rare, genuinely beautiful smile, and rested her head against my shoulder. "Caspian, Appa! Dinner is ready!" Lyra's sweet voice echoed from the living room inside. I turned around to walk back in. The scene before me was something straight out of a dream. Seraphina and Alara were setting the grand dining table, bickering playfully about who got to sit closest to me. Valerie was helping Luna carry out massive platters of steaming food, while Nova sat quietly on the sofa, waiting for her chance to feed me. The rest of the girls were laughing, chatting, and enjoying a life that seemed completely disconnected from the hellscape outside. I used to be an invisible orphan, a mere background NPC bullied by rich kids and ignored by the world. But the end of the world had been my beginning. As I sat down at the head of the table, surrounded by the most stunning, devoted women I could have ever imagined, a familiar mechanical chime echoed in my mind. Daily check-in available. Caspian Stabsalute Ruler. I smiled, pulling Serafina onto my lap, while Alara happily leaned against my other side. The world outside might belong to the dead, the evolving monsters, or some shadowy organizations playing God. But inside these walls, I am the only god that matters, and my game has only just begun.